To everyone, Jarong is just an average 15-year-old student at a nondescript high school. But what they don't know is he already solo clears dungeons, while all the rich, talented kids from elite academies are merely preparing for their first ascent. It's illegal, a death wish, but he has no choice. He's doing it for the mounting bills of his sick father, once the world's strongest warrior who trained him since childhood. Now, he's retired and broken in this savage new world. This entire apocalyptic nightmare began the day portals tore open the sky, allowing monsters to pour through. They swarmed in with impunity. Later, scientists theorized a connection to another world far across the universe, a world a lot like Earth that had been utterly annihilated. The remnants of this dead planet rained down, hurtling straight for Earth. The impact left everyone in a state of shock. But the horror didn't stop there. Fragments of the other world began to fuse with our own. A colossal tree, dwarfing any skyscraper, erupted from the ground. This was the start of the so-called adhesion phenomenon. From that moment, the world plunged into chaos, with terrifying creatures hunting humans relentlessly. About 17% of the planet's surface was completely ravaged, now teeming with monsters. These areas became massive danger zones where the beasts slaughtered anyone in sight. It felt like humanity's end, as conventional weapons proved useless against these otherworldly abominations. But then, humans started to awaken unnatural powers. With new skills and mythic strength, it was humanity's turn to fight back. They successfully forced the monsters back into the portals. Over time, these strange gateways across the globe became known as dungeons, and the humans with these powers were called adventurers. Countless schools and academies were established to train the awakened youth. Among them, the absolute pinnacle is the Adolescent Training Facility in the Republic of Korea, renowned for producing top-tier adventurers. For the last 25 years, they've deployed some of the greatest, and that place is the world-famous Soldier High School. Even ordinary people gossip about this school of specialized killers, remarking how they approach dungeon dives like they're just regular exams. More than that, these students show no fear of death, and they have official clearance to enter those lethal zones. Their arrogance is unbelievable, which is likely why so many are desperate to enroll. Suddenly, the two friends hear a commotion from some girls, and a crowd of students gathering to see some impossibly handsome guy. Just one look, and anyone can see this man is not entirely human. His mixed elf heritage only deepens the enigma. One of the boys is utterly stunned, unsure what kind of creature he's even witnessing. That's when his nerdy friend explains the guy is actually quite famous, even on TV. It's strange the other hasn't heard of him. It's then clarified that this is Diav Choi, son of a legendary adventurer and an elven mother. Many have great expectations for him, believing he's a prodigy who will easily secure a top 10 rank before he graduates. At only 17, Diav is a first year at Soldier High and has already attempted dungeon runs 14 times. Still, his friend fails to see what all the fuss is about, since Diav isn't some pop idol or celebrity. As they talk, the nerdy kid turns to Jarong, asking if he's working today. He mentions a karaoke bar where Lee Yunji went with her friends, but Jarong, absorbed in his phone, shows no interest in such things, just telling them to go have fun without him. The regular kids try to convince Jarong to hang out after their exam, but the busy loner just brushes them off and leaves again, promising to see them next week. Later, people might wonder why Jarong pushes himself so hard. The truth is, he has a sick father at home, and the medical bills just keep piling up. So, even on days he wants to quit, the grind always calls him back. Meanwhile, Diav, surrounded by the flashes of paparazzi cameras, catches sight of Jarong leaving. One of Diav's bodyguards leans in, quietly asking if the young master has an issue with that student. But Diav dismisses it, claiming he's just seeing things. Jarong, despite his exhaustion, forces himself to an old, abandoned station, where a broker, I'm Juan, introduces a new client. But the moment he sees him, he erupts, yelling at Juan for not assigning his best man for the job. Calmly, but firmly, Juan informs him that Jarong is his finest. Still, the client scoffs at the claim, making it clear he is not looking to be scammed. He states bluntly, he only wants top-tier talent. And in his view, Jarong isn't it. This bald, loudmouth client demands someone else, threatening consequences if he doesn't get his way. Suddenly, Jarong turns to the giant, standing beside the noisy client, asking if he's an adventurer because, honestly, he's starting to feel pity for the man. The brute calls him stupid for defending the client, clearly unimpressed. That's when the big shot declares that a broken arm or leg should be enough to teach the brat a lesson. This man is Lee Pilgu, a former silver rank adventurer who has returned from the dungeon at least 81 times. The broker quickly advises Jarong to get on his knees before things turn ugly, but instead, Jarong's aura flares as he tells them he doesn't know how to beg. This is Yu Jarong, Donganhai's first dungeon smuggler, who's made an illegal return from the dungeon 371 times. When it comes to the most dangerous criminals who endanger the world, dungeon smuggling resides at the very top. It all begins when adventurers break the sacred vow they made before entering the dungeon. After clearing out all the monsters, they proceed to search for hidden treasures buried deep within. Once they get their hands on the artifacts, they head for the exit, But that is when inspectors step in to check everything. The reason is brutally simple. Those treasures often hold immense power. If even one of them slips through unchecked, it could fall into the wrong hands and unleash chaos beyond all imagination. Because of this very reason, the Adventurers Association always inspects and registers the items first, then releases them while applying taxes based on their value. That part truly stings adventurers, seeing their hard-earned treasure diminished by taxes. Among them are those who break the rules and find clandestine ways to work the system illegally. These people convince adventurers who loathe paying taxes to smuggle the items for them. If these hidden treasures go undetected, society suffers a major blow. That's why the association urges everyone to report these shady people and avoid that mess. Just as Juan lights a cigarette, the bald client glares at him, clearly annoyed that he's letting two adventurers with temper issues spar inside their hideout. The client informs the broker that Pilgu wasn't exiled for his injuries, but for brutally assaulting his own teammates. The man could choke out anyone who dared to stand against him. On top of that, he warns the broker not to expect this gorilla to go easy on the kid, as they might end up having to clean up his corpse afterward. While stretching, Jarong couldn't care less about Pilgu's hobby of assaulting teammates. He casually asks if the man's actually a criminal, though Jarong knows he is in no position to be asking. Pilgu, flashing a sinister grin, says the pathetic guy was dragging him down, so he simply disposed of the trash. For a second, Jarong is confused, not quite getting what this brute is trying to say. Then he figures Pilgu is calling himself trash, and the broker can't help but smirk at the jest. Jarong figures Pilgu's own vile attitude is what pushed him to throw away his license deliberately. In the middle of the talk, Pilgu snaps, launching a crushing punch at his face. But Jarong, cool as ever, dodges it without flinching, and remarks it's quite rude to attack someone without warning. That seems to sting the big man, whose anger shoots through the roof. As the gorilla charges him, Jarong decides it's time for payback and lands a rock-solid kick directly to his face. The bald client's jaw drops, watching his guard get demolished by a kid. The broker, wearing a sinister grin, reminds the client again that he told him he was bringing in his best and most skilled man, and that is Jarong. Pilgu cannot even recover from the shock of that kick to his jaw. Meanwhile, Jarong honestly expected this so-called big shot to be far tougher, but the disappointment is real. Little did this brute know, he made a fatal error by dismissing the smuggling teen as just another kid. What really sets Jarong apart isn't just his nerve, but his insane reflexes and the devastating power behind his kick. Pilgu, now shaken, can already realize this kid's power is creeping into professional territory. The broker smirks, seeing the giant finally grasp his near-zero odds of winning. This just wasn't his day. Still, Baldy tries to maintain his composure, noting that while the kid is skilled, it was just one kick. As Baldy boasts about Pilgu, the broker had already deduced the big man was a tank. Baldy is shocked by the broker's sharp perception. Meanwhile, an enraged Pilgu is ready to discipline this brat, insisting no cheap trick changes the fact that Jeong is just smuggler trash. He then unleashes a surge of power, ready to show Jeong his true capabilities. After the adhesion phenomenon, people awakened abilities beyond human limits. Everyone developed different builds and unique talents, which eventually led to the discovery of numerous latent abilities. From that point, adventurers began training based on their awakened skills and were assigned matching roles, like the tank. Pilgu starts a full display of his bulk-up, iron skin, and giant strength. Jarong feigns being completely impressed, acting amazed by Pilgu's power surge. A tank's role is to protect teammates from a dungeon's dangers. They are the front line, the ones who face monsters head-on to keep their squad alive. Their bodies, honed to the absolute limit, are so tough they can deflect bullets from standard firearms without effort. In war, top-tier tanks can withstand the overwhelming firepower of missiles, acting as living, walking barriers. Jarong is genuinely surprised to witness a real adventurer's power. Just as Pilgu moves to crush him, the kid nimbly dodges, leaving Baldy stunned to his very core. The broker appears instantly to catch Baldy, who was about to collapse. Seeing the two ready to clash again, the broker wonders if these lunatics will seriously wreck another person's property. Meanwhile, Jarong locks eyes with Pilgu, his gaze now deadly serious. He first evades a heavy blow that punches a hole clean through the wall. The brute dares to ask why Jeong isn't using cheap tricks like before, but the lad states he's not foolish enough for an obvious trap. The broker on the side mentally calculates Pilgu's raw power, estimating it's like the impact of a mid-sized truck. One direct hit would mean pulverized bones. Just then, the broker yells for Jarong to end this mess, warning that more damage cuts his pay. The brute, still furious, tells Jarong that such cheap tricks are useless against a professional like him. But the calm young man is ready to prove him fatally wrong, gripping the metal rod as if just warming up. This cocky attitude enrages Pilgu, and now the madman charges straight at Jarong, intending to end this for good. To the public, tanks seem invincible due to their extreme durability, but even they possess a clear-cut weakness. They are inherently vulnerable to anyone who can focus destructive force onto a single point. Damage dealers, for example, have no issue shattering such defenses. So as Pilgu lunges at Jarong, the kid is already waiting, with a metal rod in hand, ready to land the killing blow. One clean strike, and the so-called gorilla is coughing up blood. Baldy looks like he's having a seizure from the shock, while the broker just grins, as if he expected this all along. Bleeding, Pilgu growls, demanding where Jarong learned to fight like that. But Jarong just shrugs, saying he is mistaken, though he figures the man must have seen that move before, maybe from his father. Most adventurers are split into 4 basic ranks based on their experience and abilities: Gemstone, Copper class, Silver class, and Gold class. Each rank includes perks like dungeon access and tax benefits. But the top 100 adventurers, the rankers, are in a league of their own, and they are assigned special color ranks beyond the usual system. Taking a trip down memory lane, young Jarong always saw his dad as the greatest adventurer. And that wasn't simply because he was his father. He used to sneak peeks of his powerful old man training out in the field, his father's. From that era, the history of the first generation is like a grim fairy tale. In battles that erupted without warning, those first adventurers fell one after another, and Jarong's father witnessed it all. For them, it was a waking nightmare. Compounding this, they desperately needed intel, but had almost no solid information to fight the chaos. No one understood what dungeons were, or what kind of monsters lurked within their depths. When they first entered, these proto-heroes fought creatures like Gakamaloth. By today's standards, such monsters might be trivial, but for the unprepared first generation, they were terrifying, unknown calamities. Back then, Yusong fought fearlessly against those beasts with only his metal rod. It was an era without skills to aid in battle, no flashy powers or special abilities, just pure, unyielding grit. The fight's impact was so fierce that the rod's titanium, with its low erosion resistance, actually began to melt. Even common items were a rarity in those days. Through a clenched jaw and sheer will, Yang faced the beast alone, gripping his molten metal rod. In those desperate moments, he stood firm and swung with his last ounce of strength, landing the fatal blow that felled the monster. The first-generation adventurers endured countless trials, putting their lives on the line with no guide for a Manhwa level up. One day, when reinforcements finally broke through the tunnel, they were stunned silent by the sight of Xiang sitting calmly beside the monster's corpse. The survivors of those early wars passed their experience and victories to the next generation, earning their title as heroes. Jarong's father became known as the Dragon Slayer Yang after he hunted and killed a dragon. The day he slew that beast, the world was left in awe, and he rose to become Asia's top-ranking adventurer. Jarong looked up to his father with profound respect and admiration, watching his training with breathless excitement. To him, his dad was invincible, until the day he coughed up a spray of blood. The cause was later found to be poison. Witnessing that shattered Jarong, and he wept uncontrollably. During an expedition, Yuang had encountered a lethal poison. Just like every other time, he had tried to simply endure and overcome it. When he was admitted to the hospital, his body could no longer take the strain, and he began vomiting blood frequently. All the overwork and pushing through hell had finally taken its toll. After decades of that brutal life, his body was utterly wrecked. The colleagues he once trusted with his life took advantage of his weakness, stealing his fortune and his achievements. That betrayal struck deep, pushing him into a complete mental crisis. For a long time, he suffered both mentally and physically. Many years later, his son Jarong visited him after school. By then, the world had begun to forget the Dragon Slayer Yang, and his father's hair had turned stark white. He no longer had the presence of a hero, struggling with an incurable poison and having lost everything. His life had extracted a terrible price. He was no longer the hero he once was. Only a forgotten adventurer remained. That memory flash brought only pain, and Jarong released the metal rod, walking away while Pilgu was still unconscious. Baldy couldn't believe his eyes, watching Pilgu lose to a mere kid. The broker seemed unfazed. He never thought Pilgu was particularly impressive anyway. As Jarong walked out, he muttered just loud enough to be heard that bragging about defeating your own teammate is a sure sign of weakness. And that, he noted, is one of 2 reasons why good adventurers call it quits. To Baldy, Jarong coolly explained the 2 ways a good adventurer retires: either their body finally breaks down, or they end up dead during an expedition. He also told Baldy to fire him if he's paid more than minimum wage, since any fool can act tough for a moment. The broker smoothly slides into his business pitch, stating the job's pay has just doubled. Baldy tries to protest, but the broker silences him instantly, reminding the man that he started the fight in the first place. This isn't a charity. Realizing he has no ground to stand on, Baldy falls silent. The silence hangs heavy, a promise of more conflict to come. If this story has you hooked, consider subscribing to see what happens next, and let us know your theories in the comments. Jarong steps up, signing off on the order. Later, as he's relaxing with some water, the broker shatters the calm, asking if he's heard of the Imperial Wasp. The name alone makes Jarong choke, shocked, questioning if they're truly meant to face that thing because that's an insane task. The Imperial Wasp is among the deadliest monsters on the planet. It nested in Uido, which devolved into Korea's own demon realm, infamous for its supreme difficulty. Even top-tier adventurers struggle to take down a single one of these wasps. J1 believes this mission is far beyond some smuggling brat, especially with those things swarming unchecked. but for a white, rank adventurer, the circumstances might differ. According to Baldy, who has Pilgu pinned under his boot, a massive raid occurred yesterday, but it's been kept from the public. Apparently, the government army and 7 white rank adventurers formed an elite assault team. When questioned, Jin confirmed that those 7 are Korea's top stars. Just 2 of them appearing is enough to cause a media frenzy. More importantly, he reveals that while the assault team failed its primary objective of total eradication, they succeeded in hunting the queen. But this is where the situation gets wild. One of the 7 stole the Imperial Wasp's royal jelly. Furthermore, they used a subordinate in the squad to smuggle it out. When asked, the broker explains the jelly is a potent supplement used to nurture a new queen. But what truly disturbs him is why a white rank adventurer would stoop to smuggling it like some black market thief. Royal jelly has only been recovered a handful of times in history. The insane part? If a human ingests it, they can achieve a true Manhwa level up, literally returning from death. That one fact struck Jarong the hardest. Incidentally, one of the 4 adventurer categories is Gemstone. It's a temporary license, granted by the association's permission, which allows entry into dungeons of any level. The paths into the dungeon are supposedly monitored, or so they claim. The government and the Adventurers Association claim, but J1 knows it's a lie. There is no truth to it. Standing before a massive door sealed by ancient runes, he channels his mana, blasting it open. He warns Jong not to get careless and die in there, especially since this part of the job will be particularly irritating. Just then, the brat pulls up his black mask as the broker casually blows smoke in his face. Jarong tells him to cut it out. Apparently, Jin caught him lost in thought and snapped him out of it. Jarong dismissed the idea of a drug that could revive the dead, deciding it was pointless to dwell on it, as such claims are always exaggerated. Deep down, Jarong knows even if a so-called perfect antidote existed, it wouldn't be enough to save his father. If something like that were real, his father would never have given up hope. Just then, the massive door groans open, and a flash of light blinds him. As he steps inside, he surveys his surroundings. After the phenomenon called adhesion, dungeons began appearing across the earth. Korea has 2 of the most notorious. The first is on Jeju-do, a dungeon merged with the volcanic mountain range. The second is Uido, once the Heart of Seoul, now known as the former Borami, a D-rank dungeon fused with the Igar jungle. Centered on Uido, the dungeon spread, swallowing the surrounding districts, Mapo, Yonggan, and Yeongdongpo. Even today, a vast portion of the area remains uncharted, and countless adventurers die trying to uncover its secrets. Apparently, one of their subordinates traveled from Uido to Borami D, but after reaching the rendezvous point, he went dark. Jang suspects the man bolted with the prize, but it's more likely he was injured or ran into trouble. J1 did mention his lackey running into all sorts of hell trying to get out. Either way, the broker gives Jarong his objective. If he finds the item, he is to retrieve it. Essentially, he wants the brat focused, with no distractions. Jaong gives J1 a smirk, asking if he truly thinks he would run away. The broker doubts the kid is a fool, but still urges extreme caution. He also reminds the hothead that royal jelly from a sky wasp is a treasure beyond measure. With that, the professional dives into the depths, hearing Juan's final warning that it's not just humans willing to bleed for such a prize. As he lands, the scent of the forest hits him, but his eyes lock onto something far more unsettling. Massive footprints, gouged into the soil. He knows one thing for sure now: the scent will draw every predator from the shadows. Meanwhile, deeper within the woods, a girl flees for her life, her lungs burning as she desperately seeks cover. This is Jin Saram, a first year at Warrior High, facing the deadliest moment of her life. What began as a simple midterm dungeon run has devolved into a nightmare. Fate had other designs, for she is now prey, hunted by a colossal anomaly that is closing in fast. She was never meant to face a monster like this. Still, she scrambles to escape her doom, but the very air feels wrong. The exam was meant to be a simple trial. Just collect as many coins as possible from the dungeon before time ran out. Even though the test was designed to simulate real combat in a low-rank dungeon, it should have been simple in this known training ground for novices. But her luck ran dry with terrifying speed when this titanic aberration cornered Saram. This zone was supposed to hold only weak beasts with low-level intellect, but the instant her gaze met the Titans, her very soul threatened to flee her body. The beast charged directly for her, its intent to obliterate her undeniable. Saram, utterly paralyzed by fear, knew escape was impossible. All she had left was a sliver of hope, that, or a desperate miracle. With no path left, she drew her bow, preparing to fight. The Titan ape, though only a juvenile, was a 3-star dungeon threat that just glared and snarled at her. She leaped into the air, loosing a volley of arrows at the abomination, but it swatted them aside like flies. A fresh wave of terror washed over her. Abruptly, the Titan ape slammed its fist into the earth, but Saram dodged just in time. She fired another arrow, knowing it was futile. None of her shots had enough force to pierce its thick hide. Worse, the beast didn't even bother to dodge or block. It just absorbed the hits without a flinch. Still, she prayed for one opening, one moment of weakness. Closing the distance, she enveloped herself in a fiery aura. Saram is a magic ranger, a class that infuses magic into her arrows, and now she activates flame bombardment, drawing on her near-limitless magic. For her final gambit, she commits everything to an explosion of maximum power, enough to fell any monster with a 3-star danger rank. In theory, but the catch was landing the shot. If this monstrous ape dodged again, it was all over. She couldn't fathom how this thing could anticipate her attacks. She was spent. Her only remaining option was to flee the beast. Just as the monster charged at full tilt, poised to crush her, Jarong suddenly dropped into the chaotic scene. Bronze-class adventurers had just received their new licenses, finally permitted to enter low-rank dungeons. Saram's jaw hit the floor as some guy appeared from nowhere and slammed his metal rod directly into the Titan ape's jaw. And just like that, the behemoth was down. Jarong, perched on a branch, knew that blow wasn't nearly enough after seeing the Titan's ghastly face. As the ape charged him again, Jarong calmly loaded some sort of strange tool into his gear and dove straight down. Saram's mind reeled in shock as she watched this lunatic attempt a direct frontal assault. It was an insane Manhwa level-up gamble. Meanwhile, the Titan coiled to strike, ready to obliterate him. Saram was certain this mysterious man was finished, and then, Jarong told her to close her eyes, just as he and the Titan were seconds from impact. Mere inches away, Jarong's weapon flashes at the grotesque ape as he shuts his eyes. A blinding arc of lightning shoots out, engulfing the Titan's frame, freezing it like a statue. Jarong hits the ground, immediately griping that his flask is nearly empty now, having spent the entire stunning torch on this colossal beast. This potent tool is crafted from the scales of flickering fish, found in deep-sea dungeons, and possesses a paralyzing ability that's insane for its low cost. It was once a massively popular item that countless adventurers cherished, but its sheer power and misuse led to many adventurers having their abilities stripped away. Now, the device is strictly forbidden, both for use and production. Saram steps forward, attempting to reason with this mysterious man. He tells her bluntly to be responsible for her own life, as she was mere seconds from death. The man knows that when an adventurer is oblivious to their surroundings in a dungeon and not a direct target, others rarely intervene. A major reason is that adventurers are often viewed as cockroaches, much like a broker once disclosed that the bounty for a smuggler is quite decent. If one causes trouble, they're considered ripe for being crushed like insects. Suddenly, he senses Saram's intent to approach, but Jarong accelerates and vanishes from her sight in an instant. She's stunned. He was there just a moment ago. Out of nowhere, the man is on her, pinning her down, scrutinizing her as if trying to decipher her true purpose. Seem claims she only wanted to thank him for saving her, but Jarong clearly isn't buying it, suspecting she's trying to play him for a fool. Seem then confesses she knows Jarong is a smuggler, which is precisely why she has a proposition for him. This unnerves him for a moment, but more importantly, he recognizes a familiar emblem on her shirt. Sighing, he mutters to himself that he won't overlook this a third time. He had no patience for the reckless antics of a spoiled high schooler. Moreover, Jarong was prepared to end her existence if she dared to obstruct his path again. Yet, the bounty for smugglers is 50 million, while a poacher's is 400,005,000. Jarong looks ready to erupt. Then, his gaze falls upon a vial of Enkill's blood. A rare, precious artifact nearly impossible to purchase, though 5 smugglers of his caliber could likely afford one. Shockingly, the girl calls it a down payment, promising the rest if he helps with her midterms. Jarong finds this utterly insane, especially from a girl he dismissed as a spoiled brat. He now realizes she's not just wealthy, but dangerously unhinged. The girl insists none of that matters besides the Enkill's blood, which could fundamentally change his life. Jarong somewhat anticipated this and realizes he never possessed a true reason to eliminate her. Seem is confused by his rambling. Just as a monstrous shadow looms over them, he reminds her that her time is, once again, down to seconds. The Titan ape is descending to crush them. Just in time, they both dive clear. Jarong screams at her that he didn't grant her a chance just for her to waste it. He then demands she use that fiery strike from before. He orders her to imbue the tip of his staff with the spell and throw it back, but panic seizes her as she remembers she is completely drained. Not a single drop of magic remains within her. Jarong snaps for her to figure it out, warning he can't keep the Titan's focus off her with his bare hands for much longer. Despite the immense pressure, Seem desperately channels her remaining magic into his staff, but it amounts to barely a quarter of her full power. She's certain it won't even graze the monster's thick hide. Fear begins to consume her, and for a moment, she seriously considers abandoning him to flee while he occupies the Titan. Nevertheless, she hurls the magic-infused staff toward Jarong, and although he catches it, his expression shows disappointment at her meager quarter-power output. Now, it's Jarong's turn to fuse his own power into the staff and achieve a true Manhwa level up. Students at Warrior High School are told this a dozen times. Brute strength alone is never enough to win a true monster. What matters is timing and precision. Saram's jaw hangs open, her mind reeling at the spectacle. In a flash, Jarong carves a fiery arc across the Titan's face, igniting its flesh. The force of the impact shatters his goggles, but a savage grin spreads across his face. Even silver-class adventurers, veterans of over 50 dungeons, have proven their capability against 3-star monsters. Yet, they are barred from intermediate ranked dungeons without explicit authorization. This is the rank where most adventurers stagnate. As dusk settles, a crowd of students spills from school, their laughter echoing, until a young girl spots a man cloaked in black beside a luxury sedan. A young serum waves to her friends before silently slipping inside the vehicle. Her friends watch from a distance, unable to hide their twinge of envy. She appeared to have a world of desires at her fingertips, and that perception wasn't far from reality. If she so much as glanced at something, it would almost certainly be hers within moments. Such is the life of the daughter of the Junong Group, South Korea's 4th-ranked conglomerate. The heir to this powerful dynasty was once engaged to an elf from another realm. From their union came Jin Serum, a girl who idolized adventurers, dreaming of becoming one herself with a burning passion. But her aspirations were crushed when a brute bluntly declared her elven blood was too diluted, condemning her to live as a mere human. This same man confronted Serum's father, demanding he stop indulging her fantasy and force her to face reality. However, her father, Jin Sung-yu, head of Jin Sung Group's Special Development Department, unequivocally stated his full support for her decision and would continue to encourage her. Jin Sung argued that elven talent wasn't a prerequisite for an adventurer, making it irrelevant to Serum's path. The blonde coach conceded she wasn't terrible for a human, but even so, Serum was only marginally above average. He stressed that Jin Sung's daughter wasn't from an ordinary background. True, the girl possessed a stubbornness akin to her sister's, never knowing when to quit. Still, he couldn't rank her among those monstrously gifted humans. That said, if Serum persevered, she might achieve a respectable level, earning praise for an ordinary person. Besides, her wealth, family name, and lineage compensated for her lack of innate talent. He believed her struggles would ultimately be futile, as people would either envy or ridicule her, ensuring her isolation. And frankly, he was certain Serum couldn't endure that for long. Talent isn't a gift from the heavens or a stroke of luck. Serum was utterly paralyzed, watching Jarong fell the Titan ape with a single, perfect slash. He strolled away as if it were nothing, leaving Serum frozen in disbelief. It was like witnessing a real-life manhwa level up. She couldn't comprehend how someone her age could pull off such an impossible feat. Meanwhile, Jarong was struck by the memory of the broker handing him the goggles, with a strict warning not to break the expensive gear. Yet, he'd shattered them in his first clash with the Titan ape. Jarong figured they were just some cheap 501 item, the kind you'd find at Daiso, but the broker claimed they blocked facial recognition, altered his voice, and held over 4 magic enchantments. Jarong's irritation grew. Nothing today was going right. Just when he thought things couldn't get worse, Serum approached and asked if he was a sunbae from her academy. This only fueled his anger, and he curtly demanded the payment she owed. Without hesitation, she presented the Enkel's blood necklace. As he inspected the artifact's authenticity, Serum casually asked if he required more money. She was unbothered by his lack of formal schooling, knowing the exorbitant cost of the Adventurer Education Center. She even offered to cover his tuition. But Jarong cut her off sharply, stating flatly he'd never attended any school, nor even been near one. This left Serum with one burning question. She had to know who taught him to fight. Jarong's answer was brutally simple. He taught himself. Serum's mind stalled, unable to process a response so stark and unbelievable. Serum couldn't accept his answer, refusing to believe a commoner could self-teach such lethal precision and flawless timing. She began to rant like a spoiled child, but Jarong silenced her by slapping a tag onto her face, which only made her more irate, until she, in a world where strength is law, what separates a monster from its hunter? He glances at the tag, his identity card. Ujar Yong, Dong Gang Hai. A regular humanities school. Sarum is shattered. This mundane truth is more shocking than any beast. Zhang then demands her identity card in a chillingly calm exchange. She hands it over. He sees they're the same age. Jin Serum, Warrior High School. As he slips the card back into her pocket, the terrifying reality dawns. Panics, but he just reminds her of the job she offered. She demands to hold his identity card as collateral to ensure he won't abandon her. Abruptly, Jiang tells her to come closer, then snares her in an embrace. She blushes, but for him, this is simply sealing their pact. No contract, just a grim, smuggler's bond. He reminds her that an accomplice receives the same punishment as the smuggler. A cold dread grips Serum. She's entangled with someone far more dangerous than she imagined. Jarong's predatory vampiric grin is all the proof she needs. It's too late to back out now. From this point on, there is no escape. Gold class is granted to those who slay a 4-star monster or achieve other major accomplishments. They can enter lower-ranked dungeons and are considered elite, the top 10%. After a quick selfie with the dead Titan ape, Jarong gets back to business, discussing his fee. He asks precisely what Serum needs. After a moment, she mutters that she requires him to collect coins. The mission: gather scattered coins within a 6-hour limit across the testing center. On top of that, she must find a specific coin box to prove her student status. She has 1 coin already, and just needs 1 more to pass. The task seems simple to Jarong, until she reveals the second coin is at the Eugene Mall ruins. This catches him off guard, as it's the exact destination for his own mission. Saram is struck with fear at the thought of the Imperial Wasp, but Jarong casually clarifies. Not the wasp, just its royal jelly. He notes its potent scent attracts monsters like the Titan ape. He's going there regardless and asks about other coin locations, but she knows of none. All the other coins must have been claimed by other teams. It finally clicks for Jarong why she is alone, while the others are in groups. Jarong agrees, but states if an emergency requires extra work, his price will increase. He then checks if Saram has the stamina to run. She nods, and he darts ahead, the girl struggling to keep pace. Meanwhile, he silently regrets not asking for more money. She then asks if he is truly self-taught. He admits it wasn't entirely on his own. Just as he's about to reveal a secret from his childhood, he spots two monsters lurking ahead. Instantly, he tells her to prepare, because they're facing Claws raptors, a native species of Old Bora Dong, classified as 2-star threats. As she raises her guard, she realizes he lacks professional training. Yujarong's power is different, a raw strength born from a life of constant risk. A true Manhwa level up. But there is one exception. In his childhood, he closely observed his father's movements, and from them, learned 3 techniques. As Jarong confronts the raptors, he assumes a stance. The first movement is Needle, a strike requiring absolute speed, power, and weight focused into a single, vital point. Saram's mind flashes back to the Titan ape fight, where Jarong slammed his metal rod into the beast with pinpoint accuracy, forcing it to spew blood. The move looks simple, but it is not easy to execute. It demands real experience, sharp instinct, and raw talent, a feat even top-tier adventurers struggle with. Yet, Jarong executed it perfectly. Meanwhile, Saram recalls that claw raptors hunt in packs of at least 5. Just then, Jarong grimly adds that she's not the only one who's been ambushed by them. What terrors await in the ruins? Let us know your theories below, and subscribe to follow their descent. The royal jelly, meaning far more vicious monsters are likely guarding these ruins. With the chance of encountering one, Jarong decides on a short break before entering the danger zone. Saram agrees but returns to the question she couldn't finish earlier. Once more, she asks if he received personal training as a child. Averting his eyes, he says he merely watched someone train for a long time. That revelation hits her hard. She thought she was cleverly uncovering some deep secret, but it was just a few copied moves. She blurts out that she dislikes him completely, leaving Jarong confused by the sudden outburst. Just then, Saram tosses him something golden. Jarong catches it reflexively. It's a C-type stamina ampoule, which usually sells for around 1 million won. She tells him to drink it, since he's obviously running low on stamina. Jarong teases her, saying such a gesture reveals her true feelings for him. She seems the type to hide her feelings with sharp words, but instead of drinking it, he casually pockets it, which completely stuns her. Even stranger, he plans to sell it later, as if it were the most obvious choice. She snaps, asking if he even gets how expensive it is. That's when he explains that on the black market, it could easily fetch at least 1 million won. Saram can't figure this guy out. Jarong says they should go since she already drank hers, so there's no point in wasting time. From his viewpoint, this rich girl is just plain weird. On their way to Eugene Mall, Jarong decides they must revise the plan slightly to ensure their safety. He makes it clear that their goal is simple: grab what's needed and get out without a fight or becoming prey. He is firm about sticking to the rules. He wants Saram to move on his signal and stay composed, no matter what monsters await inside. Even though he knows Saram has had special training, he notes his own strength lies in survival skills, and that's why he needs her to trust him completely. Meanwhile, Saram can't shake this eerie feeling. Just 6 months ago, she was a school outcast, and now this is her first dungeon raid with a partner at her side. As they finally enter Eugene Mall, something immediately seizes their attention. Their minds nearly overload when they see what they're looking at. Even Jarong, when asked, admits he has no idea what this is. It's a brutal scene, with monster corpses scattered everywhere. The mall floor is a complete bloodbath. Inside the tomb-like walls of Eugene Mall, it's clear that humans are far more resolute than they seem. They are beings who, with enough will, can confront almost anything head-on. Still, the horrifying scene is starting to affect both of them. The sheer sight of the massacre across the floor leaves Saram standing there, her jaw practically on the ground. It's a mess nobody could have predicted. And now, their plan is already shattered by these unexpected circumstances. He's certain these monsters aren't native. A foe so dangerous it's like a sudden asterisk manhwa level up asterisk in difficulty, enough to challenge even pros. Saram is panicking internally, wondering what nightmare hiding deeper inside caused this destruction. Suddenly, Jarong warns her not to lose her nerve because whatever's in here is lethally dangerous. He figures she must have sensed something was off from the start. The only true shock is just how much worse the reality is. Then, just like that, she sees something move, and Jarong instantly raises his guard. Out of nowhere, a slasher lip, a 5-star ranked monster, bursts onto the scene in a twisted reveal. The composed Jarong swings his metal staff to eliminate it, but the hideous thing leaps and wraps its freakishly long tongue around his weapon. In one swift move, The slasher lip yanks the staff away and lunges to crush Jarong, but he is already airborne, aiming a powerful kick directly at the monster's face. As he attacks, Saram remains in the rear, ready for his next order. After he kicks the beast, Saram remarks on its terrifyingly high survivability. Zhang then reveals he kept it alive for a reason. It was all intentional. He explains that if someone has the misfortune to enter here, this serves as a warning alarm. Slasher Lip, it turns out, screams to alert its allies when facing imminent death. Still in shock, Serum demands to know who the creature is alarming. From nowhere, a man appears, casually claiming it's reacting to him. He says the cleanup job exhausted him, admitting the mess was his work. Serum is stunned to find another adventurer just lingering here, but something about this man instantly puts Zhang on high alert. The newcomer, meanwhile, finds it strange to see two kids acting like smugglers. He then spots the symbol on Serum's shirt and leaps down instantly. He asks if they are students from Warrior High School. After they confirm it, he mutters how unfortunate it is they'll die here. The situation rapidly intensifies for Serum. Zhang quickly warns her this isn't just a regular adventurer, he's a villain. He tells her not to waste time talking with someone who clearly came to kill him and steal the royal jelly. Zhang states this man isn't with his commissioner, demanding to know how he plans to take another's property without asking. The villain just shrugs, saying consequences only matter if you're caught. Besides, his luck has been great since hearing of a friend's smuggling scheme. It turns out this high-value item was the target. This man originally planned to ambush his own comrade but failed to finish him, only confirming his target managed to escape. Unfortunately, his bad luck led him here, as his comrade chose this smuggling spot. That's when Zhang realizes the reason he lost contact wasn't the sky wasp venom, but this vile man. Without a single strike, Zhang feels it in his bones that this man is a far greater threat. The killer promises to end them now, swearing to make it only slightly less painful. There's no doubt, this opponent is a true Manhwa level up in threat compared to Pilgu. Zhang tells Serum to find the coins and escape while he buys her time. He reassures her no other dangers lurk nearby, as this madman has already wiped out everything else. As the villain closes in on Zhang, he coldly says her presence changes nothing. When they clash, he yells at the girl to get out of there, since she must live to pay him. As Serum leaves, the man scoffs it wasn't a smart move, claiming that sticking together offers a better shot at survival. But Zhang calls his bluff, charging his power, ready to clash with this monstrous villain. Reading his sword pattern, Zhang leaps and slams his foot into the man's face before he can even react. The villain is stunned, caught off guard that this kid baited his gear. He never expected the youngster to pack such serious power, far above the average pro. The shock forces him to get serious, especially if he wants to handle the girl from Warrior High School. He makes it chillingly clear to Zhang it won't take long to end him, as his form twists into something vicious and deadly. That's Yang Dole, a gold-class adventurer. Back at the hideout, the water has boiled. The broker enjoys his noodles, telling Baldy to sit. Pilgu isn't waking up anytime soon. Baldy is furious, ranting how this gorilla couldn't pull his weight after all the money invested. He's fed up with this freeloader who talked big, bragged about being an ex-adventurer, and acted like he owned the place. The broker tells him to relax. Pilgu lost because he had to, despite his incompetence. Jaewon adds that people forget adventurers aren't trained to fight other humans. In Pilgu's defense, his experience was likely in hunting and exploring, not one-on-one combat. Plus, his opponent was a total stranger, and losing to a smuggler is normal. Baldy snaps back that adventurers do fight each other, and the broker, he concurs. The higher you ascend, the richer the spoils, escalating the odds of bloodshed. Even sworn allies, bound by battle, succumb to greed, and betray one another. Baldy found it unthinkable, but the broker confirmed the grim truth. Dungeons are lawless voids, where anything goes. He also revealed, you can always claim a monster did the deed, and no alibi is ever needed. The higher an adventurer's rank, the more they must train for these brutal encounters. That's precisely why Pilgu's class was insufficient to handle him, leading to this grim outcome. Betraying a comrade sounds extreme, but witnessing how easily the gorilla was subdued proves it was just a minor skirmish outside a dungeon. That kind of brawl doesn't involve full combat gear like armor or hunting weapons. It's not always the deciding factor, but had Pilgu been equipped, he could have mounted a real defense. When questioned, John explains that gear accounts for nearly half an adventurer's combat strength. Meanwhile, at Eugene Mall, Jarong is sweating bullets. Dog Yun didn't even flinch from his attack. The kick landed clean, and it's completely unnerving him. Worse, his opponent's blade possesses an entirely different level of defense. The madman snarls at Jarong to stay focused. In a blur, he lunges forward, aiming to decapitate Jarong, but the metal rod intercepts the superior blade just in time. A brutal kick to the stomach sends Jarong flying. As he struggles to reorient himself, Doyun descends again, mocking him to fight for real. Zhang instantly realizes his approach is futile. Dog Yun is wearing a shade jacket. It's A+ rank armor that consumes the user's blood to amplify physical power and create a formidable defense. This man, Dog Yun, employs a berserker combat style. Zhang sees potential openings, but he knows a single miscalculated counter means his death. As they face off, Dog Yun executes a swift maneuver, catching Jarong off guard and landing a solid blow to his gut. The madman begrudgingly credits him for lasting this long. But Jarong shrugs it off, tears away his own jacket, and coolly asks if today is some special occasion. The remark strikes Dog Yun harder than any physical blow, especially since he dismissed Jarong as merely average. Jarong admits he was initially intimidated by Dog Yun's vicious aura, but seeing his true power against an unequipped high schooler is just disappointing. He even taunts him, saying his whole Manhwa level up is a sham if he needs fancy gear to handle a kid. That stings. Jarong also recalls that Do Yun is the one desperate to eliminate him, and silence, sir, but that won't happen on his watch. The more he stalls, the more agitated young Do Yun becomes, and Jarong knows precisely how to leverage that pressure. As their brutal fight continues, Jarong begins to grasp the second technique, simply by observing. He realizes his own power is insufficient to execute it, but by turning his enemy's force against them, he can deliver a devastating blow, something far beyond his normal capabilities. It's a dangerous technique he hasn't perfected, called swell. After unleashing it, Jarong coughs up blood. He never imagined using it in a real battle, much less against a pro-adventurer who just relentlessly charges forward, like a lunatic. But Swell's impact is immense. It shatters Dog Yun's sinister mask and smashes him into a wall. Jarong declares it's over, but Dog Yun is not one to fall so easily. The beast is still standing, vowing to kill him no matter what. On the 5th floor of the department store, Som's ragged breaths worsen as she halts. Her eyes fixate on an object, the very thing she's been searching for. She presses her hand against it, allowing the scanner to confirm her identity. With her objective secured, all that remains is to return. But, just then, the unexpected occurs, catching her completely off guard. Jarong's words echo in her mind. Run. Stop standing there like a fool. She must survive if she ever wants to pay him back in full. It takes her a moment to realize that flight alone will change nothing. Vanished, too. Gripping the coin, her thoughts turn to Do Yun. She knows Jarong wouldn't fight him without an escape plan. In a flashback to his youth, Dog Yun was brutalizing another student, who pleaded for mercy and swore he'd never cross him again. Even then, Dog Yun was a prodigy. Everything was effortless. He had talent, earned adult recognition, and crushed any peer in his age group. But one thing he couldn't get drove him mad: his rejection from Warrior High. He knew Warrior High was built on wealth and influence. No matter how gifted he was, he could never force his way in. They valued pedigree over raw potential. But at Gang Yunhai's induction ceremony, the rules changed. It was a place of pure skill, and there was no way Dog Yun would fall behind there. As expected, he destroyed the entrance exam, rising above the mediocre masses who couldn't hope to keep pace with him. That is how he earned the title of genius, an elite among the few. Everyone there saw he was on another level, and he was unfazed by being grouped with so-called future rankers, because even among them, he was exceptional. At graduation, the principal approached Dog Yun to congratulate him on being valedictorian, saying he knew Dog Yun would become a great adventurer. He wished him well, and hoped he wouldn't become arrogant, but would continue pushing forward. Dog Yun smiled and shook his hand, feigning respect, but inwardly, he scorned the man as a washed-up failure who quit to teach kids because it was all he could do. Dog Yun promised himself he'd show this relic true greatness, reaching heights a normie like that could never imagine. Fast forward to now, and that same man is an adult adventurer, trembling before a massive, grotesque monster. He's frozen in terror, completely outmatched, when Dog Yun steps in and dispatches the creature effortlessly. The man is shaking, a chill running down his spine, utterly shocked that Dog Yun annihilated the beast that slaughtered his entire party. Meanwhile, Dog Yun casually mentioned he got the call about a dangerous situation, but frankly, it was far too easy. He gave the man the same contemptuous glare he'd always had for others, as if nothing had changed. That day, he finally realized his old principal's words weren't just a hollow speech. The talk about him being a great adventurer was actually meant as pity, not praise. It struck him that he was never a chosen one, just slightly better than average, for regular people to admire, and nothing more. Back in the present, Dog Yun reveals the jacket's grim secret to Jarong. It's made from a living vampire who gave full consent for its heart's blood to flow directly into Dog Yun's. This power, however, requires Jarong's death. But the kid doesn't buy it, calling the claim too reckless to be real. Dog Yun's sinister aura intensifies as he charges at him full speed. As his presence grows more intense, Jarong registers the explosive burst of speed. Their brutal clash leaves Jarong bloodied and breathless. Dog Yun sees that Jarong somehow parried his attack, giving him credit for his quick reflexes and natural talent. This prompts him to ask why someone like Jarong became a smuggler. It's bizarre for Jarong to receive a compliment from this narcissist, but he just shrugs, saying it's not his place to explain his life. Though still on high alert, Dog Yun suddenly thanks him. Then, without warning, he erupts into a vicious laugh, mocking Jarong for giving him a chance to crush someone with genuine talent. Instantly, Jarong re-engages, fully aware of the drain on his health points. Even though his HP is still over half full, his body feels fine and moves without issue. Meanwhile, the creep is goading him to see more flashy moves, but Jarong couldn't care less about what the lunatic wants. He is certain Do-gyun can't maintain this powered state forever, which gives him hope. It is only a matter of time before this freak burns out. So, Jarong begins to strategize. A strategy formed. Bait Do-gyun into overusing his blood, and he might just burn himself out. The needle technique could be the key, but Do-gyun sneers, claiming he's already seen that move coming. The madman grins, declaring Jarong is far too late. Then, from nowhere, a fiery arrow screams through the air, exploding against Do-gyun's face. The blast stuns Jarong, who watches in disbelief, as Saram, the rich girl, steps onto the battlefield, despite his warnings to flee. A smile touches Jarong's lips, as Do-gyun's face twists in disgust. Saram's stunt only ignites a fiercer fire in Jarong's soul, fueling his will to fight with everything he has. As the dust clears, Jarong finally fells the A-rated adventurer, who was all smug talk and pure arrogance. Do-gyun, a broken and bloody mess, lies motionless on the ground. Saram glances over, wondering if the big shot is truly dead. Jarong assures her someone like him doesn't go down that easily, telling her to relax. He adds that Do-gyun won't be coming after her for revenge, not when it could destroy his entire career. Jarong then retrieves his staff, casually reminding her that he saved her life, so she owes him. Saram raises an eyebrow, asking if that means she's paying double once for the Titan ape, and a second time for when she decided to follow him into this disaster. Jarong smirks, saying he'll be generous and call it even, since she came all this way against his orders. Saram reminds him he could at least offer his thanks. After their exchange, they finally locate the royal jelly, which exudes a sweet fragrance. As they follow the scent deeper, it leads them into a golden mist. There, they find a man's body, guarding the item even in death. Jarong feels a pang of regret for being too late, while Saram is utterly shocked. Seeing her face, Jarong quips it's her fault for following him to see something special. He then turns his attention to the prize he came to retrieve. The moment he opens the box, both Jarong and Saram are stunned. The look on their faces says it all. They have never witnessed anything like it. The sight before them is beyond all their experience. After taking the lantern of royal jelly, the scent is so sweet and alluring that all thought fades to nothing. No wonder the monsters were driven mad, drawn to this very object. He also wonders if the sack within the lantern contains more royal jelly. After securing the box, the pragmatic smuggler decides to pack up and leave quickly, before something else happens. He has a bad feeling that something will find them if they linger in this place any longer. So Saram follows him without question, down to the department store's first floor. There, Saram is shocked to find Do-gyun's body is gone. That's when they hear the madman's voice, vowing revenge, his mind locked on their faces. He swears he will do whatever is in his power to end them, and make them regret this day. Just then, as Do-gyun exits the Eugene Mall, the Titan ape that was lurking outside lunges for him to devour the man in one bite. The sight makes Jarong and Saram's jaws drop in shock. The pragmatic survivor decides it's better to use the back exit. Emerging outside, Jarong sees the sunset, marking this location as finally safe. When asked, Saram confirms that she still has enough time to pass her test. With that, he offers a handshake, saying it was a pleasure, since both their goals are now met. Saram agrees, and they shake hands. He also tells the girl to maintain absolute secrecy, and to be sure to pay him. Plus, he warns her to be careful if she doesn't want to see him again, but Saram wonders if maybe she does want to see him again. Later, the broker sees Jarong return, asking if he had fun on his trip, but Jarong is in no mood to talk. He then presents the broker with the prize. The broker can feel the sheer chaos this item would unleash, if made public, just by holding the lantern. This thing is worth a couple of buildings. He then praises Jarong's work, a true Manhwa level up, promising payment by tomorrow. Suddenly, the broker senses something is off, and asks if he's feeling bad about the adventurer who died protecting the item. Jarong states the man didn't die in their fight, so there is no reason for him to feel any guilt about it. Jaewon presses, demanding to know if something went wrong, but Jarong shuts him down, telling the broker to just drop it, and forget it. He asks to take his cut, since it's clearly not royal jelly. As per their deal, everything else is his. The client requested is his to take. The broker muses what kind of kid is going to consume that thing. When questioned, Jarong explains this golden lantern can literally raise the dead. But it gets crazier. If consumed, it shatters a person's talent ceiling. The catch? It only works on those not yet adults, useless for anyone whose potential has already peaked. Jarong figures it's probably for some kid at Warrior High School. He turns to leave, but the broker tells him to send his regards to his father. Jarong reveals his dad isn't well, but he'll pass it on if he can. His mind drifts to when he asked Saram if she had a crush on him or something, after she insisted they meet again. She told him about the winter entrance exam, claiming he had a real shot, even though they only accept a handful. Saram needs him at Warrior High, and the thought now occupies his every waking moment. By law, no adventurer dares enter a dungeon solo, regardless of their skill. Countless unpredictable threats lurk inside that no single person can face alone. Fighting the unknown by yourself is a death sentence. This is precisely why parties exist. A party consists of adventurers with diverse skills, collaborating to overcome any obstacle. They cover each other's fatal flaws and balance out their weaknesses. It's the only way dungeons are cleared and monsters slain. Furthermore, Saram mentioned Warrior High is riddled with political factions in every grade. Jarong doesn't grasp the point of factions, guessing it's just for fighting. Saram calls that a naive assumption, explaining their grade has two major factions, led by two of the top 3 students. That's when Jarong, ever the quick study, asks if parties are formed only within factions. He quickly deduces Saram is factionless. She confirms the teachers don't interfere. Students must earn their own place. From Jarong's look, Saram knows he's already pieced it together, that her lack of power is the real reason no faction has accepted her. This powerless girl knows there's almost no chance of her becoming a top student. Still, she could join a party, since other outcasts have been forming their own. But one of the faction leaders despises Saram, working in the shadows to isolate her and leave her to rot. Jarong jokes, asking if Saram stole her boyfriend to earn that kind of wrath. For now, she's solo, but she knows that in the coming grades, that won't be enough to survive. That's why she needs Jarong. His power is her only hope for a real Manhwa level up, and a chance at survival. These thoughts plague him as he lies on his bed, wrapping his wounds. He can't help but think that Saram is a strange girl. Meanwhile, Saram herself arrives at the dungeon barrier, the 12th location in Gangnam. Even now, she can't shake the shock of her encounter with Jarong, the smuggler. Doubt creeps in. Maybe a powerhouse like him won't contact her again. Just then, Kang Jungkook, a class teacher and Warrior High's melee combat instructor, stands waiting in the shade of a tree for her. Saram, confused since the test is ongoing, listens as Jungkook explains a system error has occurred, and that monsters have spawned in unauthorized zones. Thankfully, no deaths have been reported. Yet. He adds that some students had to abort their tests and request extraction due to the intense situation. Worse, Jungkook discovered these monsters appeared in the same area where Saram found the coin. When he presses her, she feigns ignorance, claiming nothing was unusual. Jungkook seems to accept it, but her body betrays her. She flinches, sensing an eerie presence behind her. A second Titan ape, far larger than the last, shocks her to her core, lurking deep inside the dungeon. Jungkook finds it odd. A beast like this is far outside its known territory. Saram wonders if that sweet scent from earlier lured it in. Jungkook repeats his order, stay back and provide support. The massive Titan ape steps forward, its intent clearly hostile. Jungkook's demeanor turns deadly serious. After all, dungeon field instructors are all former adventurers, and many of them are Warrior High alumni. Outsiders assume they're washouts who retired from injury, but Jungkook is about to prove them wrong. He throws a punch so fierce, it's a spectacle of raw power. With one blow, he explodes the Titan ape's head clean off. Back in their early 20s, warriors like him already earned the ranker title. As his arm casually regrows, Jungkook tells Saram she's lucky she didn't run into a monster like that alone. Still, the hardened warrior is glad Saram made it back unharmed. And now, it is time to head back. Saram thinks that people tend to overlook this, but Jungkook, a warrior himself, is the one teaching her. Young warriors have the option to become teachers, too. At Warrior High's practical base camp, a staff member knows that those who requested rescue will get a retest, though they are lucky to get that chance at all. He also mentions one of them is arriving now. As Jungkook leads Saram back to base, Jungkook plans to do roll call and confirm everyone's numbers before letting Saram change. As she's finally relaxing, a voice calls out, saying her timing is sharp and they knew she'd be alright. It's Anisha, the blonde, who admits she was terribly worried about Saram. Saram finds it almost comical. The leader of this faction, who also happens to be her older sister, seems hurt by the idea that Saram thinks her cold for not showing it. 6 years ago, Zeke Eskaram, who is Saram's uncle, personally tutored her, telling her to focus on increasing her output. He genuinely believed this girl could push her limits even further as she tried to gather magic in her palm. He instructed her to develop her focus when she was just 11 years old. Saram was sweating, struggling desperately to concentrate. Just then, Zeke stopped her training, pointing out she'd improved since last time, but only a little. While Saram was completely drained just from producing a tiny ball of magic, things were very different on the other side. Anisha's display of magic at the same age was absolutely mind-blowing, and her tutor was deeply impressed with her blazing talent. Anisha Asaram, also 11, was performing spectacularly. Zeke observed her, noting it wasn't just her looks that defied her mixed blood status. Her mastery over magic was near perfect, even better than most pure bloods. Still, Zeke gave Saram a word of advice. If she continued this path, she would always be compared to Anisha, again and again. But then it suddenly clicks, and Zeke realizes that instead of comparison, Saram should actually be more careful. That is when Anisha's demonic eyes catch a glimpse of her, and Zeke becomes certain one wrong move from Saram could ruin everything. In the present, Anisha puts on her fake concern, acting like it's a shame no one picked Saram for a party. But before Anisha can spill more nonsense, Saram cuts her off, saying, if she's that concerned, then she should make a party with her. The jab hits hard, and Anisha politely refuses, as both are ranged damage dealers. She points out there's no use having two people with the same role, especially when Saram isn't on her level. Then she cracks up, admitting it's already a hassle for others to carry her. Still, she assures Saram a retest is definite, so she can try again. Saram gets up close and tells this Miss Blondie she doesn't give a damn about the retest because she already passed. This catches Anisha completely off guard, realizing Saram pushed herself to the absolute limit. Blondie then says there's no need for Saram to go this far when she inherits the company anyway. That stings deeply. While Anisha, a true beast in disguise, clearly wishes Saram would just quit struggling. Afterwards, Jarong slams the door open, in shock, gasping to catch his breath. Spotting the doctor by his father's bed, he demands to know what's wrong. His father is on a ventilator, and Jarong fears it's a relapse. The two medical professionals share an uneasy look before one finally breaks the silence. They explain the patient has an extremely rare condition, possibly the only known case in the world, with no recorded instances of someone being infected by dragon's blood and surviving this long. They honestly admit they don't know what to say. Given modern medicine's limits, Jarong already knows that a full recovery is impossible. At best, he knows they can only suppress his father's pain with potent medication. That's when the doctor raises a new problem, saying the real issue is the ingredients for the painkiller. He finally admits the only possible antidote at this stage is the milk of a highly dangerous monster, the Sky Tiger, a 5-star ranked beast. Jarong clarifies that he has enough money for this, even if it's a rare material. He makes it clear that money is no object. The conversation then shifts to a rumor among adventurers about a potion that boosts strength and resistance for a long time from just a small dose. The main ingredient is also the milk of the Sky Tiger, which can be bought if you have enough funds. It was once considered useless despite its rarity, but now things are completely different. The doctor reveals that companies and adventurers have started buying up the entire supply. Jarong erupts, furious at the idiots who think he's the kind of person who only wants to save his dying father for his own selfish gain. The doctors clarify that isn't the real issue, but the amount required for the dose to keep his symptoms in check is nearly the same amount used to create masses of those potions. If there were more patients, the government might have intervened, but as the sole case in the entire world, there's no chance they will get involved. Still, the doctors assure him they'll do their best for his father. Even so, without the ingredients, there's little they can do besides throw money at it. After that, Jarong steps outside to get some air, heaving a deep sigh while sitting on a park bench. Feeling overwhelmed, he finally calls the rich, spoiled brat, Saram, who is busy working out at the gym. A single ring makes her pause. On the line, she hears Jarong's voice asking if it's too late. This fitness fanatic doesn't mind at all, and Jarong admits he has no choice but to accept her offer. He immediately states his demand, and Saram believes she can work with it, saying she will look into it. Jarong is stunned that this girl can actually pull something like this off. It turns out her company's development team is in charge of producing the very potion he needs, and the amount he's asking for is negligible to them. The guy's floored by the world's absurdity, but he makes the deal with her. Afterward, Saram asks if Jarong is free this Sunday to prepare for the entrance exam. Her mood has already completely shifted, now amped up and planning to dominate when the big day comes. She says it is always better to be ready in advance. At the Research Institute of Jinsong Group's Special Defense Industry, Jarong arrives a bit early. Saram strolls in, cool as ever, and casually asks how he is feeling. When he asks about the place, Saram reveals this is where they are making his potion. After the world changed, humanity gained access to limitless power. Before the adhesion phenomenon, normal humans were capped at rank D, except in magic, and only geniuses ever reached rank C. Anything rank B or above was considered superhuman territory. Back then, to even qualify for a dungeon, a person needed at least rank C in all 5 stats, except for magic, which was the bare minimum. To be considered warrior high material, one needed rank B in at least 3 of 5 categories. Somewhere within all that, Saram's true power level remains a mystery. Jarong casually asks if this is what she meant by getting a physical done. Saram says it's similar, but far more complicated after adolescence kicks in. After that, she gets him suited up, and he finally understands why Saram checked his condition before they came inside. Then the Gear Chrome Pro stands right before Jarong, fully prepared to engage. Now, part of this is because things are getting real, but mostly, it's a raw curiosity to uncover the true extent of his latent power. Jarong stands fully equipped, prepared to take this seriously. He is determined to discover his real potential, as the Gear Chrome Pro eyes him strangely. Meanwhile, the gym regular, Saram, is already inside, with the observer, who will monitor Jarong's abilities. Even she notes his sheer nerve, considering most people would absolutely lose it before even facing a golem. As Young Yoan calmly sips tea, she hears the unwavering determination in Jarong's steady voice. He speaks of preparing for his transfer to Warrior High. Yaman, a golem expert and ex-adventurer now with the research unit, simply nods, somewhat impressed. Saram can only agree with a nervous laugh. Then Yaman decides to begin, casually pressing the activation button, unleashing the golem into a complete frenzy. These talent tests typically occur around 6th or 7th grade, where the subject suits up in special gear for detailed measurements. From there, they must push their bodies past their limits, making it difficult to get an accurate reading. It's especially difficult with extraordinary talent or long-term trainees, since they don't reach their limits easily. His physique is near professional. Yuman knows, pushing him to the brink won't be easy. While Seem expects exhaustion, Yuman is sweating profusely. She confirms Jong attended a regular high school, having failed to enter any of the specialized adventurer schools. After his performance, this scientist is dying to know what kind of school was foolish enough to reject someone like him. Apparently, this monster completely wrecked the golem. Even with the difficulty set low, Yuman just witnessed the destruction of a golem model used to train professionals. Moreover, she saw him read its patterns, executing several dodges, and find the perfect opening for a counterattack. It's enough to call this kid insane, his senses alone surpassing the average pro. The real problem is that measurement is becoming impossible because he hasn't hit his limit. Even if they increase the difficulty, Yuman feels raising it, 1 or 2 levels won't matter. It's like watching a real-life Manhwa level up. She's considering setting the golem to 100% power output, disabling safe mode. She knows it's a grave offense to test an unlicensed adventurer this way. Still, it's a massive headache. There's no other way to find his limit. When asked, Yuman admits only one option remains. But as she's about to go rogue, the lab doors burst open, and the director storms in, startling her badly. Zeke, the research director, rebukes her, reminding her she isn't paid to run unauthorized experiments. He scolds her intensely, asking if she's willing to risk prison over this. That's when the kind-hearted girl steps forward. Serum tries to take the blame, calling him uncle, but Zeke instantly silences her, stating it is not her place to bear responsibility, as that falls to her father. Yuman sees firsthand the rumors of Zeke's coldness towards Sarum are absolutely true. Still, she knows adventurers use this facility constantly on weekends, so technically, nothing here is out of line. Now, Zeke turns his gaze to Jarong, who is fully suited, and Wyman quickly explains he is Seem's friend, the one who failed all special school admissions, but still desires to be an adventurer. She adds that his measurement data was lost. Sam is just helping a friend with his transfer, but as the girls speak, Zeke's eyes are locked on the wrecked golem. Suddenly, he agrees to proceed with the test, shocking everyone present. He declares if safe mode can't find Jarong's limit, then he will personally fight him. The group erupts into chaos. Jarong, meanwhile, is oblivious to the situation. It turns out, in rare cases where limits can't be found by normal means, they must battle someone several levels higher. It's the only way to accurately gauge their potential. Without any warning, Zeke, he descends, declaring there's no time for pleasantries. Jong, stunned, instinctively assumes a combat stance, not yet grasping the depth of his predicament, but his survival instincts flare, overriding conscious thought. Zeke makes it clear, no golems, just a raw, brutal fight. With that, the safety is off. The gauntlet is thrown. Zeke Esker Saram, Institute Director and Saram's uncle, is far more than just some bureaucrat. He is Korea's 7th-ranked adventurer, an elite of the white class. This fact alone spirals the situation into chaos. Jarong is about to plunge headfirst into the world of rankers. The top 100 are tiered by color. Red for ranks 76 to 100, blue for 51 to 75, green for 31 to 50, black for 11 to 30, and the pinnacle, white, for the top 10. Jarong now faces Zeke, and the outlook is grim. This is serious trouble. Like a lightning bolt, the adventurer launches himself, seeking to land a decisive blow. But fortune is not on his side. He finds no opening and is forced to create one. The plan is simple, a heavy all-in strike immediately after evading Zeke's initial counter. The theory, a perfect dodge creates a window to land the true attack, but such a basic tactic is useless against a foe like Zeke. With a single hand, Zeke intercepts the blow, seizing Jong's staff as if it were a child's toy. He scoffs, noting Jong is even more reckless than he imagined. Then, without warning, a savage kick slams into Jong's stomach, launching him like a broken projectile. Jong is stunned, unable to process how his plan failed so utterly. Zeke taunts him, mocking the pathetic tactic. The boy is hopelessly out of his league. Zeke highlights his amateur mistake, dropping his weapon while still conscious. Just then, Jong retrieves his metal rod, bracing for another round. But Zeke's patience is gone. He's allowed 2 mistakes. Now, the restraints are off. This master means business. He warns Jong, one more foolish error, and his dream of being an adventurer is over. Suddenly, Zeke's aura erupts, thick and oppressive, as Jong readies himself. Though he senses Zeke's animosity, he doesn't let it break his concentration. And just like that, Jong darts forward, a blur of motion towards Zeke's flank, seemingly repeating his first attack. But then, out of nowhere, Jong executes a sudden feint that startles Zeke, catching the veteran completely off guard in a way he never anticipated. Unexpectedly, Jong unleashes 2 simultaneous attacks, a desperate gambit. For a fleeting moment, it nearly works. The master raises an eyebrow, noting the new ranged element. admitting it's a decent surprise. He calls it a standard tactic for one trying to innovate, but still, it isn't enough. The veteran barely flinches, reading the attack like an open book. Jarong knows this man is not satisfied. Things are just beginning. He channels power into his rod, unleashing a move that gives Zeke a moment's pause. Zeke seems slightly impressed, but he neutralizes it with a clean barrage of strikes. Yaman watches in shock, witnessing a battle that feels like it's between seasoned pros. She can't believe this boy was rejected by every academy. Saram just laughs awkwardly. Yaman, however, sees that Jarong is not perfect, spotting a glaring weakness. She even claims Saram is far superior in that respect. This revelation worries Saram, who realizes Jarong might lack a crucial skill she possesses. Still, she can't deny Jarong as holding his own, a real-life Manhwa level up against her monstrous uncle. Her mind races, trying to pinpoint the flaw in this seemingly perfect adventurer. Just as Jarong evades one of Zeke's punches, he loses his rhythm, but he recovers and lands a counterstrike on Zeke. Zeke notes the new attack, which genuinely surprised him. He's impressed to see the boy maintaining control of his weapon. To return the favor, Zeke unleashes a flurry of punches to Jarong's gut and face, launching him like a rocket once more. Yaman observes intently, seeing that even while suppressed, the chief's skill is immense. Then this legend. Zeke tells Jarong not to take the defeat personally. The outcome was obvious. Still, Jarong's pathetic reaction is just pitiful to witness. Then, Zeke bluntly declares, Jarong lacks fundamental training. Yaman explains his raw talent and combat instincts are top tier, but his fundamentals are an absolute disaster. His stance, his defense, his offense, it all screams of someone who has never been properly trained, and that makes it all the more disappointing to see such rare talent being utterly wasted. If he just had the basics, he'd be immensely stronger by now. Before turning to leave, Zeke admits he's seen many like Jarong. Even with talent others would kill for, it means absolutely nothing if he's unwilling to put in the work. Zeke offers his contact, but advises Jarong to quit, warning that someone like him is bound to be killed if he keeps relying on raw talent alone. Just then, Jarong staggers back up, feeling the venom in the blonde's harsh words. He asks Zeke directly if he despises lazy people. Zeke is genuinely stunned to see the kid still standing, as that last blow was meant to end it. Then, the defiant fighter declares he no longer cares about the outcome. He just wants a second round, to show what his effort can truly accomplish. Watching the screen, Yaman has no idea what is happening anymore. She contacts Director Zeke, insisting there is no need for more fighting, since she has already gathered sufficient data. There is no point in getting emotional now. Meanwhile, Saram also calls out to Jarong, assuring him that it is all right and everything is finished. She says getting his results is enough, but that doesn't stop Zeke from adding his own opinion, saying it's all pointless, no matter what Jarong desires. The sharp-eared man makes it clear that nothing will change, no matter how many fights he picks. Or maybe, he adds, this brat just wants his validation, or wants to be acknowledged. Jarong has had enough of this pale jerk's taunts. He fires back that he is genuinely enraged now, and the only thing he needs from Zeke is to beat the man to a pulp. The reason Jarong came here was for something else entirely. Young Jarong never had a teacher or an instructor to begin with, forcing him to rely on himself from the very start. He started from zero, learning everything on his own. Being born with natural talent is a rare gift, and thanks to it, he managed just fine training by himself. He filled in all the gaps of basic training alone. On top of that, he had far better chances to gain superior experience in the field, with the freedom to do as he pleased. From battling monsters to slaughtering them, he created his own rules and followed them all, making miraculous progress. Jarong never thought he was better than anyone, but when he finally met real adventurers, he was disappointed by the fakes who were weaker than him, like Pilgu and the Madman. While Zeke admits his mistake, Jarong sees this pale knight in a whole new light. Suddenly, Zeke's aura surges like he just unlocked his Cyan powers. The man is raging, fired up to put Jarong in his place. By beating him down so hard, he'll lose the will to fight, or even feel anger. With his pure talent, Jarong can become a monster far beyond his level, especially now that he's facing a real opponent. His blood starts to boil, and in that moment, a true Manhwa level up begins. Jarong becomes the shadow of his father. Meanwhile, Yaman and Saram are panicking about how far these two are taking this. They don't understand why the chief is reacting this way, and it only deepens Yaman's growing concerns. At the same time, Saram notices something off about Jarong's stance. It's totally different from before. His posture and weight distribution have shifted, and he isn't holding his staff the same way. It is like the man became a completely different person. After taking a deep breath, Jarong launches himself into the air, flashing straight at Zeke. Yaman is stunned by how clean his movement is, while Zeke's sharp eyes track every shift as he dodges. Compared to earlier, Saram finds Jarong's movements raw and simple, but there is absolutely no opening to exploit. Yaman's jaw practically hits the floor as she wonders what kind of monster taught him this. The kid, it turns out Jarong, secretly watched his father train since youth. Like a shadow, he copied the moves daily. Now, in the heat of battle, Zeke can't find a single opening to strike. And when his father found him spying, he just smiled and patted his head. Right now, Jarong unleashes a desperate flurry on Zeke, fighting to prove everything he's learned. Amidst this, the sun-kissed striker sees an opening, announcing he's about to land a decisive blow. At the same time, the big shot is certain Jarong can no longer evade it, but Jarong holds his ground, ready to meet him head-on and show what Zeke has been so eager to see. As the fight climaxes, the girls are left completely and utterly speechless. When the dust settles, Zeke calmly states that if Jarong hadn't used that ill-suited staff skill, he might have won if he'd persisted. He then asks if that was Jarong's last display of pride. On the ground, Jarong gasps for air, but can't suppress a smile. He admits he simply ran out of techniques. He had used everything he knew, and that was all. He was beaten even worse, but oddly, he doesn't feel it so bad. Deep down, he knows exactly who Zeke Eskaram is, the sharp-tongued legend among the highest-ranking adventurers. Saram rushes in to stop her uncle, but Zeke commands her to stay back. No one ever dared challenge this sun-blessed powerhouse, because his sheer, overwhelming skill always justified his arrogance. With a single hand, Zeke heals Jarong in moments, casually telling Saram the boy will be fine. He then confirms Jarong's name with her, visibly surprised, as he never expected to find a certain man's son in this place. It seems Zeke is one of the top 10 rankers in the white class for the entire nation, and is also Korea's most powerful healer. It's evening, and Zeke Eskaram strolls in, anticipating a meeting. As he arrives, a man immediately complains about Zeke, not even sending a quick text to say he was going to be late. He mutters it wouldn't have killed him to wait with some coffee, but now, because of Zeke, they are about to be late for the briefing yet again. Still, this hulking man knows the others will likely blame him for it. Zeke offers a casual apology, saying something urgent had appeared and took longer than he anticipated. The man mentions Zeke's little clash with some kid, guessing it was more than just one. That's when this bespectacled man notices something that absolutely stuns him, though it only confuses Zeke. He points to a small cut on Zeke's cheek as if it were a major crisis. The man is in disbelief, shocked that a 16-year-old seeking school enrollment actually managed to land such a blow. Zeke corrects him, saying the boy is actually 17 and is likely aiming for Warrior High this winter. The man recalls hearing about Warrior High recruiters, but notes that no one has met the criteria in the 3 years he's been there. Even so, he believes the kid has a chance. If that brat could scar Zeke's cheek without even an identity, his potential is undeniable. He admits the new generation is terrifyingly strong, like a real-life Manhwa level up, so they must remain vigilant. Zeke dislikes being compared to elves, but quips there might be little difference between this man and that kid. Naturally, the man refuses to be placed in the same league. This is Kang Gayano, South Korea's 19th ranker from the black class. He is also the leader of Korea's #1 attack squad, NIX. Gano is certain he surpasses the kid in both age and raw talent. He is 21 and graduated from Warrior High roughly 1 year and 7 months ago. Oh, and he confirms he just acquired this new car he ordered a while back. He isn't spending much lately, but concedes the car cost him 3.5 billion. Zeke, tired of the nonsense, pushes him back to the topic of the kid. Meanwhile, Jarong finally awakens, finding all his injuries have vanished. There's no more pain. Just then, Saram enters with 2 cups, visibly relieved he's awake. She teases him, asking if he genuinely believed he could defeat someone like Zeke. Jarong confesses that Zeke truly got under his skin and enraged him, insisting that Zeke had started the conflict. This confuses Saram, who says there's no way her uncle would just pick a fight. A clash of that magnitude. Jarong was stunned to learn Zeke was her maternal uncle. After she handed him the cup, he simply noted that she had a healthy bond with her uncle. From Zeke's actions, his genuine care was obvious. Jarong figured Zeke just got all worked up seeing a shady guy near his niece and felt compelled to test him. To be fair, Zeke had every right to be concerned. Saram explained that her uncle is just a stern type of person. Just then, Weeman entered to check if Jarong was injured. With a smile, she casually mentioned that their chief happens to be Korea's greatest healer, so, of course, he took care of all his injuries. That revelation hit Jarong like a physical blow. He was shocked. Zeke, a healer, yet his power was still so immense, even when healing wasn't his main focus. Afterwards, Yeman said it was time to share the verdict. The report read, Yu Jarong has Strength B rank, Intelligence C, Stamina A, Magic D, Agility A, and Patience B. Siram was thrilled by the amazing stats, but Jarong wasn't sure if they were actually good enough. This made Yeman worry if he even wanted to join the academy at all. To be a first-class adventurer, one needs at least a B in ability stats. That B signifies superhuman levels. But it is not just about high stats. Balance is crucial for the body's efficiency. There's no point in having insane agility if you lack the stamina to support it. And with immense strength, you can't reach your potential if agility is low. Even regular people can get a C rank or higher in stats, but if they're imbalanced, it is ineffective. Things truly change when someone has more than 2 key stats, strength, stamina, and agility at a decent level. People with all three at C rank are 1 in 10,000, usually becoming solid combatants. But with all three at B rank, they enter the 5,000 adventurer tier, placing them among the current elite. Now, Siram was concerned. This kid had A ranks in those stats except for strength, a B. His raw stats were already monstrous, and on top of that, he was well balanced. From what she knew of first years in the raid department, Siram felt Jarong might be on the same level as that monster from before. Still, this oddball had the nerve to expect even better results. Wiman then offered an interesting fact. Director Zeke lacks a single A rank in any stat. That bombshell nearly floored Jarong. She added that stats only show innate talent, but they do not reflect your actual skill. Even with the best stats, the gap between an A rank and a D rank is small if someone doesn't put in the training. Jarong understood some things can't be measured, like skill affinity, battle instincts, or the brutal experience they've endured. Yaman, grinning, said many adventurers manage a Manhwa level up, closing the gap with nothing but sheer will. She then winked at Siram, who blushed intensely. That's when Jarong thanked them for the insight, but admitted he didn't truly grasp it yet. He opened up, saying there's someone he looks up to, someone whose power he hopes to match someday. Compared to that person, he knew he had a long way to go. Yaman figured it must be someone famous if this kid was so driven. Jarong said maybe she was right. After that, Siram decided to wrap up, saying they were done for today. Then Wyman asked if the two were leaving already, since they could visit the production department while here. Siram shut that down quickly, reminding her she had no business there and didn't want to anger her uncle further. This made the scientist laugh as she casually revealed the director had already approved it. Siram was floored to hear Zeke had consented to let Jarong to visit the equipment production department as a guest, and they would even craft a custom weapon for him, for free. Equipment like weapons and armor is an adventurer's ultimate dream, especially custom forged. Even for the talented, if their gear is subpar, his journey could end before it begins. With low-grade gear, their power would shatter it, their skill would be wasted. This is why equipment is life itself. As an adventurer's skills evolve, and they experience a true Manhwa level up, their equipment must ascend as well. Only when the steel's quality matches, the wielder's soul can its full potential be truly unleashed. Jarong understands this, grateful for any handout he can get. Still, he questions if obtaining it now is truly that critical. Siram gives him a piercing stare, clearly unconvinced, and declares that it is absolutely necessary. She reminds this simpleton that Warrior High remains a school, and the academy will provide basic, usable equipment regardless. Yaman and Siram are left utterly speechless. Sam, wiping sweat from her brow, admits the fault was hers for not explaining sooner. She then reveals this guy actually intends to enter Warrior High. She adds that his criteria apply to standard adventurer guilds, but to maintain fairness among students, each academy enforces its own rules regarding the equipment that can be used. This jolts Jarong, who asks if Warrior High wouldn't gain more funds that way. Yumen informs him the school is founded on different principles and has sufficient funding. It's not about the money. Young Yumen, who is a graduate of Warrior High herself, explains that talent and ability are entirely different, and acquiring superior equipment is considered an ability in itself. That is precisely why students are expected to arm themselves before entering Warrior High. All this talk of ability aside, Jarong points out that the system seems rigged to favor the obscenely wealthy, as if being rich is now part of one's skill set. Yaman concedes his point, but also states it's not impossible for students to get good equipment, even without money. She continues, explaining that merely being accepted into Warrior High already certifies someone as a first-class adventurer. Essentially, the student possesses the potential to become a legend, and with that potential, there are always corporate vultures ready to invest in that kind of raw talent. Once accepted to Warrior High, countless companies with deep pockets will be desperate to offer sponsorship. These companies are often interested in modeling contracts or a percentage of an adventurer's future earnings after graduation. A flood of offers and options becomes available for funding once someone gets in. At this point, Yaman starts gloating about her scholarship from the Jin's group and a guaranteed research position until her retirement. Jong applauds the nerd, which Suram finds unsettling. The nerd then assures him there will be ample opportunities to prove his worth among his peers. But first, Jarong must survive the transfer exam, a crucible far harsher than the normal entrance test. To prepare, he must acquire his new equipment as soon as possible. This is why Chief Zeke gave him advance permission, so he could prepare in time. Since Wyman detailed everything, she suggests the two of them proceed to the underground refinery. With a disarming smile, she wishes Jarong luck in his endeavor. Afterward, Jarong mutters that the entire situation nearly went sideways, and Suram's bewildered expression confirms his suspicion. She clearly never expected her uncle to intervene on their behalf. The transfer test is now looming like a monumental trial, one that demands serious preparation. Suram confirms it is, which is why she was prepared to spend her own fortune to see him through it. Jong is completely stunned, reacting like a maiden hearing a confession, which Suram finds incredibly irritating, based on his disgusted expression. As they step into the elevator, Saran raises the next critical point. The creator of the equipment is even more vital than the cost. For that, the Jinsong Group's production division is one of the most renowned in the entire world. They soon arrive at the forge, the subterranean blacksmithing heart of the Jinsong Group. This infernal pit of a place was once known as the Boiling Abyss Dungeon. As Jarong reels, Saram adds that this isn't a place where you just place an order, pay the price, and receive your equipment. Suddenly, a colossal shadow engulfs them, catching Jarong utterly unprepared. A one-eyed behemoth appears, clearly enraged that Zeke roused him from his weekend nap, only to not even show up. This monster in a lab coat is strange enough, on its own, but Jarong is already poised to take it on. Saram recognizes his look, and quickly jumps in front to hold him back. She informs him he's the production department's team leader, but the one-eyed monster snaps back, calling her a Twinkie and insisting he's not just a leader. He's a monster in the eyes of humans. Thunderhammer Argus is an elder titan who, curiously, is eligible for special naturalization in the Republic of Korea. He sits before them and asks which brat Zeke was talking about. When the monster seems confused, Saram gets worried, explaining that the details, data, and battle footage were all sent from upstairs. Argus dismisses it as human-made nonsense, something he couldn't care less about. He says that stuff is for his lackeys, but they've all taken off for the day. Still, since it's a special request from Zeke, he'll allow it. Then, the giant starts talking business. Suddenly, Argus spots Jarong's weapon and challenges him to try hunting him down. Saram panics while Jarong quietly considers it. The one-eyed entity explains that unlike humans, it's natural for their species to test if someone is worthy of their blood, sweat, and tears before forging their weapon. But Argus also notes Jarong's abrupt dodging style after sensing his presence, making him think this kid is different from the others. Also, the brat's eyes are sharp for hunting, showing a repressed yet refined warrior's hostility. Therefore, the monster wants Jarong to attack him. Jarong is quick to agree, stating he never backs down from offers like this. Instantly, Jarong charges Argus at full speed, catching the monster completely off guard. In a flash, Jarong has his metal rod pressed against the titan's chin. The monster is shocked to his core and demands to know where he got that weapon. While Jarong keeps the staff's tip pressed against the one-eyed monster's chin, a wave of confusion hit Jarong. He was sure his strike had hit the titan with his sharpest needle, and he knew there were monsters he couldn't defeat in one hit, no doubt. But right now, it felt like striking an impenetrable wall, something that wasn't even alive to begin with. Standing before this hellish, abyssal monster, the boy couldn't help but wonder who this creature even was. Meanwhile, Saram was utterly chilled, worried that Jarong was about to provoke this giant. There was another reason for her concern, as well. It turned out that all monsters were ranked by danger using stars. A mantis fly was a one-star threat, meaning it could kill humans, but could be defeated by a normal adult male with a weapon. Next was the cluster raptor with 2 stars, which trained military personnel with guns could handle. Then came the 3-star juvenile titan ape, which armored troops could take down easily. The Democus, with 4 stars, caused a high rate of human casualties if they appeared. Ground troops would conduct civilian evacuations, and Democus were usually eliminated by long-range artillery and bombing strikes. The military could only handle threats up to 4 stars. Anything above that was a massive threat, something modern armies couldn't deal with, as taking down those monsters required extraordinary firepower, causing irreversible damage. So to minimize losses, adventurers called the attack squad were dispatched. They were necessary to handle these threats. Now Argus, with a 7-star danger rank, boldly asked the boy where he got that weapon. Chills ran down her spine while Jarong mocked Argus, asking if the hit was so hard he was now questioning his weapon. Argus warned the tiny being to think carefully before answering, since he was the one who made it. When Jarong stayed silent, Argus got annoyed and decided to make one last effort to ask why the weapon wasn't with the person it was made for. Saram's worry shot through the roof, thinking that if Argus built Jarong's weapon, it had to be at least A-ranked. That info should have been added to the association database the moment it was created, along with details about the owner and its location. There was no way a smuggler could acquire such a weapon so easily. Saram started wondering if Jarong's weapon, it turned out, was stolen. Jarong's defiance was swift and suicidal, cutting Argus off and sending a jolt of pure terror through Saram's nerves. She thought this boy was completely and utterly insane. Argus considered this, then his immense form bent to retrieve something. Jarong's world narrowed to a single thought: instant obliteration, because that attack was impossible to dodge. If that were the case, there was 0 chance of blocking the strike. If he attempted the needle attack, it would be useless. Argus was a fortress of flesh, nothing could pierce him, and if Jarong chose to swell his form, it would accomplish nothing. Worse, absorbing the impact would simply annihilate him. So, this nomad had one final option that might work, a desperate move called the last technique. It was an art stolen directly from his father, Yang. Jarong knew the law of force was cold and absolute, especially as he prepared to strike this one-eyed monster. When 2 forces collide head-on, the stronger power always prevails. But the terrifying variable is what occurs when the impact isn't direct. Even with precise calculation of angle and position, without winning the clash, he cannot hope to redirect the force. That is the secret to Jarong's final weapon. And yet, against all odds, the kid actually parries the attack. That alone was enough to stun the rich girl, who could barely process that he just deflected a 7-star monster strike. On top of that, Jarong pinpointed the giant wall's only real weak spot, his eye, which he planned to pierce with the needle. But as he lunged for the strike, Argus's massive hand clamped down on him. It was then Saram intervened, pleading for leader Argus to stop. She cried out that she understood his suspicion of this boy, but even someone like him wouldn't attack a human without knowing the full story. She reminded him of the law. Special naturalized species are forbidden from harming humans unless their own life is in mortal danger. If they break that rule, they lose their naturalized status and become just another monster. Hearing this, Argus's grip finally slackened, letting Jarong fall hard onto his back. The Titan now understood why Jarong held that weapon and finally grasped why Zeke endured the trouble of waking him. At first, the beast seemed ready to apologize, but instead, he declared that Jarong had every right to wield that weapon and insisted on atoning for his earlier mistake. Then, as he glanced down at his bruised thumb, a wound courtesy of Jarong's parry, he noted it was the first time he'd been injured in 30 years. Saram was completely lost, but the one-eyed being calmly said that this was precisely the reason he began working with humans. Saram hesitantly asked if it was because of the Gabuk attack squad that supposedly hunted him 3 decades ago. But Argus was genuinely shocked by that, stating the story was a complete fabrication. The truth is, they never even managed to land a single scratch on him, except for one person. That's when he revealed the shocking truth. A single human severed his arm and nearly took his life, but spared him at the very last moment. Jarong's expression shifted, becoming deathly serious, as he realized the monster was speaking of his father, Yang. Elder Titans are known as the most powerful race among all giants. They have a seemingly endless lifespan, and only 10 are known to exist, making their presence on Earth incredibly rare. Their pure, raw physical strength goes far beyond what humans can possibly comprehend. But what truly sets them apart is their unmatched craftsmanship. They are legendary as equipment creators. The process of crafting weapons with special powers or making powerful artifacts is their innate talent. Besides the Elder Titans, dwarves are the only other race blessed with the ability to create such weapons. However, unlike the Elder Titans, the dwarves eventually grew comfortable coexisting with humans. The Elder Titans, on the other hand, not only refused to coexist but also viewed humans as completely insignificant. Then, 30 years ago, during the Argus subjugation operation by the Gabuk attack squad, things went sideways when Colossus B, Argus's automated 4-star doll, launched a devastating attack. Osunga, the dealer for Team 9 of the Gabuk squad, announced that communication with headquarters was totally gone. Kim Young-mo, the team's utility and buffer, added that all communication lines were severed, probably due to some powerful signal interference. Then, Park Jongman, the team leader and tanker, began screaming in terror, shouting that something immense was approaching and that they needed to brace for impact immediately. Colossus B slams its fist down, a massive fist into the ground, shaking the earth like a quake. Meanwhile, Sununga strikes from behind, aiming straight for its neck. But the attack does absolutely nothing. It barely dents the helmet, a fact that shocks her to the core. The doll turns its glowing eyes toward her, swatting her away like a mere fly. The sight makes Young-mo freeze in terror, shaking uncontrollably. None of this was supposed to happen. The Gabuk attack squad was known as one of the best subjugation squads. But here, in the dungeon of the Boiling Abyss, ruled by the Elder Titan, Argus, even they were struggling just to survive. Sununga hits the ground hard, blacking out on impact, unable to move. And that was just one doll. There are 7 Colossus B units in total. Every time they take one down or escape its attack, another appears from the shadows. Young-mo is realizing that if the main team can't handle this, the backup teams don't stand a chance at all. Out of nowhere, a man tells Young-mo to get out of there fast, saying it's a miracle if even one of them makes it out alive. Right then, another Colossus B charges the man, but he stands his ground, blocking the blow with a skill called Potential Trigger. This skill burns all the user's remaining energy to boost their physical abilities to the max. But once the effect wears off, the user is left completely incapacitated. Right after, he follows up with a shield slam, blocking the incoming blow from one of Argus's dolls. Young-mo, terrified, yells that if the team leader uses Potential Trigger now, they're all done for. But the leader calmly tells him there's no way everyone is making it out of here alive. He admits he doesn't have enough energy left to finish the enemy, but he can at least hold them off long enough for the others to escape. With a slight smile, he tells Young-mo there's still a chance for him. Just then, a massive shadow looms, heavy enough to stop their hearts. Argus steps out, annoyed his minions still haven't cleared the pests from his domain. At that moment, they knew death was staring them in the face. One last time, the leader orders the idiot Young-mo to run, while he takes on the giant himself. He hopes that if he charges head-on, he can at least buy them a little more time. Meanwhile, Argus, the one-eyed monster, holds a blazing sword, ready to wipe out the roaches in his path. With a single slash, he incinerates the team leader to a crisp, calling him an inferior pest. He mocks their equipment as absolute trash, especially in the hands of such weak bodies. To him, they are all pathetic. Every being that dares to claim this world as their own. And with that, it seems clear to him this world is bound to be doomed. Which makes it all the more ironic when a coward like young Mo suddenly stands there, pointing his weapon at Argus. Argus, amused, remarks on his heartwarming, if meaningless, loyalty. As the Colossus B dolls close in, young Mo, clearly shaken, has no idea how to defeat the things even the team leader couldn't handle. Then, a voice echoes through the chaos, reminding them that he did say this palace wasn't safe. A muscular man appears beside young Mo, calmly saying that if they gather enough intel, they might have a shot at turning this around together. There's no point in rushing to be the first to clear the dungeon anyway. Still weeping, young Mo blurts out, asking who he even is. The man casually reveals he picked up a distress signal, so the association sent out a rescue team. He introduces himself as Yang, 32 years old, one of the volunteers, and as if the timing couldn't be more ridiculous, he mentions he's wearing a heavier chest plate this time, making small talk while literal death stands before them. Argus taunts Xiong, saying he better not have come here all by himself. But Xiong casually replies that for now, he's the only one who managed to make it. Just then, a Colossus Bee swings its massive blade, the hit landing just inches away. Young Mo is still a wreck, knowing full well how impossibly tough these things are to take down. Meanwhile, Xiong is already calculating how many more of these monsters might be lurking nearby. At this point, Xiong was just some guy, a no-name adventurer, not famous, but the first generation knew him. They recall the man who once single-handedly severed the arm of a Colossus Bee doll. Unlike others chasing fame, Xiong always focused on rescue, which is why he remained in the shadows. But this moment, this fight, was his true beginning. In a flash, Xiong charged, slashing a Colossus Bee clean in half with one savage blow. Just like that, one was down. Argus witnessed this, watching as Xiang Yuang made his entrance. And Xiang, unfazed, turned to Argus, noting this one looked like a much bigger problem. That was the day the world began to learn who Xiang Yuang truly was. Yang Mo, seeing the spectacle, was in absolute shock at what one man, Xiang, was capable of. A chill ran down his spine as he processed reality. This man just felled the same monster his team couldn't scratch, and Xiang did it with a single attack. Suddenly, he turned to Yang Mo, asking if the magician had any mana remaining. Hesitant and sniffling, the boy admitted he didn't have much left, but agreed to give him a buff. Xiang immediately refused. Instead, he asked if Yang Mo could use levitation spells. It turns out he wanted Yang Mo to recover Sanunga and Zhong, who were still alive, just unconscious. Argus, the master of this dungeon, found it laughable that some small fry was sending his underling to rescue the others. The monster's pride was wounded by a human so arrogant, thinking he could escape just by taking down a few puppets. Holding his fiery sword, Argus didn't take Xiang seriously. But the lone figure was just getting started. Xiang powered up and stared the giant down, telling him flatly that he wouldn't let him lay a finger on the kids without his permission. That was enough to enrage the one-eyed beast into unleashing his full power. Even then, Xiang's power surged, a true Manhwa level-up moment. With his weapon charged, he blocked Argus's blazing assault, without even flinching. Meanwhile, Yang Mo, retrieving his teammates, was left in utter disbelief at the spectacle unfolding before his eyes. 10 years after the adhesion, most adventurers had hit their plateau. But thanks to the newly unlocked potential from the adhesion phenomenon, they were finally able to get closer to the realm of superhumans. Technology also made immense leaps during that period, rapidly evolving to create gear that could match their boosted stats. Unlike their progress in stats and gear, their combat execution was still crude. The real solution lay in human evolution, a new martial art that defied common sense. Only a handful of people saw the need for it then. But from that moment, they began to research and develop it. Right there, Xiang leaped into the air to unleash a finishing blow, catching Argus entirely off guard. Xiang was one of the few who understood the endgame from the start. That strike hit home, and Yang Mo nearly jumped with joy, seeing that this man actually pulled it off. After taking a direct hit to the gut, Argus conceded this so-called small fry was turning out to be far different from the others. He deduced Xiang knew precisely how to utilize what he had. The Cyclops even added that if Xiang had been using his weapon at even half its full power, things would have ended very differently. In short, Xiang was not famous at this point, and yet, he was already beginning to forge a whole new legend for himself. The truth is, Xiang was never able to buy the top-tier equipment that was considered the best back then. Suddenly, the door exploded open as reinforcements poured in. But just as they came, another attack flew at Xiang, which he blocked with everything he had. The monster observed that Xiang had a skill that not only blocked, but also redirected attacks. He called the skill inferior compared to the ones he had witnessed from other humans. But even as he said it, everyone around began preparing their own assault. The monster, landing what should have been an absolutely fatal hit, declared it was over. But Xiang had other plans, delivering a counter at impossible speed. Somehow, he blocked it again, leaving Argus in utter shock. At that point, Argus finally realized the attacks were not being redirected, they were being completely nullified. That moment marked the genesis of a skill Jarong is destined to learn. It is the origin of the swell, a technique that absorbs an opponent's force and hurls it back with lethal precision. Unlike skills reliant on raw power, this art is forged from physical might, experience, and flawless execution. In the past, it was on another plane of existence. Argus now faces Yuang, whose aura erupts from his muscular form. He is witnessing the martial prowess of a true hero. Argus muses that there must be a human legend, where a hero finally vanquishes a monster in this exact manner. He remembers his own father landing a blow that destroyed a beast from within. After losing to him, Argus's life was forfeit, yet his father had a change of heart and spared him. The Gabiak squad's attempt to clear the dungeon appeared to be a complete failure, and though the members were handled, the shocking truth is that a single rescuer ended up conquering the dungeon alone, a truly unbelievable conclusion to what should have been a grand saga. Now, for the crucial part, Elder Titans never yield to those they deem inferior. Yet, Argus resolved to request exile among the humans. Sarum recalls that day vividly, when the entire world was left utterly stunned. Still, Argus secured his citizenship quickly due to his vow not to kill. But that doesn't absolve the crimes he committed. As penance, he was assigned to the equipment department. Yet, hearing a single person cleared that dungeon is a revelation to Saram. Later, to honor the man who subdued the beast within, Argus forged the staff Jarong now carries as tribute. He asked for nothing in return, but in Argus's eyes, Jarong appeared worthy. Jarong himself never knew any of this. As a child, the staff seemed to have no special powers, but it felt sturdy, likely why the debt collectors left it behind. The Titan even concedes that it isn't truly special. The staff's primary function is as a blunt instrument. Saram is left utterly confused about the debt situation. Then, Argus demands to know if Jarong's father wielded a similar staff, which suddenly triggers a fragmented memory in Jarong's mind. The Titan admits he once considered forging an axe for Xiang, but awaited his father's return with the necessary material for the blade. At some point, however, all communication was lost. As Argus is forbidden to leave this place, he sent the staff instead. He doesn't know every detail, but one thing is certain, he can no longer finish the weapon for Xiang. The one-eyed being then turns to Jarong, demanding he surrender the incomplete weapon. He vows to finish it, not as a masterpiece for Xiang, but as the key to Jarong's own Manhwa level up. Saram watches Jarong, her mind racing, and asks if he is all right. The composed young man assures her he is fine. It is just the Titan, ensuring all loose ends are tied, just like before. Argus admits he doesn't know how long it will take, but he swears to complete the weapon as soon as possible. The ancient being advises Jarong to be patient. He even names the weapon the Master Piercer, a project that will clearly demand immense time and effort. Afterwards, Saram mentions her Wednesday off and asks if he wants to meet. She suggests they could spend the day hanging out, so they can study for the written exam together and perhaps run a practice test. The quiet young man readily agrees to the plan. Then, voicing something that's been on her mind, Saram remarks, his father must have been an incredible person. She never imagined her own father cleared that dungeon. She then asks if Jarong's father is hospitalized, or perhaps just resting in retirement. Jarong simply looks at her for a moment before saying he's going on ahead to be alone, and that she shouldn't worry about him. Saram, completely taken aback, watches him leave. Back in her high-end car, Saram reviews the case file on the Gabiak attack squad's clearing of the Boiling Abyss dungeon. It states that despite minor issues, the 5 individuals who led the assault successfully captured its owner, Argus. This was the truth Saram had always known, but if Argus spoke the truth, the entire history is a lie. The 5 Gabiak squad adventurers are legends, but those charlatans may have stolen another's achievement. Adventurer. Though it's hard to process, she's sure Argus wouldn't lie, and if Jarong truly inherited that kind of skill, his father must have been incredibly powerful. Such deceptions have happened before. Once inside a dungeon, there's no way to know what truly occurs. She recalls the infamous case of the so-called fake dragon slayer, Yuang. He was once hailed as one of the best adventurers in Korea, praised for his godlike skills, but it was later revealed his accomplishments were built on false reports and coercion. The case was only exposed when Xiang himself confessed after being gravely injured. Right then, a connection forms in Seem's mind as she reads a related rumor about the fake dragon slayer story. It claimed Xiang had defeated Argus, but that theory was officially discredited by the Gabiak squad. She wonders if that man could be Jiang's father, but before she can pursue this dark thought, her phone vibrates with a new message. Her practical test scores have been released, so she quickly checks to confirm. Meanwhile, at Warrior High, in the dungeon raid department, a woman in the office notes, Mr. Kang hasn't had a moment of peace all weekend because of her. That woman is Chosi, the instructor for Warrior High's Class 1 and 2, and also a magic teacher. Kang doesn't chide her too harshly, as it's her inaugural year of teaching. Besides, he takes matters involving the first-year students with grave seriousness. Saha says that everything feels unprecedented this year. The students' performance and levels are far beyond her own time as a student. It's like a real-life manhwa level up. Kang had predicted that very kid would seize first place in the practical test. Kang says it's never simple to foresee the outcome. Meanwhile, Sarum is reeling after seeing the midterm results. Her mind is struggling to comprehend it. Among Warrior High's first years, there are 3 students who are hailed as prodigies in their class. Ironically, all 3 of them are half-bloods. First, there's Diav Choi, who inherited the swordsmanship talent of his father, a current white-class adventurer. Diav also possesses the magical talent of his elven mother, making him the ultimate magic swordsman. Then, Anisha Eskaram, a half-blood with vast mana reserves and control superior to most pure-blooded elves. This witch easily has the potential to ascend to the rank of Grand Magician. The third is a boy born of a human and a dwarf, a figure who commands attention. He possesses the strength and durability of a dwarf with the flexibility and reflexes of a human, a body with only the best traits from both species. His name is Tyr Velkason, but at Warrior High, he is Soka Kang. This guy appears to have the strongest physique in the school, and he secured first place in the second semester midterms. Still, Sahia isn't underestimating his skill compared to the other 2. However, she's heard the top rank in the practical test was taken by one of the 2. Though the test was easier, it is unbelievable he took first place as a solo adventurer. Kang believes this physical beast isn't just blessed with raw strength. Sahia feels a sense of concern for the big guy, wishing he would lower his guard, especially when he has the clear talent to become a great leader. Honestly, this hybrid has no interest in making friends with any other students. Most kids, both inside and outside the dungeon raid department, are terrified just by his presence. But in the long run, especially by the second year, there is a hard limit to what one can achieve solo. That is why Seiya wishes Seoka Kang had a single ally who understood him, but she cannot name a single person. Kang mentions the factors that go unnoticed behind the scenes. He admits there's a limit to how much teachers can worry, but he chooses to have faith in his students instead of merely worrying. He's confident Soka Kang will figure it all out. 4 days later on a Wednesday morning, 2 students are joking around until Seoka Kang walks by. The moment they see him, his overwhelming presence makes their smiles vanished as a deep chill seized their spines. They froze, stiff with fear. Before they could react, Chill Kang suddenly bowed and apologized for not noticing them earlier, saying he was just a little zoned out. These 2 fools, already on edge, started begging for forgiveness, as if their lives depended on it. Turns out they had spilled juice on his shirt. What they don't know is that behind that rock-solid body, this so-called King Kong is actually a softie. Deep down, this titan carries the weight of a tough life and quietly misses his mom. Back in his childhood, this King Kong was actually a cheerful kid who adored his mom's tteokbokki. Even though his mother, Sok Yubin, always told him she couldn't cook, which is likely why he never got to taste it again. Sok Yubin is a well-known Korean adventurer, renowned in Northern Europe. She used to tell her son stories about her memories from her home country, and those stories sparked a deep admiration in Cha Kang for Korean culture and people. Thanks to his natural talent and upbringing, Cha Kang ended up getting into Warrior High after passing the special transfer test. But the kid came with one big issue. He was extremely introverted. He could barely hold a conversation and was often overlooked. Deep down, he really wanted friends to talk to, but he wasn't confident in his Korean, which made him worry that people would think he was a joke. There is this thing about introverts. If they know a foreign language, speaking it isn't as easy as people might think. And while everyone else was scared of his intimidating vibe, Cha Kang actually hated his own personality. Because of this fear, Cha Kang unintentionally became a lone wolf by the time the first semester had passed. One day, while walking alone as usual, he noticed 2 friends heading into a PC zone to grab a spot. That is when he suddenly remembered his mom's stories about hanging out with friends at karaoke and PC bangs. She'd play games, order a ton of food, and just have fun. Feeling anxious but inspired, Cha Kang hesitantly stepped inside to try booking a room for himself, even though he had no clue how any of it worked. While he fumbled with the system, some guys nearby started throwing shade, saying he was taking all day. Now feeling like he's holding up the line, Chill Kang decided maybe it's better to just leave. That's when a guy suddenly spoke to him in English, telling him that what he's using is just the payment counter and pointed toward the actual register on the side. Then the guy asked if Chill Kang even knew Korean. Turns out that guy is Jarong, and he stepped in to help this King Kong figure things out, telling him to follow along so he can show him how to register properly. From there, Jarong showed Chill Kang that it's not necessary to fill out every single thing for the registration. He pointed out just the important parts and guided him through. Once registration was done, he told him he can pay at the machine up front. After that, Jarong walked him through the rest, saying all he needs to do is pick a seat, log in, and he's good to go, his PC ready for a manhwa level up. Chill Kang thanked him, and the guy just let out a sigh and relaxed into his chair. Jarong told him to have fun, but couldn't help noticing how this Korean-speaking foreigner was acting like it was his first time in a PC bang. Meanwhile, Jarong kept checking the time, wondering what was taking Som so long. She's super late, and he never expected this girl to be the type to keep someone waiting. If he had known she'd take this long, he would have just gone to the black market first instead of showing up this early. Also, he has no clue what this black item in his hands even is. Back then, it was in the chest with the royal jelly. But judging by how smooth it feels, it definitely doesn't seem edible. Not that he would dare try. Jarong noticed it when he was bandaged up at home, and figured he'd get it appraised when he had the time. For now, though, he plans to avoid selling anything related to the Imperial Wasp. On the other hand, he's seriously thinking about selling Enkil's blood pendant for some solid cash. The tyrant of the land, Enkil, is one of the great disasters lurking in the Agar jungles, and the threat it poses has not stopped in decades. Over all those years, not a single squad has ever successfully subjugated it. Even though countless elite squads were dispatched to hunt it, yet adventurers still shudder at its name. The most they ever recovered were a few stray scales and a mere trace of blood. The government outlawed its hunting, making any relic of the beast worth a fortune beyond belief. Zhang's plan was to meet Saram, then hit the black market, but this chaos completely wrecked his schedule. Out of nowhere, Chikong approached and sat next to him, as all the other seats were occupied. Introverts stress over things that don't matter, but Zhang chalked it up to the noon rush, letting the big guy sit beside him. After logging in, Chilkang saw there weren't any special games to play, and his own PC actually had better specifications. Then Zhang saw him playing Heroes of Chaos, and noted he was around the same rank. The smooth gamer casually added he had no one to play with, so he invited Cha Kang to team up for a duo match. In a small region of Seoul, lie desolate tracts of land called scars. Back during the adhesion phenomenon, entire cities that once stood massive were utterly obliterated. While many areas were restored over time, zones closest to the dungeons were abandoned. These deserted zones, which sit between dungeon walls and city limits, still serve a function. They're a second line of defense if monsters break out of the dungeons. In the past 20 years, no monsters have breached the walls on their own. The MGX 877 is a special vehicle used for transporting medium-class monsters, and today, it gets clearance to enter Gate S11. The vehicle's driver always regrets coming here, hating to just sit around while his friends are out there making money hunting monsters. The woman with the eye patch is sick of his whining, and tells him bluntly to quit this gig and go hunt with his buddies if he wants. This eye patch wearer is Jo Yana, a 31-year-old former gold-class adventurer who retired after a crippling eye injury. Now, she's a special operator for the Adventurer Association. Yana asks Sun Changwu, a 22-year-old former bronze-class adventurer who's perfectly intact, why he is even here. Yana points out the whiner lacks a full license and the necessary skills to form a proper party. She figures the only reason he is even here is his stress over not making enough money. Changwu tells the eye patch to drop the facts and just let him vent, but the one-eyed warden has had enough of his complaining. As they drive on, something feels strange. Yana wonders if the monster in the back has escaped or caused a disturbance. She tells Changwu to inform HQ they are stopping for a quick inspection, then leaps from the vehicle without hesitation. While the whiner radios in that Yana is doing a checkup, his mind spins with maddening thoughts of what could happen. He believes Yana will be fine, but that confidence shatters when he sees a splash of blood on the window. Changwu knew that without her injury, Yana's was a true Manhwa level-up story, destined for the highest ranks. As the vehicle door swings open, Changwu immediately praises Yana's swift work, only to freeze seeing someone else standing there, blood leaking from her mouth. The strange woman smirked at the compliment, saying the girl had good reflexes for a government worker, hinting she knew why she was no longer in the field. Without wasting time, she checks the manifest of what's inside the transport. Chills crawl up Changwu's spine as he goes stiff with fear. The woman, looking like she was out for blood, gave him a simple command: drive or die. On the other hand, Zhang wins his match against Cholkang. After that, the two head out for lunch, and Zhang calls the choice perfect. He's genuinely impressed by the food and the owner, never expecting the guy to be his age, especially with how tall and large he looks. But before he can ask more, his attention is violently seized as the entire place erupts into chaos. It feels like an earthquake, followed by a deafening explosion. Two guys day drinking nearby stare in disbelief, wondering how someone just rammed a truck into a wall. One of them mentions calling the authorities, assuming someone else must have already done so. Meanwhile, the strange, bloodthirsty woman. The woman had already planned this spectacle in the middle of Gangnam. She announced to the crowd that she had done little since her release, yet they were already trying to cage her again. Guards warned that adventurers would flood the area once the alarm blared. But Missy remained utterly unfazed. She was certain she would not be caught this time. A crack then spiderwebbed across the truck, and Missy gave the signal for her crew to advance, casually announcing she had awakened them all. Afterwards, the entire crowd was stunned, frozen in shock as a pure nightmare materialized before them. Everyone trembled, ice creeping up their spines as they stared at the grotesque figure with a single horn. This was the Horned Horror, a beast whose power amplified with its horn's growth. Nearby, the bloodthirsty woman grinned wickedly, betting the creature would eliminate at least 50 people effortlessly. Getting carried away, she raised the stakes, laughing as she claimed 100 would fall before any rescue squad arrived. That's when true panic erupted. The entire crowd scattered, running as if their lives depended on it because they did. Their eyes were wide with terror, but it was futile. The horned horror seized victims, dispatching them one by one without mercy. As the beast closed in on more helpless prey, Jarong erupted onto the scene with blinding speed, landing a vicious kick directly to the monster's face. Jaws dropped as onlookers witnessed a young man manhandling that demonic-looking creature, the horned horror. Jarong wasted no time, shouting at the stunned crowd to escape immediately. Suddenly, a memory sparked, and Jarong realized he had seen some of these faces before. Besides that, he knew one-horned horrors were manageable. Then, from nowhere, he sensed something hurtling toward him. It was a powerful bite, aimed straight for him. It neared, but Jarong dodged it in the nick of time. That's when he spotted a two-horned horror, charging at him with sheer arrogance. Without hesitation, he smashed its face with a punishing kick. He knew the lifespan of a horned horror was typically 5 to 6 years. Most perished before growing a second horn. Yet, about 8% did grow that second horn, and when they did, they could reproduce, live longer, and power up beyond all normal limits. As the monster let out a furious roar, Jarong knew one thing for certain. These two-horned abominations were incredibly fast and strong, but not invincible. He was willing to fight them if possible. The real problem was their durability. Recalling Old Man Pilgu, who boasted of being a great tank, Jarong estimated these two-horned horrors were at least 3 to 4 times tougher than him. The issue was, Jarong was completely ungeared. No armor, no weapons. Without them, he felt exposed. Still, he knew he could manage with at least one piece of equipment. As the two-horned beast's punch obliterated a nearby wall, Jarong executed a double backflip, barely dodging the blow. This thing's danger rank was 3 stars. Then, Jarong spotted a stop sign, an idea forming. He stomped on its base and snapped off the metal pole. The creature went berserk, leaping into the air. In that instant, Jarong infused the rod with magic, preparing to strike the monster down. But before he could, it used him as a launch pad, rocketing toward a group of children ahead. The young man was stunned when he realized the monster was completely ignoring him. Ahead, the children were frozen in terror, trembling as the horrifying beast charged them at full speed. The danger rank gap between 2 and 3 stars is vast, a true Manhwa level up in threat. In sheer destructiveness, both are monsters that exist far beyond what any normal human can endure. Against such creatures, ordinary people have no chance. They would be slaughtered without even knowing what hit them. Even a skilled adventurer, knowing how to fight these fiends, can do little without proper gear or support magic. But there is one exception. From nowhere, Cha Kang intercepted the two-horned horror's punch, blocking it with his own body. This absolute titan of a man delivered a brutal punch to the monster's gut, sending it flying like trash. It turns out, the only ones capable of such a wild feat are, meet the elite tankers, bodies honed to inhuman limits. Cha Kang could likely hurl that beast aside with his raw strength alone. Yet, killing a 3-star monster barehanded remains nearly impossible. The creature utters some vile gibberish, which only infuriates Jarong. He vaults, landing a clean strike on the freak's neck, felling it instantly. Immediately after, Jarong and Cha Kang lock gazes, both stunned by the other's presence. An explosion rocks the area before a word is spoken. Jarong cannot believe the devastation these monsters have already unleashed. Cha Kang warns the rescue team is still several minutes out. On top of that, the emergency alarm now wails, an unforeseen horror. And as this chaos unfolds, people are being crushed and maimed everywhere. This behemoth knows the taunting call, a core skill for any tanker. It's a high-frequency roar designed to capture the attention of all nearby monsters. Cha Kang, dreaming of being an adventurer, has made his decision. He will draw every monster to himself and hold the line until the rescue squad arrives. He tells Jarong to get inside, away from the carnage. Deep down, though, Cha Kang can't ask a near stranger to risk his life. Their only bond was forged over video games and a few meals. But then Jarong tells him to unleash the call, confirming he sees Cha Kang as a true tanker. Jarong had already deduced the plan to lure the monsters and wants the big guy to commit. Cha Kang, ever the softy, says it's too risky, but Jarong states the obvious. He planned to do it solo anyway. The staff wielder adds that in Cha Kang's place, he'd do the same. But he isn't alone now. He even praises Cha Kang's gaming skills, noting his talent for protecting others, before dropping a hard truth. They have no time for talk. As the moment's heat intensifies, with his father's shadow looming over him, Cha Kang feels the resolve of a true adventurer ignite. He's fired up, ready to give it all. Inside a supermarket, it is complete chaos, where a young boy hides under a sink, shivering in shock as a one-horned fiend strangles the life from a man. Just as the monster smashes the sink for its next victim, Cha Kang unleashes his taunting call with all his might, a sound that echoes far and wide. The sonic wave hits the ears of every monster hunting humans nearby. Even the strange, bloodthirsty woman hears it clearly, wondering about the scream's source. After that, the behemoth is set to face the incoming horde, as monsters charge him like ravenous, mindless zombies. With a single finger, the monsters swarm the big guy like he's a free buffet. At first, Cha Kang dodges a weak monster's blow, then smacks it back, showing it who's boss. Another wave of two-horned monsters rushes him, and Cha Kang prepares to beat them to a pulp. But one monster suddenly senses something is off and looks up just in time to spot Jarong diving from above, ready to strike. It turns out he had quickly evaluated the situation and spotted two-horned fiends hiding among the swarm of one-horned monsters. His eyes then catch a strangely damaged truck nearby, and something feels wrong about it. It seems they've been stacking bodies in the truck, which explains the lack of corpses on the streets. Out of the blue, the monsters charge toward Jarong, but he's already in motion, knowing usual methods won't work on these things. Cha Kang figures they are all close-range combatants, yet this time they have no ranged support or gear. Right now, the two of them are hardly a dream team. They have no gear or magic to back them up, and this is becoming the worst kind of fight. They must find some way to gain the upper hand. As the tanker, Cha Kang decides to charge the weaker ones and hold them, while Jarong, the damage dealer, targets the two-horned fiends. As Jarong pierces one, he realizes it's far weaker than monsters he's faced with his needle. A true Manhwa level up technique. He's certain that with the Staff of Argus, he would have already stacked these monsters like trash. But right now, all he wields is this battered old rod that's hanging on by a single thread. As the monsters close in, Jarong is fully aware this rod is not his true staff, but he admits he's finally getting the hang of it. In the back of his mind, he recalls Zeke fighting bare-handed and utterly dominating Jarong in every conceivable way. Aside from a couple of landed hits, Zeke's strikes weren't the fastest or strongest. Yet, each one seemed to slow Jarong down little by little, his whole body growing heavier with every blow. Another monster gets kicked in the face as Jarong narrowly dodges an incoming attack. He knows full well the smallest slip-up could be his end today. Like before, Jarong is pushing forward, aiming for a true Manhwa level up and gets stronger one step at a time. He lands a solid blow that snaps the two-horned freak's horn, tossing it aside like garbage, but another one is already charging in. He's been studying Zeke's fighting style, and now tries to mimic that same deadly rhythm. After his father, Zeke was the first person he saw with such overwhelming power, and thanks to that brutal experience, he managed to unlock a fourth skill, Harpoon Rain, a rapid barrage of strikes that overwhelms the enemy. But just as the tide turns, a monster ambushes him from behind, slamming him into the ground so hard it knocks the wind out of him and makes him spit blood. Now, he's trapped, fighting two monsters at once, and it's vicious. Jarong knows it isn't fair, but fairness is a fantasy in a fight like this. This isn't a clean match between humans, it's a savage brawl against bloodthirsty monsters. In a flash, Cha Kang intercepts from the side, punching that monster away like it's nothing. That's when Jarong realizes having good teammates is a skill, too. At the restaurant, a guy is filming Cha Kang and Jarong annihilating the monsters like it's just another part of their day. It's honestly massive news that two men managed to wipe out a dozen monsters without using any equipment. Pigface can't believe he caught it all on camera without a single glitch. He's damn glad he decided to stay behind to witness this heroic moment. That guy is Cho Dong-yoon, a 23-year-old college student and president of the Dungeon Research Club. But the other dude gives Pigface a dose of reality, saying he only stayed back because he was too terrified to run. Kim Chang-yun, also a college student, watches in awe, wondering where these young guys with that kind of raw power even came from. Judging by the number of high-danger monsters they just obliterated, he figures they're strong enough to be ranked gold. Dong-yoon guesses they might be students from Warrior High, or maybe some kind of super rookies who haven't hit the spotlight yet. When he sees Dong-yoon fumbling with the thumbnail, he's caught off guard to realize the guy is already uploading the footage. That's when Pigface states the obvious. The news will break eventually, so he might as well be the first to post it. He's dead set on this being his shot at 1 million views or more on a viral hit. Meanwhile, on the ground, Cha Kang had expected the rescue squad to arrive much earlier, but there was still no sign of them. All around, the remains of the horned horrors are strewn across the area. He can tell that the two of them really did manage to wipe out every last one. Suddenly, Jarong walks over, looking a bit guilty for ruining his cool moment by asking for a hand. Without missing a beat, Cha Kang turns and grabs his hand, pulling him up. He asks if Jarong is okay, and Jarong leans on him a bit, muttering he's certain of a few fractures, but that it's nothing critical. With a grin, the big guy commends him for defeating 2 of the 2 horned horrors all by himself. But Jarong shakes his head and says that handling 9 of the 1-horned ones is actually far more impressive. He gives Cha Kang full credit for taking care of every single one, and even helping with the tougher ones too. Still, Cha Kang looks a bit shy about taking all the praise, and tries to change the subject by asking which school Jarong goes to. He admits he never really believed the rumors, thinking Korea didn't have schools that could produce kids this strong. But before Jarong can even answer, Cha Kang gets awkward, thinking perhaps he'd offended him by insulting his school and now fumbled for an excuse. Deep down, he was convinced Jarong had to be from Warrior High. The man's skills were undeniable, but Jarong merely flipped the question, asking Cha Kang for his own rank, and how many peers were actually stronger than him. Embarrassed, he admitted he hadn't even approached a rank worth mentioning yet. He'd taken a few tests, but they failed to reflect his true skill. He guessed he was somewhere in the middle. The answer genuinely shocked Jarong, making his curiosity surge. That rank was far lower than expected, and a worry grew that he'd be rejected before he could prove himself. Meanwhile, he noticed the one-horned monster remained frozen in place. He wondered if it intended to stay that way indefinitely. It seemed to be the same one unaffected by Chilkang's taunt. When asked, Jarong replied that the species itself wasn't special, but the cargo in that truck might be. Chilkang suggested they watch it closely, since handling a lone horned horror would be manageable, even if it went berserk. But then, from nowhere, something inside the truck seized the creature and dragged it inside, as if it were being devoured. Instantly, both men were on high alert. Chilkang grew uneasy. He knew that horned horrors typically live in tribes, where a two-horned variant acts as both parent and chief. This leader commands a group of 10 or so, and when they merge with other tribes, their numbers expand. But even that growth has its limits. Within the dungeon's cruel ecosystem, the horned horror sits at the bottom of the food chain. Stronger predators keep their population in check. But on rare occasions, under specific conditions, a mutant emerges with the potential to grow 3 horns. Unlike the two-horned that leads a small tribe, this one commands more than followers. It becomes a king, leading an army of hundreds. This rare beast is known as the Horned Horror Rex, a 5-star danger. Suddenly, the Rex burst from the truck, and the moment its eyes met theirs, everything changed. Jarong and Chilkang froze, stunned to the core as the 3-horned nightmare charged right for them. The Rex charged with blinding speed, and they barely dodged in time. It then shifted its focus to Jarong, who was completely caught off guard, desperately trying to block the attack. In a split second, a brutal punch shattered his rod and slammed into his gut, sending him flying like a ragdoll. Without hesitation, Chilkang rushed in, shielding Jarong to prevent the monster from landing a finishing blow. He strained with all his might, trying to push the Rex back, but the beast simply grabbed Chilkang as if he were nothing, and slammed him into the wall, cracks spidering across the stone. Time was running out. These two, called geniuses, and believed destined for greatness, were not ready. No amount of resolution, strength, courage, or instinct they possessed could bridge the sheer gap in experience and power. Jarong forced himself up, roaring at the hideous creature to stop. But the Rex moved weightlessly, smashing its body into Jarong, and in that moment, the Rex sensed something wrong. On this day, before everything fell apart for the man named Yang, when he was still an unknown, something was left behind, something unspoken. And now, that same thing began to rise as Jarong erupted in a purple aura that screamed danger. 11 years ago, Yusong stood at a press conference, confessing everything. He admitted his mistakes, apologized for it all, and hoped for the people's forgiveness. His public confession stunned the entire world. 12 hours earlier, while Chilkang and Jarong faced a horde of horrors, putting their lives on the line, Serum was alone with her thoughts, trapped in confusion, convinced there had to be a reason behind that bizarre and transparently false confession. Her mind raced relentlessly, trying to process all she'd learned since last Sunday about how Yang was implicated in several major incidents. Consequently, she had spent the last 2 days digging deep, scouring old records, and attempting to unearth the truth. She was certain Jarong's father, Yu Song, had been framed for crimes he didn't commit, though the motive behind it all remained a mystery. One thing was clear: many grew greedy, vying for the top spot after the strongest adventurer lost his power. Now, the only piece left to uncover was how it all truly unfolded when it happened. According to the records, it stated that Seong forged 43 accomplishments, and Seem is baffled by how such blatant forgery appears in the official data. The entire case is just insane, and even the public at the time never fully accepted it. People were divided because even with those supposedly forged documents, Xiang's reputation was still unshakable. She imagines herself in his position and thinks she would have fought back to the very end, too. But what she simply cannot comprehend is why Xiang offered no resistance and instead accepted every single accusation leveled against him. After that press conference, any voices supporting him were silenced and eventually turned against him, feeling betrayed, which painted Xiang as a massive liar overnight. Still, Seem can't deduce why he would make such a fake confession. Even if something or someone forced his hand, admitting to everything would only worsen his situation. And yet, watching the video, the look on his face shows no injustice or rage. It just looks like a man who has accepted his destiny. Suddenly, the answer clicks as she delves into basic details and discovers that Yuang never officially registered a family. That revelation completely unsettles her, making her wonder if Seong is even Jarong's biological father. But then, it dawns on her. It makes perfect sense not to register his family on paper, especially with Jia Yang and Seong's striking resemblance. This leads her to conclude there's a strong chance Jarong's very existence was linked to Xiang, accepting all those allegations. Meanwhile, Jarong was oblivious to all of this, just as clueless about what was happening to his body as it began to glow with a violet aura. At that precise moment, Rex charges at him like a ravenous beast. Still, if there's one thing Jarong knows, it's that his body can finally move. And as Rex closes in, Jarong's dormant power ignites in a classic Manhwa level up, as he delivers a jaw-shattering punch straight into Rex's face. The ability to move was all he needed to survive, and now that he can, he has no plans to stop. The look on Rex's face says everything. This new version of Jarong is a serious threat. Right then, the lad unleashes his fourth skill, Harpoon Rain, a frantic barrage of attacks like a cornered animal. With that, he readies himself just as Rex is about to erupt with fury over the humiliation. Rex launches a brutal kick, but Jarong evades it expertly, and watches as Rex dives down from above with another strike. In that instant, Rex sees the demonic visage of Jarong, and it's enough to send a chill down any creature's spine. Just like that, Jarong counters with a savage kick that launches the three-horned beast like a rocket, slamming him into the wall and leaving an even larger crater than before. Still, the lad knows it is not over yet, but with his last two strikes, he managed to expose a weak point. It turns out Rex's chin is vulnerable, a fact Jarong deduced using his needle technique. Rex is now utterly enraged, while Jarong's confidence soars, thinking he's about to demolish him, but his luck evaporates as his violet aura vanishes, likely for getting too cocky. Out of energy, and gasping for air, Jarong watches Rex tear himself from the wreckage in an even fouler mood. Meanwhile, Jarong curses his fate for his power failing at the worst possible moment. Just as Rex lunges straight for the lad, an entire truck comes flying in and smashes him from the side. There is a reason adventurers have specialized roles, and this tanker just proved it, heaving a whole truck to halt the monster. Everyone has a role that suits them, but even so, Rex shakes off the impact a second later. With his rage now completely unchecked, he charges straight for Chakong, who threw it. He pours everything he has into blocking the blow. Even as a tanker's body is about to shatter, they fight with the will to stand tall until the very end. That is the definition of a tanker. As Rex closes in to finish Chil Kang, Jong seizes the opportunity and unleashes a devastating punch, right on Rex's chin. That is the damage dealer's job, to strike hard the moment an opening appears. In that instant, Rex's facial veins burst from the inside as its head exploded, finally putting the monster down. It turns out, a vehicle carrying monsters was stolen, leading to dozens of civilian casualties. Chao Kang helps Jarong stay upright, as he can barely stand. Chao Kang lets out a hollow laugh seeing the rescue squad show up with tragically perfect timing. It took less than an hour for the entire world to hear about the insane events that just occurred. But what truly spread like wildfire was the story of two boys, better yet, the two heroes who made it possible. The news even reached Broken, who's still trying to figure out why his dear smuggler had a sudden career change. One day, little Jarong hurt his elbow, and his father helped him bandage it. Jarong kept insisting on letting it heal by itself, but his father told him to relax and let him treat it, even if it was just a minor injury. He explained that small wounds can worsen later, ending up hurting even more. That made the little boy ask if it hurts when his dad fights monsters and bleeds. His father gently admitted he gets scared just like Jarong whenever he is hurt or bleeds, but said he tries harder to hide the pain so he can do his job, because if he can't handle it, someone else might get hurt instead. Ever since that moment, Jong had always dreamed of growing up to be just like his father. He wanted to tell him that, but something always stopped him. Deep down, he felt his father didn't want him to follow the same path, and instead wanted him to find a different kind of life. Whenever his dad spoke that way, his face always looked like he regretted everything, filled with sorrow. Because of that regretful look, Jarong once decided he would never become an adventurer. He always thought that perhaps one day when he grew up, he could ask his father for the real reason behind it all. But now, that day would never come. Soon after, Jarong wakes in a hospital bed, feeling a strange sense of nostalgia. Out of nowhere, a familiar voice teases him, asking if he's messing with him by saying things like that. Jarong is caught off guard seeing Zeke casually peeling an apple. Zeke explains that the reason he passed out was that he had made his decision. Just as he says that, Jarong is hit with a nerve-shredding pain throughout his body. Zeke tells the brat to take it easy and avoid moving too much for now. Then, in a gentler tone, he mentions Jong's injuries were severe enough to cause a coma, but thankfully the treatment was successful. He also reassures him that he will be fully recovered by the end of the month, and firmly orders him to focus on rest and regaining his strength, since he's going to need it for what is coming next. At that, Jarong smirks and says thanking Zeke would be too boring, then wonders if he can ask him something. Zeke already knows what is coming, and answers flatly with a yes. He did know Jarong's father. Zeke calmly mentions that he and Jarong's father used to work together. In a flash, Jarong makes a quick move to catch the peeled apple slice from Zeke's hand. And surprisingly, Zeke does not even flinch. Though he stays cool externally, he did not expect such a sudden reaction from the kid. As Jarong munches on the apple, he shows interest in knowing more about his father. He also points out how differently Zeke is acting now compared to their first meeting, which makes him think Zeke and his dad were more than just co-workers. Before Zeke can respond, Jarong mimics precisely what Blondie probably expected from him. He shoots a sharp glare into his eyes, saying he could tell him to leave and die, or perhaps even cut his arm with a knife to prove a point. Zeke is clearly thrown off, while Jong mocks how he is trying his best to act all serious and dramatic. With a sigh, The sun-kissed half-blood admits he thought Jarong would lash out far worse after hearing the truth. On that note, Jarong says if that is what he was expecting, he should have shown up 3 years earlier, when his head was filled with rage for those who watched his father suffer. He says he was already on a path of revenge back then. When asked what changed, Jarong claims he's matured, now focused on better things. Plus, he jokes he was out of his mind then, since he isn't even strong enough to defeat Blondie right now. Seeking revenge with such meager skills was pointless. He also says he's been focused on his father's hospital bills and is busy searching for a cure, which in his eyes matters more than anything. Just like that, he's determined to do whatever it takes, and if anyone obstructs his path, he swears he'll carve his way forward. On that note, Zeke clarifies that he has no intention of standing in his way. He is only here to investigate why Zhang isn't Yueyang's legally registered son. Plus, when things got ugly with his father's condition, and how he ended up this way, he simply wants to know who was there caring for him. That's when Jarong says Yusong raised him as a single father, doing everything alone. His father knew certain people would cause trouble if they discovered he had a child. So, he kept it a secret and raised Zhang in hiding. From there, Zeke suddenly asks if Zhang knows anyone named Duganawig. When Zhang says he doesn't, Zeke drops a bombshell. It's not just a name, but the official title of a world-ending dragon, the very source of the poison killing his father. Not only that, it's the world's most dangerous elder dragon, one that still exists to this day. Over the past few decades, that name has become a whisper of fear across the globe. After a few years of the adhesion phenomenon, otherworlders helped build the wall, and adventurers began rising in massive numbers. Dungeons and monsters were no longer a major threat to humanity's survival, but there were always exceptions, like powerful beings that could shatter the wall's dragons, a species stronger, smarter, and more cunning than anything else. On top of that, this higher race had a warped mentality, showing open hostility and superiority toward humans. That is the most dangerous kind of species. Not those who hate or ignore humans, but those who actively target them for complete eradication. But those beings gravely underestimated humans. The dragons assumed the dungeons would be sufficient to cause humanity's end, but things did not unfold as they expected. Zeke says all law and order vanished from their world once dragons began playing God, offering protection for total subjugation. Zhang jokes that perhaps people should thank them, but Zeke notes it was the adventurers who truly began clearing the dungeons. When things didn't go according to the dragon's plan, they went berserk and decided to take matters into their own hands, using brute force to threaten all of humanity. That's when his father stepped into the chaos. The man had the right strategy and the will to execute it, proving that dragons could indeed be defeated. That news spread to every corner of the world and changed everything. Jarong says he's heard about that, and how dragons supposedly went into hiding after. But Zeke corrects him, saying, dragons didn't hide, they just changed tactics. Those cunning creatures can even shift their appearance to blend in. After realizing their power wasn't enough to annihilate humanity, the dragons began altering their appearances to infiltrate human society. That revelation hit Jarong like a physical blow. Blondie only shared all this classified information because Jarong is Yuang's son and is set on becoming an adventurer. Moreover, he calls Duganig one of the leaders of the dragons and the exact target Yang was hunting before his downfall. If Zhang can somehow defeat that beast, there's a genuine chance of creating an antidote for his father. For that to happen, Zeke tells him he needs a true Manhwa level up as an adventurer, while Zeke himself intends to create an opportunity for him to finally end Duganig. Afterward, Zhang stands by his hospital room window, holding Zeke's card. Zeke's final words keep echoing in his mind, that Zhang has every right not to trust him, and to live however he chooses. But Jarong is now fired up and completely on board with the plan. The boy gladly seized the opportunity. Zeke reminds him it is not his call to make, he was already told to climb to the top. He intends to see it through. He calls the dragons cunning beasts, hiding in plain sight, wearing human masks and awaiting their moment. There is no use in gathering evidence, it won't help trap them. Once exposed, they will simply devise a new strategy and vanish once more. Things will only escalate from there. More fear, more distrust. To end this, one must be clean, fast, and precise in excising the very root of the problem. Zeke urges Jarong to move swiftly and plan their elimination before they can flee, hide, and return stronger than before. Then, he unveils a vehicle, revealing a team forged over the past 2 years to hunt Duganawig, a unit of trusted, skilled adventurers, each capable of felling a dragon. But he's clear. If Jarong isn't strong enough to stand with them, there is no place for him. Zeke won't recruit a liability who could compromise the mission and put every life at risk. Realizing they won't wait for him, Jarong asks for his deadline. It turns out he has roughly 2 years until they pinpoint Duganawig's location, though it could be sooner. Still, Zeke agrees with Jarong. They will not wait. Whether he joins or pretends this never happened, Zeke makes it known that he is hunting Duganawig regardless. Later, Zhang trembles, realizing a path to heal his father actually exists. He splashes water on his face, absorbing this shocking news, then wonders if he's truly afraid he can't reach the top and earn his place on that elite team. He has a chance for revenge, but a part of him fears failure. He shakes it off, his resolve hardening as he decides that he is going to succeed, whatever the cost. He's determined to reach the summit. Honestly, he finds this chance for a true Manhwa level up and the shot at the revenge he has bled for is almost delightful. He's waited his entire life for such a team, never daring to hope. Now, he finally has the chance to act. For the first time, a small flame ignites within him, filling Jarong with a dangerous thrill. Suddenly, a woman bursts in to check on him, asking if he feels pain in his arm or elsewhere. Jarong tells her his muscles ache, but she assures him the doctor will explain. She reveals the soreness will linger, as they had to reconstruct his arm from scratch. That news shocks him. She says his arm was in a critical state when he arrived. One wrong move could have cost him the limb entirely, but thanks to a high-ranking healer, Zeke, they rebuilt it perfectly. On top of that, Jarong asks about the friend who came with him. She recalls the man checked out the very same day he arrived, his recovery rate being unbelievable. This makes Jarong wonder how much time has passed. Suddenly, the nurse, blushing, awkwardly asks for a photo with Jong. He feels strange about it but agrees, somewhat bewildered. Afterward, Jarong asks if he can leave. The nurse gives the okay but warns him to avoid the main entrance to stay out of trouble. When he asks why, the nurse reveals the hospital is swarming with reporters, all desperate for an interview with him. Jarong has no idea why they are so eager, so she shows him a viral video. His showdown with Rex and the horde of horned beasts was posted online, and it exploded. It could have been a catastrophe, but the two of them prevented what might have been hundreds of deaths. Since then, everyone has been desperate to know who he is, with people arriving non-stop for days. Then, the nurse hands him something his friend left for him, apparently from Saram. It's a disguise to help him slip out the back of the hospital unnoticed. Jong figures Saram likely enchanted it with an identification disruption spell, and included a climbing rope. Though his muscles still ache, the Jarong successfully rappelled from the building with the rope. The nurse vowed to share the photo once he became a legendary adventurer, earning a warm smile from Jarong. Afterward, Jarong located Saram's car and complained about her rope-based exit strategy, but she insisted it was necessary to protect his identity. When he inquired, she admitted to having gone shopping for him. Saram added that she was unaware of his size, forcing her to improvise. And yes, she had also acquired a new phone for him. As she watched, Jarong gave a disarming smile, looking as if he might cry from sheer joy. Moreover, Saram was stunned he'd gotten into such a huge mess, yet had somehow eliminated the monster. Jarong just shrugged, as if it were business as usual. Given that his life is a series of random accidents and chaotic incidents, Saram suggested they take a break for the remainder of the day. She felt Jarong needed rest, but with no time to spare, they had to get his measurements for clothes today. When he insisted he had enough clothes, Saram called him an idiot, clarifying she meant adventurer wear. She wished he grasped how fortunate he was to be receiving custom gear from the world's finest artisan, who had actually agreed to forge armor exclusively for him. There are 3 primary types of armor, based on their materials. The first type is fabric. It's essentially clothing, offering the weakest protection, but it is incredibly easy to work with. It can be processed in various ways, and synergizes well with support magic. It's lightweight, flexible, and can be layered or enchanted as needed. This is why it's primarily worn by healers and mages who operate from the backlines. The second type is metal, which is self-evidently the strongest. It's the ultimate material for defense. The drawback, however, is its weight, especially dungeon-forged metal, which is far stronger and heavier. No one can wear such armor without immense strength and stamina to bear it. Some adventurers even undertake special training or take supplements. They use mana-infused supplements just to acclimate to the weight. It offers a good balance of protection and mobility, ideal for fast-paced combat. Next, Saram discussed leather, the middle-tier armor type. The material is durable and moderately heavy, making it perfect for his role, for a close-quarters damage dealer like him. Jarong noted that fighting unarmored is difficult, a lesson he learned the hard way while powering up his phone. Saram then questioned how he accomplished his feats during the Horned Horrors fight, specifically how they defeated all those opponents together. Jarong explained that the battle footage tells the story better than he could, but Saram pointed out that the recording begins mid-fight. It started in the middle, so she only saw them fighting 1 or 2 of the horned beasts. She added that his clash with the 5-star Horned Horror was not recorded whatsoever. Jarong recalled the 5-star Horned Horror and its insane power. Even if he and Chael Gang had been perfectly prepared, they still would have been unable to defeat it. He still has no idea where that strength originated. That moment defies all logic for him. It was as if something beyond himself had taken control. Saram demanded an explanation, but he simply said he wasn't sure. It just happened, and that's truly all he could offer. Saram stared, finding it impossible to believe, especially since seasoned adventurers require a full raid party for such a foe, to take down a threat that powerful. Yet, looking at him, he didn't appear to be hiding anything. She watched him fiddle with his new phone, and quietly wondered if this was some kind of real-life manhwa level up. She told him to be careful, warning that things were about to get chaotic for him. He needed to grasp the seriousness of the situation. There was nothing amusing about what was coming. She mentioned reporters had already discovered Chael Gang, and for the past 4 days, he'd been trapped in endless interviews. Yet, despite immense pressure, he never once mentioned Jarong's name. Jarong recalled asking Chael Gang for a favor, to claim he was unsure of what happened that day, as he wanted to avoid public attention. Saram scoffed, remarking that the two of them were already acting like close companions. She insisted that no one could know about this until he was ready. Transfer schools. As she details her deep research on his performance and the sheer complexity, Jarong quickly messages his boss to meet later that night. She keeps pressing how difficult it is, but he argues it's likely the unqualified people who still applied that made things worse and complicated the process. He assures her he will be fine, especially since she got in. Walking ahead, she tells him he's clearly the best among the groups, but he should try to understand the others, too. He asks if she means people are forging alliances for the exam. Saram explains that over the past few years, the school has accepted more and more second-generation adventurers. Most have at least one parent who's an adventurer, and all the parents already know each other. Tight-knit connections and unspoken pacts exist between families, giving their kids a severe advantage. This system helps them form parties for their children in advance. It crushes anyone attempting a solo manhwa level up. Saram tells him he needs to realize what will happen once everyone discovers he's the talk of the town. He will be targeted, but Jarong refuses to let that faze him. He vows he'll make it on his own, ready to do anything to surpass them all and get accepted. Glancing around, he asks where the bathroom is, and Saram points him in the right direction, telling him to meet her back in the hallway. She heads to the reception, where the person in charge informs her the president cannot meet her due to something urgent. She protests, saying he's fully booked on every other day. The attendant replies that the president will pay the breach of contract fee. Frustrated, Saram insists that they cannot just cancel her appointment without even informing her. Just then, a voice cuts through the tension. It's Hanun, the current president of Yonga High School. She steps forward and says Saram should give up her meeting with her uncle, the president, for her. That's the best she can offer. Saram tries to reason with her, but her mind wanders to how Hanun is seen as the absolute pinnacle of their generation, someone idealized and practically untouchable. Suddenly, Jarong walks in and says there's nothing they can do. Saram has an emergency. As a senior from their school, she has every right to take a stand for herself. He tells Hanun to stop trying to pull rank and just get lost. The receptionist looks nervously at Jarong, then shifts her eyes to Hanun. Hanun lets out a small snicker and says Jarong seems like a go-getter, then asks if he really is one. Saram tries to step in just as Hanun's expression twitches slightly, and suddenly Saram feels a sharp slicing pain, like a paper cut but 100 times worse, cutting across her skin. She flinches, snapping out loud. Confused by the sudden jolt, Hanun tilts her head and says it's strange. Why was she even hearing Saram's voice? Saram looks down, eyes wide, questioning whether what she felt was real or just some twisted result of Hanun's intimidation. Without breaking her cold expression, Hanun says she hadn't asked anything from her and calls her Miss Bottom of the class, telling her to stop acting out of line and keep her mouth shut. Her voice was full of venom, every word steady and sharp like a blade. Jarong steps in, casually telling her his age, his blood type, and where he lives, then adds that his favorite food is stir-fried sausages with vegetables. He asks if that much information is enough, or if he forgot something important. His tone stays light, almost playful, but there's a steel edge hidden just beneath his words. Then he says he's preparing to take the transfer exam for Yonga High School. But it's kind of disappointing to see seniors trying so hard to act like gangsters, enforcing some weird hierarchy like it's an old delinquent movie where punks ruled the hallways. Hanun bursts into hysterical laughter, and with another twitch, Jarong suddenly feels the sharp sting of invisible cuts ripping through his body. He staggers a bit, one hand going to his ribs as the pain hits. Hanun smiles and says she doesn't exactly hate people who speak their minds, but he seems to disqualify himself right from the start. She asks if he seriously wants to transfer to Yonga and if he even realizes how arrogant he sounds for someone who's just an unqualified, defective product. Her words hit like knives, sharp and impossible to ignore. Jarong straightens up and sends the same a piercing glare back at her, catching Gon completely off guard. She freezes as he asks if that's the trick, adding he's only had one lesson, but he's not sure she would enjoy it. His eyes glint with challenge, his body coiled like a predator ready to pounce. Suddenly, a sharp voice calls out Gon's name. Sung Woo, the president, emerges from his office, his expression severe as he demands to know what she thinks she's doing. He snaps that she can't just barge in while he's working and treat this place like her personal playground. The hallway, once thick with tension, now crackles with authority. He mentions how she stormed into his office, ordering the receptionist to lie to Sam that he was busy. He reminds her she was in trouble just 1 week ago and warns her to stop causing more chaos, questioning if she's trying to drive her father mad. He then turns to the others, offering a polite bow, apologizing for his niece's behavior, admitting that controlling her is nearly impossible. Saram quickly intervenes, assuring him it's all right, and that he needn't apologize. Internally, however, she wonders if Gaon is merely reckless or if this is her true nature. It's a relief that the situation didn't escalate further, yet the encounter has left her shaken. Gaon is worse than imagined, and the thought gnaws at her, her heart still pounding. Her uncle rebukes her again, telling her to mature, while she just nods with obvious disdain. Saram observes, noting how Gaon only ever interacts with the elite, unless someone rivals the student council's caliber. Just then, Jarong signals for her to lean in, quietly asking who Gaon is at their school, remarking she doesn't seem like an ordinary senior. His voice is a low murmur, like the calm before a storm. Saram leans in, whispering back that Gaon is the student body president, wielding the most power among all students at Yungai. At adventurer training academies like theirs, every student is issued a provisional license, allowing them to join professionals on low-difficulty expeditions, typically during holidays or school breaks. It's a vital part of their real-world preparation, a taste of the professional life. These field assignments are more than just experience, they are a rite of passage. But there is one major exception to this rule. The Yungai Student Council, comprised of the most elite students. They are unofficially recognized as professional grade raiders. They even hold the right to voice opinions directly to the board of directors and can participate in actual pro-raid parties. Everyone calls them future rankers. He asks if Gaon is 2 years their senior, since she's the student body president and in her final year. Saram whispers back that it should be so, but Gaon is actually a junior. She seized the position from the former president. Jarong looks shocked, asking what she means. Saram reminds him that their school respects only skill and that students can join the council starting the first semester of their junior year. Gaon did precisely that the moment she became a junior, and on top of it, she immediately drew her blade. It became the single greatest incident in the school's history. Gaon challenged every senior council member, and before her first semester concluded, she had defeated them all, including 10 former presidents, becoming the youngest student council president in history. Just as Gaon turns to depart, Jarong halts her, proposing a wager. He notes he heard she's in a hurry, leaving Saram utterly stunned. He continues, "From what he's heard, she's a big deal at their school. He's sure she had reasons for her outburst before her juniors, so one simple bet should be no problem." His voice holds a strange boldness, like a man who has already crossed a bridge he has no intention of retreating from. Saram attempts to stop him, but Gaon eyes Jarong and asks if that means she must concede if she loses. Jarong smirks, calling her sharp. He tells her of a technique called snatching steps, a basic player versus player training drill for adventurers, rooted in Koryu martial arts. The rules are simple. Make first contact with your opponent, or corner them where they cannot evade, and you win. It's a contest of timing, movement, and above all else, pressure. He declares that if he loses, he will forfeit his appointment, but if she loses, he will be taking her place as president next year, once he's in. Saram thinks he's utterly lost his mind, but knows this kind of challenge would also drive Gaon mad if she refused. True to form, Gaon smirks that it sounds fun, and accepts his bet. Jarong now stands in the durability testing room, facing a calm, prepared Gaon. They lock eyes, the tension palpable. Off to the side, Saram watches with her arms crossed, feeling she's watching two lunatics go off the rails. She recalls just moments ago, trying to convince him to back down. She told him there was still time, that Mr. Han was reasonable, and would likely let it go if they just apologized, and left quietly. She even gestured to his broken arm, reminding him he was in no shape to fight, and if he miraculously won, Gaon wasn't the type to just hand over her title, but he cut her off, admitting he already knew he couldn't beat her. That stopped her cold. He said, even at his best, the odds were against him. There was no denying Gaon's monstrous strength. She asked if he knew he would lose. Then what was the point? Why not just walk away? But he just grinned, saying he understood why she was panicking and that it made sense. Still, he needed her to trust him on this, and though it all looked reckless, he believed it would be worth it. Saram watches Jarong standing in the fighting ring, his words echoing in her mind. What could he gain from a fight he's clearly going to lose? Perhaps she thinks he's trying to win Gaon over by letting her dominate him, but she immediately dismisses the thought. He definitely isn't the type to grovel to anyone. He's no sycophant. She's never gotten that vibe from him. Her train of thought is cut short when Mr. Han speaks up beside her, sighing wearily about how embarrassed he is. He says Gaon is supposed to lead the student council, yet she always acts like she's on a razor's edge. He bows slightly to Saram, apologizing again, but she quickly waves it off, telling him not to, as it isn't his fault. She says, Jarong brought this on himself. He's just as ridiculously stubborn, and it makes no sense. Mr. Han glances at the ring, saying quietly that even so, he feels Jarong isn't doing this for nothing. He admits he knows little about the boy, but from what he's seen, Jarong knows exactly what he's after. In the pit, Gaon tells Jarong that she won't be using her hands either, just to be fair. He smirks, brushing it off, saying he doesn't care what she does, and figures she wants an excuse ready in case she loses. As the air shifts, she appears before him, and he dodges by a hair's breadth. The room freezes. Mr. Han and Saram stare, stunned for different reasons. Saram realizes Gon isn't even using much power, but her speed is terrifying so fast she couldn't track her movement. Gon's aggression and speed rattle her. Snatching steps is meant to be a careful, defensive training technique. To make contact, you must take a risk. That's the point of the move. But Gon doesn't seem to care about risk at all. She charges in with pure precision and raw speed, her skills justifying her arrogance. Saram feels a chill run down her spine. She watches Gon's body move like water, effortless and impossible to pin down. It makes her heart skip a beat. Then Mr. Han, standing beside her, speaks again, breaking her spiraling thoughts. He says he may not be the first to ask, but he wonders if she's certain that Jarong is just a student trying to transfer into young Sahai. He recalls the data he's seen. Sure, Jarong looked impressive on paper, but seeing him in person, he realizes Jarong is far more than anyone expected. He thinks this isn't out of pride or underestimating Gon. He just wants to understand her. He knows Gon is far beyond other teens and could beat a low-ranked adventurer, but he wants to see for himself how far she'll go, and how he can reach her. Not to overtake her, but to close the gap. Jarong studies her every move, then mimics her moves, unleashing his own assault. She smirks, admitting it's a welcome change to finally face a real challenge. She declares aloud that it's been years since a fight lasted this long, not since she started high school. She never expected him to endure, especially in his current state. He glares at her, panting, but says nothing. Gon then asks if it's only his arm that's injured. She adds that his movements and stamina must be under half their normal capacity. He smiles, replying she wouldn't know, having never seen him at his full strength. Gon smirks, saying she knows he was faster against the horned horrors, adding she's re-watched the footage of him likely 100 times in the past 3 days. She suggests a draw for now, saving their real match until after he's accepted into the academy and fully healed. It's a waste of talent to end things this way. Just then, Jarong rises, saying she is something else, possessing a sharp eye for detail, but oddly confident, perhaps not grasping the situation. He then declares that he doesn't accept draws and has no intention of surrendering. So, they must stop delaying and begin the real fight once he has a handle on it. Everyone assumes he's bluffing, as he has nothing to gain from this fight, even rejecting his best opportunity. Gayun takes her stance, taunting that it's too bad he just revealed how foolish he is. He assumes his stance as Serum thinks he's about to strike first. Moving like the wind, Jong lunges toward her, kicking with full force. Gon barely dodges, surprising even herself. Mr. Han realizes Jong wasn't just conserving energy. His goal wasn't merely to get a read on Gon's abilities. He understood Jong had memorized all her attack patterns. It was clear now. Jong's objective wasn't to win. His sole purpose was to steal Gon's techniques. He slipped past her with ease, declaring he'd deciphered her evasive movements. Jarong began his life as a smuggler young, but he lives by principles he never breaks. He took his position, calling Gon out, telling her not to lose focus and to continue, because he had much more to show her. The one rule he still follows is to never make a deal that doesn't pay off. A technique isn't just one powerful strike to fell an opponent. It's posture and movement, all refined to bring out a person's best based on their objective. It includes everything from breath control to the most minute step you take. Mastering these details takes time. Some spend entire lifetimes gaining experience, learning from trial and error. What is learned gets passed down to the next generation, and the cycle repeats. No matter how gifted, you can't defeat generations of experience without some kind of aid, in only a few years. It's not just a punch or a sword swing, it's living each movement, every action telling a story of practice, patience, and perseverance. Though Jarong was incredibly talented, improving on his own, at 17 he stopped growing and hit a wall. To progress, he needed a way to overcome new challenges. He takes a stance, asking what Gaon is waiting for, reminding her she said they could have a rematch once he was accepted to her school. He adds that in her place, he'd welcome the chance to teach a thing or two to a future freshman. But if she has nothing left to prove, he understands that too. Gon is silent a moment, then smirks, reminding her uncle of the favor he asked when she last caused trouble, about the raiders wanting a contract. He told her to meet them, to not start on the wrong foot with industry people. She tells him she'll accept that offer, and in return, he won't interfere with her actions from now on. Her uncle tries to intervene, asking her plans, but she focuses completely on Jarong, asking if he still wants to see how she dodges. His breath is steady and controlled, not rushed or heavy. Each inhale and exhale is measured to conserve energy while maintaining calm. In a breathla, instantly, she's upon him, a high kick screaming toward his skull, daring him to even try to evade it. Jarong's mind calculates moving right, but instead, veers left. A person's motion has a natural rhythm where each action flows into the next. Therefore, people subconsciously anticipate the following move. Gaon's secret is her ability to warp this flow. She omits movements in the sequence, deceiving the eyes of any observer. This makes her next action nearly impossible to predict, and creates an illusion of immense speed. Even how she shifts her weight between feet has been drilled to perfection, the fruit of years of silent, relentless practice. And that is the technique Gon's father created and perfected 20 years ago. which made him legendary. But then Jarong moves, using a skill called strobe motion. As Gon holds her ground, a spark ignites in her eyes, not just resolve, but a playful challenge, daring him to shatter his own limits. Mr. Han considers how Jarong deployed the same technique twice, applying it differently than Gon demonstrated. To replicate it just from sight is a near impossible feat of combat genius, especially so quickly, as it demands flexibility, inhuman reflexes, and, above all, perfect timing. Lacking even one of those elements would cause it all to collapse. It's a rare moment, both savage and strangely reverent, like two predators acknowledging each other's power. Mr. Han remembers being in his early 20s and first learning strobe motion. He was at his absolute peak, and it still took him 3 months just to grasp it. Meanwhile, Jarong just executed it while fighting Gon, and he's not even in prime condition. Jarong is in abysmal physical shape at this point. The battle has completely hollowed him out, but against all odds, he pushes onward, lunging at Gon with her own technique for one clear goal: to become stronger. This is not a conventional way to learn, but he's found his motivation, a purpose, and a path forward. His entire body screams, yet his will burns hotter, as if the pain itself confirms he's alive, growing, in a constant state of evolution. There's a grim satisfaction in that sense of self-completion. So, he ignores the pain and exhaustion, advancing on Gon, with calculated, cunning moves. Each moment between strikes feels elongated in his mind, slowing time within a surreal bubble of focus. Then, a heavy thump echoes. Mr. Han starts to rise, as Gon reminds him of his promise not to intervene. She adds that fortunately, it seems to be settled, glancing at Jarong on the ground. At that same moment, both of them declare the other the winner, leaving everyone stunned. She tells him she broke her rule about not using her hands, so he is the victor. He reminds her that those were her conditions, so technically, he is the one who lost. He then adds he understands her embarrassment for breaking her promise, but it's better if she doesn't insist she's that powerful, catching Gon completely off guard. Mr. Han intervenes, saying it's not about winning or losing, and that he should have stopped the fight from the beginning. He suggests they call it a draw or an exploratory bout, and have a proper match once Jarong is back in fighting condition. Jarong agrees, and Gon calls out, telling him to listen closely. She'd better see him at the school. If he fails to get accepted, or if someone else takes him down before she can, there will be nowhere for him to hide. The match leaves Jarong feeling deeply satisfied. He has met a peer with talent far beyond his imagination. In that clash, more than just fists and feet met. It was conviction, experience, and raw ambition, all colliding in a brief, explosive dance. Then, Gon asks Saram for her name, and if she is Jarong's sponsor. She apologizes for assuming Saram was not a capable adventurer, admitting she doesn't seem entirely incompetent. Jarong had finally met his equal, and it was not just Jarong who felt this new thrill for the first time. Gon exited the room with a fresh, bright smile. Jarong collapses onto the sofa, gasping, and says he thinks he's dying from sheer exhaustion. Sam looks shocked he isn't already headed to a hospital, and tells him no one made him do something so reckless. Jarong begs her to drop it, as he's already spent and feels like he's going to be sick. Sam concedes she didn't see the battle ending that way, especially with him accepting defeat so readily. In her eyes, he's the true winner, since she was the one who set the rule about without using hands. Jarong disagrees, stating he broke the rule first. After he removed his arm sling, their exchange became far more serious for both of them. He was the one who crossed that line. Sam reflects, realizing she had sensed something was wrong. Jarong adds that he went full force with his last attack. If she'd been hit, it would have been devastating, though he knew she would dodge. He says he would have used his hands too if he were her. She had to, and he believes that was only fair. Sam asks what it would be like if they fought at their absolute best. Jarong laughs and reminds her that she had asked him earlier why he did it. He rises from his seat as Sam asks what is wrong. He says, "They're here." Just then, the office door swings open, and Mr. Han enters with the delivery boy, apologizing for the delay. He has brought the food, and Seem and Jarong begin to eat. Mr. Han says with all his niece put him through, he wanted to treat her to a proper meal. Jarong tells Mr. Han he is not picky and prefers quantity over quality. Seem points out that he just devoured a large pizza in 2 minutes. She explains that an average adventurer, especially a close-range fighter, needs at least 5 times the calories of a normal person. She remembers how Jarong had not eaten anything before arriving here, as he was unconscious. Mr. Han moves closer to Seem, explaining that what they handle at Atelier is not just leather, it is something far superior. It is not cellulose fiber like most other companies use. Instead, their materials come from fibers harvested from specific high-danger class monsters, like the bandit spider. He tells her they process these fibers with their own patented technology, blending different proportions of ingredients, depending on the wearer. Once the final coating is applied, the textiles they produce are much stronger and lighter than any leather. Then he turns to Jarong. For him, he says, they already know exactly what armor to make and the right proportions to use from data provided by the Jinsong Group's research facility, and from what he witnessed today. But there is one problem. As mentioned before, the final step in crafting the armor is the coating process. where they oil the clothes to boost durability and resistances. Seam says that is why she specifically requested grade A material for the coating, no matter the cost. Mr. Han replies that getting grade A oil right now is impossible. They normally use oil from the raven whales that live in the deep sea. Their supply is limited, but stable through an exclusive partnership until recently, when a sudden anomaly stopped them from catching any raven whales at all. He then suggests an alternative. He guarantees the performance difference will not be noticeable, but admits it is a clear breach of contract and a mistake on his part for overlooking it. He understands if this means he will not get the commission and apologizes for it. Seam tries to tell him it is too late, but he offers again. If she wants, he can pull a few strings and introduce her to a craftsman far more skilled than he is, and he will take full responsibility. Seam says that if this is what Jarong wants, then she is fine with it too. Mr. Han stands and says since she has put her trust in him, he will just have to make the best armor he possibly can. Looking back, he admits he should have gone to that big hunt last week, saying he was looking forward to it. He might have found the material of his dreams. Then he asks if she has ever heard of a monster called sky hornets. Seam answers that she has heard about their royal jelly. Mr. Han explains that is what they are known for. But among armor designers, there is another substance they consider even more precious: black wax. It is a unique wax they produce that helps the queen grow and protects her once she is fully grown. If he could use that for the coating stage, the result would be a true Manhwa level up, unlike anything else. Jarong searches for something on his phone, then asks if this is what it looks like. He shows the screen to Mr. Han. He had pictures before, but his phone was crushed, so he drew it instead. Mr. Han asks if he has seen it in real life. Jarong points towards Seam and says he saw it at her house, leaving out the more problematic details, which shocks her. Meanwhile, Jae-won takes a call. As Jong fills him in on the important information, Ja asks if Jong has eaten enough. Jong says he ate, but still feels hungry. Ja tells him to eat first. A tense hospital reunion is underway. While one man watches over a comatose patient, Zeke enters. Two men, once allies, now meet as foes. Jae-won's greeting is a cold command for silence. A command Zeke scoffs at, completely uncaring. Rage flashes in Jae-won's eyes. He snarls that Zeke's feelings are worthless. He will obey. He then spits the insult, snake. Meanwhile, at H, Jin Siro is stunned by the mention of black wax. Yu Jarong asks if she overlooked it in the box, triggering an immediate lecture. She insists he should have warned her about such a hidden object. Siram offers a defense, suggesting he was likely ignorant of its purpose, what its true value was, but still thanks her for her help. Commenting on their flawed plans, she then asks if he is busy. He confirms he has another engagement. A sudden call from Uncle Zeke summons her away. As Jarong is texting, Han Sung-woo approaches. He asks if Siram is gone. Jarong says she's on a call, but Sung-woo claims he is only there for a smoke before revealing the movement's name. A name Jarong now knows, strobe motion. He explains it was created by Gon's retired father, with his own help in refining the technique. Shamed by his ignorance, Jarong bows deeply, apologizing for his unawareness, and vowing not to use the technique without permission. But Sung-woo clarifies this was not his intention. He says the technique has no single owner, and while they guard their secrets, anyone who uncovers it through their own effort is free to use it. After praising the skill's power, Sung-woo makes a confession. He once thought Jarong lacked fundamentals due to his informal training, but yesterday's battle shattered that belief entirely. He urges Jarong to invest the effort to master his skills, which could lead to Yongahai or legendary adventurer status. Yet, Sung-woo gives a grave warning. This world is merciless to talents like Jarong. While some will praise his skill, others will seethe with envy. They will try to tear him down. When Jarong asks if he should hide his power, Sung-woo says the opposite. He must unleash his skills, show his true strength to the world, and command their respect. He tells him to steal every skill he can, without apology, and make others think it was their fatal error to underestimate him. In this world, the strong define justice. This is his real life, Manhwa level up. He can truly master a stolen technique by evolving it into his own creation. He laughs, admitting it is corrupt advice from an adult. But this is the brutal code of adventurers. He mentions his niece, Han Gaon, who he can guide but never tame due to her ferocious nature. Just then, Siram hurries back, saying her uncle is calling for him. She passes him the phone, explaining he knew they were together, and now demands to speak with Jarong directly. Zeke's voice on the line is urgent. He needs him to come over immediately. Jarong is taken aback by the summons but agrees to go. They arrive at a derelict building, a monument to urban decay. It conceals a hidden passage into the dungeons. Siram is in disbelief, but Jarong explains that it is not the only such entrance. Countless unsanctioned tunnels and sealed subways exist, each controlled by a different power. This one belongs to his boss. Deeper in, they find Zeke beside a shirtless, powerfully built man. Zeke tells Jarong he was forced to make this call, as his boss refused Zeke's aid. Jarong senses the hostility between Zeke and Jae-won, his boss, wondering about their past. The other man jokes that Jarong should have brought a shirt for him, sizing him up. He asks if this is the one who took down Zeke, noting Jarong is infamous among raiders, a teenager more feared than a high-rank monster, adding that the captain wants to meet him. Zeke cuts in, stating their business is over. He refuses to linger any longer. He leaves with Siram, abandoning Jarong to face Jaewon alone. After they vanish, Jarong steps forward. He steps inside, finding Jaewon perched at the edge of the ground. A relieved sigh escapes him. He had feared the absolute worst. Without turning, Jaewon complains about his crushed body and pride, calling Zeke a coward and regretting his own short-sightedness. He realized too late Zeke wasn't alone when he was followed so easily. He then asks Jarong for a light from the fires below. Jarong is shocked to see the burning town, and asks what happened. Jaewon admits he tried to incinerate Zeke, but Zeke's companion had incredible balance and defensive skills, despite not being a tanker. Still, that man could never match Jarong's father, not even after training for 10 years. Jarong tries to speak, but Jaewon cuts him off, knowing he wants to quit smuggling. He grants him permission. However, to become an adventurer, there's a condition. When Jarong asks, Jaewon lays out the terms. He must master everything he is taught in the next month. If he fails, the dream of being an adventurer dies. He warns that this will be far different from his natural talents. He reveals he will be teaching him magic. Lim Jaewon rises, and the cigarette slips from his hand. Jarong struggles to process the situation, but suddenly Jaewon staggers, and Jarong catches him just before he falls. Jaewon begins panting and shivering. When Jarong tells him to stay seated, he feels an unnatural cold from Jaewon's body and decides to carry him. Flashing back to when Lim Jaewon was 26, in a conversation with his father, Young, at their home. Young muses about grinding coffee beans as a hobby during his active years, but Jaewon hates the tone, as if he were already retired. Young insists he is retired, and just needs to focus on healing. Jaewon interrupts, saying they must capture Duganawig. He adds that all they need is to launch a raid, but Young notes they can't catch him since he knows about his health and will be laying low. Jaewon jumps up in a rage, asking if his father is telling him to let Duganawig get away with it, especially since it's not just about him, but also the rumors he spread about Young that should have gotten him killed. Jaewon vows that once Young recovers, they will raid and capture Duganawig. A young Jarong wanders into the room, startling Jaewon. Following Young's instruction, Jarong greets him. When Jaewon learns the child is Young's son, he is completely stunned. After Jarong leaves, Young tells Jaewon that he doesn't have much time. He explains the painkillers Zeke gave him are failing. He's building a tolerance. With that, his health and senses will only continue to worsen, and within 3 or 4 years, he won't even recognize people. Jaewon insists he won't allow that, but Young interrupts and asks for a favor. He wants Jaewon to look after Jarong if anything happens, pleading that Jarong shouldn't live a life like his. Instead, he wants Jaewon to help Jarong find true happiness. It's the first time Young has ever shown vulnerability, so Jaewon accepts the request. Jaewon awakens in Jarong's bed and asks for the time. Out for 3 hours, he asks if Jarong allowed Zeke to treat him. Jarong says no, explaining that instead of the hospital, he used a first aid potion syringe, the same one Jaewon gave him on his first day, when he was 14. Jarong explains the syringe detoxifies the body and restores health for an hour or 2. Jaewon says he can buy more later, as it's a luxury item meant for adventurers. As Jarong starts to leave, Jaewon calls out, teasing that if he gets into it, he won't be able to stop. Then he adds that he is relieved to no longer pay Young's medical bills, but feels guilty that Jarong is a smuggler when he was supposed to be his guardian. Jarong says it's irrelevant since his father never paid for protection. Besides, he needed to develop his own skills to care for his father himself. Jaewon laughs, amazed Jarong still had the potion, and jokes about it. He admits he would have kept paying Young's bills regardless, hadn't taken the job. Jarong replies he knew that, which is why he accepted without hesitation. Jaewon regrets already failing his friend by making his son a smuggler. But Jarong insists it was his own choice, and that he would have found another way if Jaewon hadn't helped. When Jarong questions why Jaewon was so eager to assist him with his job, Jaewon explains his goal wasn't just to stop him as his father asked, but also because he didn't want Jarong's talent to be squandered living a normal life. Then, surprisingly, Jaewon admits he despises the world. He tells Jarong about the people who dragged Yuang down, convinced others to abandon him, and the ones like Zeke who did nothing, even though they knew the truth. Jaewon says he hates all of them and wishes for their deaths. Jarong tries to say something about Zeke, but Jaewon interrupts, stating Zeke will never catch Duganawig because his plans are weak. He explains it's not just about the adventurer's sacrifice to catch a hidden dragon, since the dragon would have planned to avoid being captured. If dragons, being more powerful than humans, disappear, the world would fall apart. Only a few of Zeke's raiders are ready for that, because most people won't risk losing everything to believe in something they disagree with. Jaewon adds that the higher-ups will keep holding Zeke back as long as he's bound by the law, and they will face the same chaos Young stopped 20 years ago. Fake heroes and their followers will bring the entire world down with them. And that's precisely why Jaewon didn't want Jarong to become an adventurer. Jaewon hands Jarong a savings account slip with all the earnings from his job saved under Jarong's name since day one. When Jarong asks about it, Juan explains his plan has always been for Zhang to start a business by learning the techniques and knowledge Juan will teach him. He tells Zhang he needs to build practical skills. This isn't a simple manhwa level-up story world, and asks him to call once his cast is off so they can start magic training. Just as Juan is about to leave, Zhang asks why he's helping if he doesn't want him to become an adventurer. Juan replies that he could have stopped him, but his wishes don't matter compared to Zhang's, just like they didn't 3 years ago. Haran walks into the ruins somewhere in former Yongsun and spots Odd Rock. She says that every time she looks at him, she thinks they really should have their own hideout. Odd Rock finds it funny since she rarely appears at meetings. Seeing him alone, she teasingly asks why, acting like they're supposed to be inseparable. Odd Rock shrugs it off, saying he has another job and returns to reading his book. Haran interrupts, saying she was actually just complimenting him because she figured Odd Rock would be crying alone without her. That sets him off. He warns her he'll kill her if she keeps talking like that. Haran just mocks him for getting angry and calls him cute to push his buttons even more. Fed up, Odd Rock stands up ready to fight, saying they won't get punished since they're members, and it will be her own fault. Haran gets ready too, scoffing at him for calling it suicide. Just as they're about to clash, their masked boss steps in, reminding them they were called here for a job and that between their fighting and the messes they've already made, he's more than angry. Odd Rock raises his hand in mock surrender, almost ready to fight Haran, and calls her crazy. Haran ignores him and asks the boss why he ignored her texts. The boss replies that after what she did 3 days ago, killing the entire rescue team, he didn't feel like being in touch. Haran gets angry, but he explains she didn't need to go that far since their mission was already done. Odd Rock questions the idea of success, pointing out that only 12 people died, and someone else got all the attention. He says, the news has been showing those kids' faces non-stop, with no mention of the dead civilians or the vehicle they hijacked. The boss says the Adventurers Association got saved from trouble because of those 2 kids. Since the security guarding the vehicles with 5-star monsters was underqualified, which caused the civilian deaths, he's confident the association will win over the harmed civilians and the media, keeping the public distracted with the news instead of focusing on the association's serious mistake. Haran gets furious and wants to go kill those 2 kids, but the boss stops her, warning that if their identities get exposed, it would be seen as terrorism, and then the public would hunt them, not the association. Still, if these minor errors continue, the association will inevitably fall. Odd Rock asks if they should just orchestrate more accidents, and the boss affirms it. Their 4th, Yonggol, arrives, dragging a man bound in chains. Fresh bloodstains marred his form as he laughed, saying they should have told him everyone was gathered here. The boss replied he didn't want to disturb Yoongi's hobby. Yoongiel rejected calling it a hobby, stating he simply enjoys his work. Odd Rock eyed the chained man, whose face was also concealed, noting he looked resilient. The boss revealed the captive is a diligent, low-ranked man who tried to smuggle assets behind his team's back. To capture him, the boss posed as a smuggler. The man, Gangok, is a main tanker known for his ferocity, but he betrayed his comrades by smuggling inside the Shadow. The Shadow is a clandestine hideout for adventurers, typically base camps near frequently visited dungeons, offering shelter from monster attacks and equipped with medical and other provisions. Yet, some raiders exploit the sanctuary to commit various crimes. Yoongiel demands Gangok spill the secret, and Gok reveals there's a party tonight at the Shadow, with his team and civilians invited by their commander. Odd Rock wonders if it involves top raiders mingling with smugglers, but Yoongi scoffs that it's boring, urging Gangok to continue. Gangok explains that their commander has connections with wealthy businessmen and celebrities, and they indulge together using potions or plants with relaxing effects. The boss speculates these substances could be addictive, used in the secret hideout under the adventurer's protection. Gangok admits this is how it works, and that other crews operate the same way. Yoongiel pats Gangok's head, assuring him he won't be harmed again. Gangok nervously asks if he means it, but Yoongiel says it's time to set him free. Without hesitation, their boss executes Gangok. The boss declares that no one will leave that place alive, and that those substance-abusing adventurers and civilians will be eliminated under the pretense of a monster attack. Odd Rock and Haron grow ecstatic about the plan to hunt the raiders. While Yoongiel notes their main boss is absent, the boss declares they will slaughter this generation's top raiders, including 2 gold-class adventurers and 6 rankers in the team. The 4 of them then depart their lair, heading for their target, poised to annihilate the raiders and usher in an era of sick games. 1 month later, Jarong is on the phone with Seem, telling her he will be there soon, and his grip strength hasn't fully returned. So, he's been advised to do neurological rehab for 1 or 2 weeks. Seem is relieved they still have time to prepare his equipment. When he arrives, he's stunned by the location, finally seeing why Seem insisted on an expensive cab. He asks if it'll be just the 2 of them for 2 days, and she confirms they only have the weekend before his transfer exam. She starts to say more, but Chaok Kang exits the cab, and Jarong introduces him. Seem is taken aback as he explains he met Chaok Kang at the hospital and brought him along, since he's also her department classmate, and Chaok Kang nervously keeps stealing glances at her. Seem guides Jarong through the athletic center, mentioning it even has a built-in swimming pool among other training facilities. Moving on, she gestures to the elevated lounge, assuring him he can get food and drinks there, joking they prioritize nutrition over flavor. She then presents the weight room, explaining its ad spec, designed specifically for adventurers, a true manhwa level up. Later, in the elevator, she informs him the men's dorm is on the 5th floor, and every room has a private shower. She adds he can also visit the spa on the 4th floor if he desires a proper bath. Jarong cautiously asks if the facility belongs to her uncle. She shrugs, saying it's not that grand, since some high rankers even reshape entire mountains into personal training grounds. She says her uncle uses it with his colleagues, but has let them use it for training. Then she glances at Cheok Kang, who is inspecting the weights, and asks weakly what this is about. Jarong tells her that Cheok Kang is her classmate, so she can speak to him normally. She says she didn't expect his arrival, but she knows Cheok Kang doesn't see her as just a classmate. She claims no one in their department speaks to him. He's an arrogant loner who shuns even the top-ranked students. There's no chance he would ever associate with her. Jarong, smiling, casually calls out to Cheok Kang as he approaches. Cheok Kang says they're here to train. They can scout the area later, a remark that startles Saram. Jarong recalls confirming Saram as Cheok Kang's sponsor, probing to see if their alliance is strained. Cheok Kang confesses he is practically friendless, admitting Saram is both formidable and impressive. Jarong asks if they're even talking about the same person. Cheok Kang says while he's not good at reading people, he senses the hostility towards her. Yet he's never seen her spirit break. She is always brave, always confident. He also admits her academic brilliance is a total mystery to him. It's then that Jarong reveals his idea. A group study session this weekend. Saram immediately counters, suggesting they focus purely on exam prep. Jarong argues the two are intertwined. Even as a field test, it requires sharp analysis and memorization. He adds they must dissect past cases to predict the test's battlefield and methods. Saram notes they have the entire facility secured, so they should exploit every advantage. Jarong then speaks of the power he's gained. He's improved drastically this last month, a true manhwa level up from battling the strongest, and he wants to continue that brutal training with them. Jarong then looses an arrow, stating they're all outcasts anyway, so this makes them allies. He vows that once he infiltrates Yangsahai, he'll share its secrets with his trusted circle. He pointedly reminds Saram how critical her success is, because his acceptance means nothing if she is held back a year. Saram looks down, confessing she has little of value to teach. Jarong instantly interrupts, saying she has magic, but her aim is atrocious. Cheok Kang quietly turns to her, saying it would be a prime opportunity for him to learn as well. 15 minutes later, Jarong finds Saram in the performance room. He tells her Cheok Kang is on the phone with his family. He notes the place has everything they need, including 20 sets of gear in every size, and asks to borrow one. Saram grants him permission. She then softly admits she knew Jarong was being considerate, suggesting the study group for her sake, and thanks him for the chance to be with classmates, especially Cheok Kang. Jarong assures Saram that Cheok Kang isn't the monster everyone claims. He's about to continue when a figure enters the room. It's Anisha, smirking, saying she knew something felt wrong. She claims she could have warned Saram. Then she taunts her, calling her far clumsier than she looks. Saram stares, shocked, and demands to know what she's doing here when her uncle is gone. Anisha just smirks, revealing her uncle authorized their use of the facility for training. Jarong internally connects the dots. They must be cousins. Anisha laughs, mocking Saram for thinking she received special treatment. Saram quietly tells Jarong that Anisha is her cousin, roughly the same age. Anisha waves dismissively at Jarong, feigning relief that Saram found friends. Then she introduces her followers, gesturing to the one behind her, Sang Yong, a junior at Yonghai. She announces she invited everyone for a joint training session, with whoever was worthy enough to come. Suddenly, her expression turns cruel as she claims she's just trying to save Saram from embarrassing herself in front of her betters. Jarong quickly proposes they join forces for training, sharing their own practice regimen. Sang Yong eyes him, asking if Jarong even attends their school, as he looks like an outsider. Jarong explains he's from a regular school, a first year. Anisha is visibly stunned, but Jarong adds that he's preparing to transfer into Yonghai, and Saram is helping him. He humbly admits he has a long way to go. Sang Yong steps forward with a sneer, telling him to run on home before it gets dark. Anisha joins in, calling Saram desperate for allies. She scoffs that a normal kid like Jarong can never catch up, and will only humiliate himself. Without warning, Sang Yong's fist slams into Jarong's face, the impact shocking everyone, himself included. Jarong collapses in pain. Sang Yong never meant to hit him that hard. Assaulting a civilian outside the dungeon is a career-ending crime. His own friends instantly turn on him for the blatant violation, slamming into Jarong. Sang Yong planned to stop short to humiliate him, having even calculated the distance. He is baffled as to why Jarong didn't recoil reflexively, then realizes Jarong stepped forward himself, perfectly predicting his attack. Jarong weakly states he only wanted to train together, but Sang Yong forced his hand. The multiple security cameras installed to blanket every part of the performance room are a tactical advantage for any adventurer. They record the room from all angles so adventurers can analyze their combat forms from the footage. Saram understands this and wonders if Jarong engineered this scene, as he's overreacting now. Jarong continues his pained whimpering, saying what he did is textbook self-defense. She figures it could be their ticket out of this mess since the whole incident was recorded, and it was a clearly unprovoked assault. It might even work as irrefutable legal proof if things escalate. She thinks, as Jarong lowers his hand from his face, claiming he's timid, shy, and gets depressed when things go wrong, which completely ruins his sleep. Sang-yong apologizes for the punch, but adds it wasn't even hard, so he shouldn't be such a crybaby. Jarong stands and asks if Sang-yong is accusing him of being a crybaby. He then tells Saram that Sang-yong is causing this needless trouble and calling him names. Jarong threatens to call the police or the school's dean, which immediately freezes Sang-yong in his tracks. He asks if Sang-yong wants something from him and tells him to let him strike back once so they can call it even. Sang-yong calls him a psycho but agrees, thinking it's better to settle things with just a blunt punch from a regular student. He then sees the chilling aura around Jarong's stance. It's like a real-life manhwa level up, and he knows this will end badly. He recoils instantly, making it seem like he's mocking Jarong. Their classmates think he should have just taken the blow. Jarong stands there with murderous eyes and asks if Sang-yong wasn't serious, telling him his feelings are now deeply wounded. He blinks slowly, deliberately, his gaze locked on Sang-yong's face. The silence in the air becomes heavy and suffocating. Just then, Anisha intervenes, saying this is not the way to settle things, and that seeking revenge is an excessive and completely inappropriate response. She suggests Sang-yong should apologize and compensate for Jarong's injuries. Sang-yong hastily agrees, saying he will handle it because the alternative is a real fight, muttering under his breath about the absurdity of it all, but nods regardless. Jarong gets into position and says he will let Sang-yong choose if this is a spar or a fight. They both then charge toward each other. As Sang-yong readies himself, he throws the first punch, but Jarong ducks under it, striking him hard from below. His eyes openly mock Sang-yong, pressing the Yongsa High student as he tries to land his punches with sharp, precise strikes. Seizing the perfect opening, Jarong strikes Sang-yong's leg, making him fall, which stuns every onlooker. Some classmates think Jarong must have held back, while others look away, not wanting to meet Sang-yong's eyes after such a humiliating fall. Jarong steps forward and asks if he is truly from Yongsa, because this is nothing like he had imagined. He says he only intended to spar and extends his hand to help Sang-yong up, promising the recordings will not be used against him. He then moves towards Saram, saying they should have just stayed out of it, and tells her to get the footage for study. He explains that he deliberately slowed his movements so she could learn them and adjusted the speed frame by frame so she could rewind and replicate them perfectly. Saram, stunned, asks if he orchestrated all of this for her benefit. Jarong asks if her cousin is holding her back since she so clearly despises her. He says he cannot just stand by when he can do something to help. He looks at her with an unreadable emotion in his eyes, as if he wants to say more, but cannot find the words. He assures her that Yongsa will be his high school. Just then, he turns to see Sang-yong barreling toward him at full speed. There is no time to react. Sang-yong is already airborne, arms raised mid-charge. Anisha, having seen enough, uses her magic to stop Sang-yong cold in his tracks. She says she had high expectations for him as a senior, but he is just embarrassing himself. A small warning spark crackles in her palm, though her voice remains calm, sharp as a razor's edge. Saram looks around, thinking that Anisha has not changed one bit. Then, she glances at Jarong, utterly still. Amidst the shouting and wild tension, he doesn't move, his arms hanging limp at his sides. His eyes were distant. A strange tightness seized Saram's chest. 3 weeks prior, Jarong had carefully sliced open the package with his uninjured hand. Pulling out the contents, his mind was a void, then his eyes fixed on the necklace, on the small vial of Ankle's blood. He realized it was useless to him now. He recalled the conditions for its power. When the wearer faces a life-threatening shock, mana is automatically generated and absorbed. He remembered its function, its purpose. He recalled the sensation of it activating in his pocket at that critical moment. Maybe that was how he survived without a scratch, but the power that surged inside him afterward was undeniable. He still wondered if that too was because of Ankle's blood. He knew he had no hidden power, which made the phenomenon inexplicable. Still, he figured an item that costly wouldn't lie about its abilities. Back in the present, Jarong watched the energy crackling in his hand. He knew for sure it was the same feeling as before, but the timing was wrong. It wasn't from Enkiel's blood. Just then, Anisha called to him, asking what Saram was paying him, insisting it wasn't enough. She offered a new client, promising that whatever Saram paid, she would give him 3 times that amount. Saram shot back, calling it ridiculous to haggle over payments. Anisha retorted that she was not being ridiculous, but actually quite reasonable, tightening her grip on Sejong. She admitted he was their school's worst student, yet Jong had managed to overwhelm him barehanded. She wondered why he remained unknown, suggesting perhaps real-world problems were stalling his focus on exams, problems that money could easily solve. She then glanced at Saram, mocking that money was all she had, no talent, no social skills, and no reputation whatsoever. Jarong interjected that Saram's real strength was patience. considering some weirdo was trying to ruin her school life, and he had no idea what her true motives were, as she lacked the guts for a direct confrontation and only schemed from the shadows. He smirked, telling Anisha that she might even know this girl, since she's in the same grade as Saram. This enraged Anisha, who hurled Sang-yong with full force before canceling the meeting. The girl beside Anisha asked what to do about the upperclassmen, wondering if they even deserved the title when they were this pathetic, with Sang-yong as their leader. She admitted it was just a ploy to make connections with the student council, but it turned out to be a total waste of time. She suggested they just forget it. Then she returned to her offer, telling Jarong to think carefully, as she could offer him much more. He stepped forward to answer, but Saram stopped him with a shake of her head. He told her he'd just rattle her nerves with a little sparring. After everyone left, Saram admitted she didn't want Anisha learning more about Jarong, calling her a bad person. She's obsessive and would find a way to sabotage him. She would spread rumors about him to everyone taking the entrance exam this year. But all Jarong could focus on was that the power was gone. He considered how the feeling vanished once Anisha stopped using magic, wondering if the power wasn't from Enkiel's blood, but merely triggered by the influence of mana. Saram asked if he was truly okay. He assured her he was fine, stating he just needed to learn magic. Sejong whimpered in pain as he began to stir from the ground. His eyes opened to find Cholgang staring down at him. He scrambled backward as Cholgang announced, "Sang-yong is awake now." Seong recognized Cholgang and asked what he was doing here. Jarong approached, saying it was good to see him looking all right. He added quietly that he never meant to humiliate him like that. Seong managed a smile, saying he had it coming. He admitted he didn't know who he was up against, and was just glad he wasn't hurt badly. Jarong glanced around, admitting he wasn't sure he would have won, as their speed and power were quite close, but Seong was not good at hiding his expressions, which betrayed his ingrained habits. Sang-yong looked confused as Jarong explained that he had analyzed his techniques during their fight. Recordings, pinpointing every fatal flaw in his form. Saram watched, thinking Sejong must be in shock from such a brutal, detailed breakdown. And feedback. You couldn't buy that kind of unforgiving insight. Then again, it wasn't surprising given how dangerously sharp Jong is. He's truly perceptive. Seong asked how he was so precise when he was just charging on instinct, joking that if he was here to train, he should at least get something from it. He offered Jong the recordings for later study, then complained to Chol Gang how rude it was to leave a senior behind. Chol Gang admitted he must be quite upset. The three met again as Saram began teaching the basic concept of mana. She explained mana is magic's fuel, and the talent grade shows that fuel's quality. She said, a whole pile of newspapers can't match a small piece of coal. That is how total mana is determined. She shared her own mana status is C rank, which is the bare minimum needed to pass as a mage. She said learning self-buffing would be useful, but warned they couldn't learn it in just 3 days. Just then, Sejong stepped forward, offering to help, saying this was his specialty as the best self-buff expert in his grade. Under the blue moonlight, Jong is deep in his training, managing to ignite a low-level skill called Flare, an ability creating a fire burning between 400 and 500 degrees Celsius, using ambient oxygen and the user's magic. He looks amazed by this minimal achievement, and is overjoyed with his success. But his coach beside him quickly yanks him back to reality. Sejong tells him it's no surprise he activated the ability, since it is just an F-rank spell that even the weakest magic wielder can cast. Still, that did not shake Jong's confidence. He realized he at least has some talent for magic, if nothing else, and eagerly asked what to do next. Maybe create a bigger fire, or try a water spell? But his coach knew he was not ready to move on. He told him to focus on maintaining the flare, to concentrate deeply inside himself and figure out how the magic flows within him. Sejong thought to himself how foolish it is to teach someone to feel magic when they've never tapped into it before. But after seeing the flare Jong created, Sejong decided to teach him anyway. Though the spell was minor, it was a sign magic had awakened inside his body. He told Jong to focus on feeling the magic burning inside him, and to keep that flare sustained. Sejong figured it might take Jong a long time to truly sense the magic flowing through him, considering the flare's small size. But Jong surprised them all by quickly feeling the magic like static electricity, starting from his core and spreading through his body in a network of circuits. As he tapped into his magic, he counted them all. A true Manhwa level up of 127 in total. Meanwhile, Saram and Chol Gang were talking about instruments. Saram asked if Chol Gang had ever played any, and shyly, he admitted he hadn't mastered any, but he did play piano until he was 10. Saram thought that was perfect, an example she could use to explain magic better. She then cast a D-rank ability called Thunder Spear, which stuns multiple enemies at once. It's not fatal, but can travel at speeds up to 200 kilometers per hour. Although it's not lethal, its large range makes it perfect for controlling the movement of multiple enemies. Saram told Chol Gang some spells aren't as hard as they look and can be cast without movement or chanting, just like playing the piano. When you play a piece, you must press specific keys in a certain order and with the right timing to get the perfect sound. Magic works the same. You must think of the circuits in your body as piano keys. Each circuit needs to be tapped in the correct order and timing to successfully cast a spell. Doing this ensures the magic doesn't violently backfire on you. Small spells might not cause much damage if messed up, but harder spells can seriously injure the caster if done wrong. For example, the spell Saram just cast is not much. It's only a D rank skill, but if cast incorrectly, it could leave the user paralyzed for half the day. Since it's a lower level spell, it doesn't cause too much trouble. But botch an A rank or B rank spell, and that mistake will put you in a body bag. The price of power is steep, isn't it? Let us know what you think of their chances, and consider subscribing, a method to instruct those just beginning to awaken their power. Chillgang admits he can sense magic, but feeling each circuit individually is still impossible for him. Right now, Seem, the patient coach, tells him to focus on the easiest circuits to feel for now, such as the buffing circuits. As Jarong glances their way, he believes they're working well, as he dusts himself off, preparing to end the training. But his coach orders him to continue until he can completely control all his magical circuits. Displaying his rapid learning, Jarong says he has already mastered it, and that it was merely child's play. This stuns Se-young, who thinks Jong is mocking him, but Ja-young insists he is serious, even identifying the circuits in his left arm, 8 in total, and 10 within his right arm. Se-young cannot believe it and calls him a liar, but Jarong simply tells him it is fine and asks to be taught the next phase. Then, confusing Se-young, Jong calls him bro, explaining that since he's not an official student, he cannot use his name, and Hei feels rude, so bro is better. While this occurs, the story explains that all humanoid species share the same circuit count, with few exceptions, which is why circuits are numbered 1 to 127. Meanwhile, Se-young prepares to show Jar-young something new as he raises his fist, telling him, "This is my fist when empty," then begins to power up. The circuits in his body ignite, surging from 0 to 62 as he activates his E-rank spell, muscle stimulation, boosting his reflexes and stamina. He throws a punch that halts just before Jong's face, and even Jong admits that if it had hit, he would have lost much more than his nose. Se-young continues, explaining that if Jarong learns to stack buffs and understand their synergies, he could attain incredible power, even lacking natural talent. People with talent need only 1 or 2 spells, so they don't explore buffs, but since Se-young is not one of them, he found his own brutal Manhwa level-up path, a different way to match them and earn their approval. He recalls the steps he took to impress others, including bullying Jong in the past, and now, he regrets those actions and apologizes. As he says sorry, he feels a hand on his shoulder, and next he sees Jong, with an intense gaze, demanding Se-young teach him everything he knows for the coming 58 hours. After 4 days of relentless training, the team finally exits the building. As they inhale the fresh air, Jarong reminds them how good it is for their health after working out. Seem, looking exhausted and clearly sleep-deprived, jokes that Jong sounds like a walking fossil, giving the same old advice. Then, acting a bit goofy, she asks the 2 men why they are not tired yet, despite being awake and training for a whole week straight. Cha-gang and Jarong both face her, looking refreshed and full of energy, as if they just woke up and could continue for days. They claim it is because they are still young and have plenty of energy. As they begin preparing to depart, Cha-gong mentions that he has not had that tasty rice soup in a long time. After some brief talk and wishing each other luck with their training, Jong tells Seem to train hard or he will mock her if she fails. Then he tells Chillgang to get along well with Seem and treat her properly from now on, before waving goodbye. Seem thanks Se-young for teaching her so much, and he smiles, saying he also learned a lot from her. Jarong and Se-young then hail a taxi and depart, leaving Chillgang and Seem behind in a tense silence. Jarong and his coach manage to avoid all the traffic, arriving at their destination much faster than expected. As they get settled, Jong tells Se-young, this week has been one of the very best he has had since he was 5 years old. He says he learned a lot, not just about buffs, but also a special technique. Se-young, sounding a bit anxious, replies that it is not a special move, but rather an untested idea, so it might not work at all. Jong seems slightly doubtful, but remains hopeful that if he can master this skill, it could prove invaluable in a real battle, perhaps even in a revenge match. Se-young, confused by the phrase, asks what a revenge match is. Jar-young says it is a long story, but he promises to tell him the results if he is successful. Then Jong suggests getting a quick meal before. They part ways, but Sang-young refuses, saying he won't hang out until Jarong transfers to a better school, feeling it's beneath him to spend time with people from regular schools. It might appear that Sang-young is being arrogant, but Jong understands the harsh encouragement behind his words. He offers his thanks, and with that, they part ways. The morning sun shines bright as Jarong finally returns home, thinking about getting some sleep and skipping school. But his shock grows upon hearing he doesn't have to go to school, and there's no time for sleeping either. He looks ahead and sees the manager standing right in his house. Jarong insists he has to attend school today, but the manager tells him there is no need, as he already called the school and secured him a 1-month leave. Confused, Jong asks why he is skipping school. The manager reminds him that he's preparing for the transfer exam to Warrior High School. He adds that attendance gives no points anyway, so Jarong should just pack his bag and get ready. The manager also mentions sensing that Jarong has unlocked magic. Even if it is just a basic level, his circuits are definitely active. Jarong says he has been preparing because he knows what he's up against, but the manager states that while preparing is good, it won't be of much use. Jarong feels dejected, as if all his effort was wasted. But the manager quickly reassures him that his efforts will not go to waste. He explains, this is not a private lesson, but a trial. A test of Jarong's resolve to live as an adventurer, one that will push him to his absolute limits. The manager says he is not sure what will happen on the test, but he is sure of one thing. Jarong will soon realize he is not as talented as he once thought. After this conversation and learning their destination, they both pack their things and prepare to leave. Before they depart, the manager attempts to open a case. Curious, Jarong asks what is inside, and the manager tells him it is none other than his new weapon. When the case opens, they find a long metallic staff inside. Jarong grabs it, holding it in one hand, along with a notebook that appears to be a manual on how to use the weapon. Without wasting more time, the manager tells Jarong it is time to head out and that they will figure out the weapon's mechanics once they arrive, checking if it changes his stats. Suddenly, Jarong finds himself facing a powerful 4-star monster called the carnivorous ent. It resembles a gnarled old tree possessed by some malevolent spirit. Muttering to himself, Jarong recalls being told to stay away from rank 3 monsters and avoid rank 4 monsters at all costs. But the manager interrupts, saying that rule applied when he planned to be a smuggler. But things are different now. His new objective is to become an adventurer. The manager adds that if Jarong ever feels too terrified to move or thinks he is about to die, he will step in to assist. He thinks to himself that he has not seen Jarong's skills since last year, and this monster is extremely dangerous in close combat. So, if Jarong has not improved, he will surely meet his end. Just then, the battle begins. The monster launches its first assault, and even with full concentration, Jarong barely dodges it, getting a scrape on the cheek. This is only the second time Jarong is facing a rank 4 monster. While it is true that monsters of the same rank can differ in strength, the rule remains the same for him. One mistake could mean his demise. As the fight continues, and Jarong prepares to end the battle quickly, he keeps in mind that the main difference between a rank 3 and a rank 4 monster is intelligence. Some monsters are as dumb as rocks, but others have human-level cunning and can play mind games with their prey. The monster suddenly forms a shield with its branches and prepares to attack. Jarong leaps forward, staff in hand, ready to strike. The manager worries that Jarong might not finish it and raises his hand to help, but to everyone's amazement, the weapon shows its true power. A thunderous beam shoots out and strikes the monster, leaving both Jarong and the manager shocked. After landing a fatal blow on the monster, Jarong looks down at his staff and notices that the blade, which had materialized during the attack, has now vanished. The manager examines the weapon with great curiosity, trying to understand how it works, and asks Jarong how he feels after using it. Jarong, panting and showing signs of exhaustion, he admits to feeling a bit breathless, but it's adrenaline, not exhaustion. The manager lights a cigarette, contemplating the weapon. Its ability before speaking. The weapon's power is a forgotten art, an ancient technique from an era when rare materials were scarce. But manifesting this blade has a price. The user's stamina drains rapidly while the ability is active, and the drain continues as long as the blade is formed. The manager tells Jarong he's fortunate to possess that weapon. Otherwise, he'd have learned a harsh lesson by now. Jarong confesses he was weaker, that he essentially lost the fight, even though he managed to kill it. It wasn't his strength, but the weapon's power that secured the victory. The manager, perched in a tree like a monkey, looks down at Jarong, admitting he never expected a win. He tells Jarong not to misunderstand. He's skilled, even on par with gold-class adventurers. Yet, the manager knows a dozen more gifted, who still fell to low-ranking beasts. Just as the manager finishes his sentence, Jarong feels a powerful presence and dodges, narrowly evading an attack. Whirling around, he expects to see another rank 4 monster, but it's the same one he'd just sliced in half. Now, it stands tall, its eyes glowing red as the monster lashes out with a whip-like limb. Jarong reacts instantly, swinging his weapon, but the blade shifts, becoming a hammer. With it, he shatters the monster's whipping arm to pieces. Watching intently, the manager deciphers the weapon's secret. Its form shifts based on the user's stance and swings. Seeing the beast instantly regenerate its limb, the manager notes that a powerful weapon is useless if the user lacks a strategy to actually defeat the opponent. After a grueling battle that felt endless, Jarong stands on the field, bathed in an aura, yet bleeding from multiple wounds, and gasping for air. Meanwhile, the monster stands motionless with a malevolent look, the hole in its chest sealing as if untouched. The monster extends a hand with sharp, claw-like branches at Jarong, but a barrier from the manager protects him. The manager intervenes, lighting his cigarette with his flare ability. He asks if Jarong planned to block that, adding that in his state, even dodging is a challenge, let alone facing it head-on. Jarong drops to one knee, panting, gripping his weapon. He explains he tried to destroy the monster's weak spots, hoping to find a flaw and end it, but he failed. The manager suggests that retreat might be the best option. This infuriates Jarong, and he yells at the manager not to joke. He's desperate and needs real advice. The manager then repeats, "Run, and lure the monster to a place where it cannot regenerate. Now that," he says, "is a winning plan." He begins explaining the strategy to beat the carnivorous ENT, starting with the run and lure tactic. The ENT must be drawn somewhere it can't absorb nutrients from its surroundings. As a tree, the soil offers the best nutrients for regeneration, making it nearly invincible here. The manager adds that if Jarong had managed to lure the beast to rocky ground or a collapsed mine, he could have won 5 times over. He explains that only thinking about fighting the monster head-on is one-dimensional. To win, he needs a broader perspective, a true Manhwa level up in tactics. As the manager lectures, Jarong interrupts. The monster has shattered his protective magic. The manager glances back, thinking Jarong clearly lacks talent for protection spells, then raises a finger, incinerating the monster with his C-rank flame magic. He then explains a second strategy. Use any C-rank or higher flame magic to burn the monster to cinders. He adds that for a flame magic specialist, this fight would be laughably easy, like taking candy from a baby. But since he's not, Jarong's best plan is to run and lure it. He continues explaining that the monster is difficult to take down with even the most basic of spells. And for those unable to use magic, you would need a military-issue incendiary device just to replicate a C-rank flame ability. He continues, explaining that the first generation of adventurers lacked polished skills, but it's through their sacrifices that we now have the data for our own *** Manhwa, level up, ***. We now possess strategies to confront these monsters. Countless adventurers perished, even the most gifted among them. These monsters are deceptively simple to slay, with proper planning, but the first generation lacked that foresight, and because of it, they died before ever realizing their true potential. He then asks Jarong how his first defeat by a monster feels, and Jarong can only admit that he feels like, the manager tells him that falling to a monster is a far crueler lesson than any duel. You learn very little from it. All you feel is loss and regret. That is the price of being an adventurer. If you are lucky, you return home with a minor injury. If not so lucky, you retire with crippling damage. And in the absolute worst-case scenario, someone else pays the ultimate price with their life. The manager looks down, haunted by a painful memory, and continues, saying that surviving because someone else died for you just leaves you with an unbearable weight. Not every price paid teaches a lesson. If the only thing you lose is your dignity, that might just be the most merciful outcome. After that, they press deeper into the dungeon, discovering a stunning vista, with rivers and trees all around. The manager points out that no matter how beautiful this place appears, even 3-star monsters are considered the lowest on the food chain here. He informs Jarong that he will be training him here for 2 weeks, instructing him by day and guarding him by night. But once those 2 weeks are over, Jarong will be completely on his own. If he can apply everything he has learned, he will pass the test. A month flashes by, and it is now November, the day of the Warrior High practical exam. Saram emerges from a car, holding her phone, trying to contact Jarong, but she cannot get through. A few moments later, a figure in ragged pants approaches and asks if she has been waiting for him. The voice continues, apologizing for the unanswered calls, and explaining that he was in an area without service for the entire month. As the figure steps into the light, it is revealed to be none other than Jarong, now sporting a completely different look. He touches his hair, admitting he tried to cut it himself, while Saram stares at him, completely stunned. As Jarong moves toward the car to prepare, Saram walks up behind him, asking him to wait, but the moment she nears, she is struck by a suffocating wave of intense bloodlust coming from him. Instinctively, she leaps back and prepares to strike. Jarong quickly apologizes, explaining it has become a reflex to react to anything approaching him from behind. After that, he goes to the car and retrieves the clothes he was supposed to collect earlier, but had completely forgotten. He says he spent the whole month testing out his new weapon, and now he is just as eager to wear the new gear. Saram is not exactly alarmed. It is not her first time sensing bloodlust, but what truly unnerves her is that the bloodlust she felt from Jarong was identical to the kind she has felt from monsters. As Jarong changes clothes inside the car, Saram asks how they fit. He replies that they fit quite well. She tells him that if he had arrived a bit earlier, they could have fine-tuned the smaller details and made crucial adjustments, because when it comes to high-grade equipment, that is what truly makes the difference. Jarong says he is truly excited about going to Warrior High, since he has been hearing about it non-stop since last September, but never actually had the chance to visit. As the two of them continue their journey toward Warrior High, a piece of its bloody history starts to unfold. In the north, between Yongsan-gu and Jeonggu, in a small area where a mountain and park once stood, a dungeon known as Mount Drag appeared, classified as a danger level, a threat. It quickly became the highest elevation region on the entire Korean peninsula. What made it even more notable was that despite being close to Seoul's largest dungeon, the Igar Jungle, Mount Drag was confirmed to be a completely separate dungeon. Taking all of that into account, about 30 years ago, the government and the Adventurers Association joined forces to fully subjugate the dungeon. Participation from adventurers was voluntary, but no one backed down, and it took 1 entire year. of preparation for the massive raid. The mission consumed a fortune in resources and funding, but ultimately, Mount Drawig was conquered, its domain officially absorbed by South Korea. However, a strange dilemma arose right after. Mount Drawig was not just one peak, it concealed vast, untamed plains hidden deep within the region. How could such land be best utilized? An unknown adventurer proposed the idea of establishing a school there for adventurers, and just so, what could have become a huge territorial dispute was resolved by one person's suggestion. There was always a desperate need to found a proper school where future adventurers could be forged. But finding the right location had always been the problem, which continuously delayed the plans. Since Drawig was deemed ownerless territory, its ownership was given to the adventurers who had risked their lives to claim it. And while it's not a widely known tale, if it weren't for the one adventurer who donated his share of the land, Warrior High might never have come to exist. Anyway, back in the vehicle, Jarong chats with Saram, telling her he doesn't expect to accomplish anything significant there. He merely wants to visit the place. He jokes that if they sold memorabilia, they would make a fortune. While rambling on, he suddenly realizes they are actually departing Seoul, even though Warrior High should be in Gangbuk. He asks Saram about the detour, and she sighed softly, before revealing a lot had transpired during the month he was away. Then she asks Jarong if he has heard of Jay. He confirms that he has. It is a popular attack squad and a few of his friends are huge fans. Saram tells him that the entire squad was annihilated. Their public hideouts' defenses were breached, and high-level monsters poured in and slaughtered them. It seemed like a horrific tragedy at first, but a large quantity of narcotics was found at the scene with the bodies of celebrities instead of adventurers, which is now fueling the controversy. Saram explains that because of this scandal, the Adventurers Association was forced to disclose all the secret plans and projects they were developing. As a result, the testing area was changed to the Pango Labyrinth. It's the second fully cleared A-rank dungeon after Mount Drawig, and was formerly the lair of the infamous dragon Vasuka. Meanwhile, in a different location, known as the Jinsang Group Research Facility's underground smithy, Zeke is seen speaking to a Cyclops demon. Zeke casually inquires how the demon managed to finish all that alcohol in just a single night. The Cyclops grumbles that he hadn't tasted real spirits in a long time, and says there wasn't even that much to begin with, so of course, it was gone. He complains that whether it's elves or humans, they are all terrible at making things, and their liquor is worse. After venting, he finally gets to the matter, and asks Zeke why he is down there, and if he has any news about that kid. Zeke replies that he is actually here to speak about Vasuka's labyrinth, and mentions the time the Cyclops was asked to assist the Adventurers Association 20 years ago. The Cyclops, clearly still somewhat intoxicated, says he recalls that time vividly. The adventurers wanted to construct an advanced training zone to help sort and select promising new talents, but the Cyclops believed the entire notion was a terrible idea, a waste of time, and ordered them out of his sight. When Zeke asked why, the Cyclops explained that dragons have a tendency to fixate on things, and once obsessed, they exhibit extreme avarice and attachment. Vasuka was known as a colossal labyrinth fanatic. Even though he was one of the most powerful dragons, he made his nest as complex and bewildering as possible, using techniques from titans, dwarves, elves, and humans to layer complications. The Cyclops added that it is impossible for humans to truly exploit a creation built on pure obsession. When Zeke mentioned the humans' plan to hire a master dwarf from overseas to clear the hazardous sections, the Cyclops, while downing another barrel of liquor, said Vasuka had abducted thousands of dwarf masters over the years. He is certain humans did not capture Vasuka within his nest. They must have lured him out first and then defeated him. If Vasuka had remained inside, humans would have never stood a chance. Even after 20 years of clearing it, that is barely scratching the surface. Once adventurers truly start plumbing that nest's depths, there's no telling what might be waiting. The Cyclops' prediction is coming, and if this descent into madness intrigues you, consider subscribing and share your theories down below. Humanity has already made a foolish decision sending adventurers into that nest, but if one is lucky, they might just seize control of the entire dungeon. Meanwhile, Jarong and Saram finally reach the testing site. A speaker announces that students for the Warrior High practical exam should proceed to Area Bone to receive their test papers and contracts. Suddenly, a new announcement reveals a labyrinth that changes shape with various difficulties and themes. Saram mentions this is the first time the labyrinth is a testing site, but Jarong cuts her off, noting there are far more people than he anticipated. He also realizes Anisha, Saram's cousin, spread rumors about him, as almost everyone there is staring directly at him. Saram seems confused, saying she cannot tell if anyone is staring. Jarong explains it's not their gazes, but the feeling of being targeted, like a sudden draft on a hot day. That month of survival was a true Manhwa level up, teaching him many things, including how to avoid any situation where he is the target. Still, he feels compelled to introduce himself and wish them all good luck. His entire body glows with a blue aura as his bloodlust spikes to a new peak. Meanwhile, at the Pango Training Center in Conference Room 1, a meeting is underway between top elites, including Choi Song-ho, the current Adventurer Association president, Godo, the current Warrior High principal, and Seo Yura, the chairwoman of Warrior High's board. President Choi thanks everyone for their participation and support in making these changes possible. But Principal Goto says he never supported these rushed ideas, and that if Choi wants to show gratitude, he should direct it to the person across from him, So Yura. She responds calmly, knowing the principal means no harm, but it would be better if he avoided comments that could cause misunderstandings. She adds, the decision to change the test site came after lengthy discussion within the board. Goto replies that even pointless matters can feel stretched out, and says that in a small country like this, he doubts there's real value in holding first place through showmanship and politics. The room grows tense, as one man sits silently with his eyes closed, while another leans over, whispering and asking if it's really okay for the principal to speak that way. Then, with a loud thud on the table, Cho Young-gul speaks up, saying he was trying to be understanding, but it seems Goto is going too far. As he shouts that the test isn't even a proper one and is just a pointless transfer test to pick a few idiots, Goto cuts in, calling out Cho Young-gul. He tells him that unless he has dementia or has forgotten the last 30 years of his experience, he should just shut his mouth. Not a single student who showed up for this entrance exam deserves to be spoken down to like that. Then So Yura steps between them, saying she understands it's tough to get everyone's support and that Goto might feel some regret about the outcome, but if he'd rather argue than take the chance to share what he really thinks, she is more than willing to oblige. Their clash shows the principal and director clearly have a long-standing issue with each other. As tension fills the room and everyone braces for what's next, something unexpected happens. An intense wave of bloodlust suddenly erupts from one of the students, snapping everyone's focus from the argument and stopping things from escalating. Seo Yura backs off and says she gets it. He's frustrated and wants to complain, but in the end, she admits she is the one who should be taking the heat. She continues, stating there's no reason for Warrior High's models to fight among themselves. With that, the meeting wraps up, and Goto walks off with his colleague, casually bringing up the situation. He tells him that among all Korean adventurers, everyone knows the association president is basically So Yura's lapdog. He then asks if his colleague thinks he was too aggressive during the meeting. The man starts to reply, saying that his words were definitely a bit too harsh. But before he can finish, Goto jumps in and thanks him for agreeing, then continues ranting about it. Seora's insidious schemes. He reveals that with fresh graduates, she preaches that talent deserves reward, then she poaches the very best students for her personal attack squad. Despite being just Warrior High kids, she drowns them in money and all kinds of special treatment. Those students get lost in the luxury, a lavish life built on connections, not merit. Over time, the same adventurers, once burning with passion, become hollow adults who only chase their own selfish gain. He also points out that this entire test is a sham, as only a select few know the secrets to clear this dungeon, and they just happen to be the parents or relatives of certain students here today. Goku challenges Patchface again, asking if he still finds him too aggressive, then continues, revealing Seo is no longer just targeting graduates, she's trying to seize his school, a sick game for her own twisted manhwa level up. Patchface's fist tightens as he vows he won't let it happen. The test is already perilous, but using an unknown location just makes everything even riskier. Goku counters that she is indifferent, and while prayer isn't his style, he will act fast if things go wrong. He then recalls that moment of intense bloodlust, admitting he was silent then, but he knows everyone there felt it, even the students in the test. Patchface dismisses it as immature, unrefined, and foolish for the situation. But Goku only half concurs. He insists that feeling wasn't immature or unrefined. That kid was deliberately making it rough. He then shifts the topic to Patchface's reputation, noting his strictness with talented students. He warns him not to let personal feelings interfere, but he hopes that the student will pass. As principal, his hands are tied for direct instruction, but he admits a strong desire to teach that kid himself. Meanwhile, the trial is set to begin as candidates gather in the briefing area, awaiting the rules and conditions they must follow to clear the test. The objective is simple. Treasure chests are hidden throughout the dungeon, and students will be deployed one by one to random locations. Each must find a chest and carry it safely to the exit. The challenge is designed to be manageable, but the risk of minor injuries like broken bones, bruises, or cuts is constant, and unforeseen situations can lead to far worse outcomes. The redhead explains that, to pass, each adventurer must secure one chest, assuring them there are more than enough chests for every participant. With that, the briefing ends, as she tells candidates they will enter the dungeon based on their test admission numbers, then summons Group A to the locker room. Jarong moves through the crowd and spots a small argument unfolding in the distance between three people, two thugs and one frail-looking guy with a broken leg. As their paths cross, the guy with the broken leg accidentally bumps one of the thugs and drops his book. The thug, already on edge from the test, snaps at him to watch where he's going. But the injured guy calmly states it was the reverse, questioning why he should be the one apologizing. With his broken leg, he couldn't possibly move fast enough to intentionally bump someone, let alone overtake them. He understands that bumping into people happens in a crowd, but asks them not to get angry over such a thing. The thug, annoyed at this frail-looking guy talking back, glares and asks why he's running his mouth, acting bold enough to challenge them both. But before things could escalate, Jarong steps in from behind the frail guy, holding the book in one hand. He calmly tells the thugs to step aside and clear the path. One snaps back, demanding to know who he is and telling him to get lost, asking what he'll do if they refuse to move. Joryong replies that, while they are still technically minors and bound by certain limits, the law still exists. Since they are all in the middle of an important exam, he wouldn't do anything permanent, but he could inflict some serious discomfort. And if they met on the testing grounds, he might just accidentally go too far. That unsettling threat sends a chill down the bully's spine, as he and his friend quickly retreat without another word. Jarong returns the book to the injured man, they exchange a few words, and then part ways. The trial is about to begin. As Jarong waits in the staging area, surrounded by dozens of transport capsules for each participant, he steps into capsule A-079 and glances at his wrist, watching the countdown approach 0. The moment it hits, a crushing pressure envelops him entirely. This is the Pango Labyrinth, formerly known as Vasuka's Abyss. It was proposed as a training ground, but even its creators could never have imagined the true horrors lurking in its depths. Yet, who could have known the labyrinth had a will of its own, turning on the very humans who sought to exploit it? Jarong stands bewildered, unsure if the trial has begun or if something is terribly wrong. At that same moment, alarms blare as the tracking system loses all signals from the participants inside. An announcer urgently orders an immediate evacuation of the facility, but every exit is already sealed shut. The labyrinth, having waited patiently, now welcomes its prey, gathered perfectly for the feast. But while many will be devoured, some are born to challenge the labyrinth's natural enemies hidden among the crowd, a fact that the labyrinth itself could never know.